The name Rocksteady used to mean something. The once revered British game studio now exists as a sort of strange undead husk. Not exactly dead, yet any soul or spark of life they still had left a long time ago. And after releasing their final entry in the legendary Arkham series in 2015, the studio then went dark for almost a decade, before returning in early 2024 with the long-anticipated Self-Delete Squad, Unalive the Super Friends, a bog-standard live service slop play-forever third-person shooter with a vomit-inducing UI, and a terrible unfinished story that debases beloved DC heroes and seemingly actively hates its own prodigal son, Batman, where an at the time sick Kevin Conroy lends his legendary vocals to a character that gets unceremoniously brutalized and killed. And yes, it is all canon apparently. But luckily for me, and the entire human race as a whole, Suicide Squad isn't Rocksteady's only game, and we still have the fantastic Arkham Saga to go back and play, which I thought would be cool and fun to do. And as for Suicide Squad, whenever I'm reminded it exists, I simply choose to ignore it. I haven't played it, and probably never will, unless they make it free to play and add much more content to it a la Destiny 2. But that seems unlikely. Suicide Squad was an ill-advised, bloated, corporate-driven cash grab that gets its teeth kicked in by games like Fallout 76. And as far as I'm concerned, Arkham Knight is still the ending of the Arkham Batman story, and I will simply choose to believe that, while ignoring everything afterwards. Being ignorant just makes life so much better. But that aside, Batman Arkham really needs no grand introduction, and is probably the greatest superhero series ever created. And today, I'd like to go over the 4 mainline Arkham games, those being Arkham Asylum, City, Origins, and Knight, in my usual Owen Kung format, and also rank them to figure out which game is the true man-god of the series. All of which is just my opinion, of course. I'll go in order of release, as despite Origins being a prequel to all the other games, it builds off of Arkham City's framework, and will be best examined after I take a look at that game. So, without further waffling, let's dive bomb right into the one that started it all, Arkham Asylum, which you can't even dive bomb in. Releasing in 2009, Arkham Asylum took the gaming world at the time by absolute storm, with 9s and 10s across the board and several Game of the Year nods and wins for the at the time relatively unknown Rocksteady Studios, with critics praising almost every aspect of the game, from its presentation to its combat, controls, its tone, its level design, and how it makes you really feel like Batman. But I want to get real close and personal with this game, and really see what makes it work, and it all starts with a low-resolution cutscene. We see the Batmobile speeding past the ominous gates of Arkham Asylum. Batman has the Joker riding shotgun after recently capturing him, and as we enter the asylum grounds, we see dead, twisted trees and the Gothic-styled asylum in the foreground, and in the background is a green-tinted Gotham City with an absolutely enormous moon hanging in the sky, setting a pretty incredible tone that instantly puts you on edge and immerses you in the game's world. We haul the Jonkler in and we meet the Warden, Quincy Sharp, who is voiced by Tom Kane, who you'll recognize if you watched any cartoon from the 2000s and onward. Clone Wars, Takiao from COD Zombies, the Powerpuff Girls. You've definitely heard this voice before. And this game is loaded with voice actor royalty, as the Joker is voiced by Mark Hamill and Batman is voiced by Kevin Conroy, reprising their roles from the Batman animated series. And it's fantastic. Mark Hamill's Joker in my mind is the definitive version of the character, and his performance is great throughout the entire series, not just in this game. And he hits that perfect balance between silly and sadistic, and you can just tell he's having a blast.
Not so tight, boys. You'll crease the suit.
Get that filthy degenerate out of here.
Kevin Conroy's voice is perfect too, being that familiar, silky steel voice that perfectly captures Batman's demeanor. And for 2009, the character models look awesome and very detailed. Everything from the wrinkles on the Joker's elongated face. Seriously, his jawline is fucking nuts. What's his mewing routine? To the wrinkles on Batman's cowl and his flowing physics cape that one man famously worked on for 2 whole years to make it flow just right. And it all looks fantastic. My only gripe with the graphics is that some of the NPCs have some wonky facial structures. I didn't know JonTron got a job at Arkham Asylum. But besides that, the Asylum still looks top tier, even 15 years later. So we strap Joker down to a prisoner stretcher, but Batman thinks something fishy is going on. He thinks the Joker let himself get caught too easily, and Joker himself seems to be in an oddly great mood, cracking cheeky jokes and trying to yuck it up with the guards. So Batman decides to follow the guards and Joker to make sure nothing goes awry. We continue on until we reach the elevator, and out of it steps Killer Croc, threatening to crush Batman's bones and to drink his blood before getting shock-collared away. And this being some fantastic foreshadowing, as the whole time Croc was talking about twisting my head off and drinking my blood, I was thinking to myself, damn, I'm really gonna have to fight this guy later on, huh? It's such a great little moment. In the elevator, Joker tells us that a fire at Blackgate Prison had forced them to move all their inmates to Arkham Asylum, making the place dangerously overcrowded. The lights then go out unexpectedly, but we choke Joker out to ease the tension. We've only been here for like 5 minutes, and the tension is already through the damn roof. Once outside the elevator, we link up with Commissioner Gordon and hand off Joker to some asylum staff, who then quickly overpowers these 2 burly, full-grown men despite his lanklet DYEL frame, and he gets his #1 goon Harley Quinn to take control of the asylum security systems, and locks us in a room with some thugs, introducing us to the game's combat system. Batman Arkham's combat is one of the series' most defining and lauded features, despite how incredibly simple it is. Most combat boils down to just pressing X or square to throw punches and kicks, and Y or triangle to counter when enemies have blue lightning over their heads, indicating an immediate attack. Once you've thrown only 2 or 3 punches, it's on. You've officially started a combo. And Arkham's combat system is designed around racking up as long of a combo as possible, which will break if you get hit or don't do anything for a few seconds. And the combo system here is pretty ingenious, as it rewards the player for fighting like how the real Batman would, and gives advanced players a high skill ceiling to challenge themselves to get the longest combo possible, while using all your gadgets and special moves for a wide variety of takedowns to really sauce on these thugs. All the while being incredibly simple for a new player to pick up and immediately start whooping thug ass with. Batman is absolutely flowing in these fights. You can control your fight momentum and direction by using the left stick to target whichever thug you want to give a delicious knuckle sandwich to. And your target range is longer than you think, and Batman can do crazy fast flips, dives, and dashes to attack faraway enemies, and he'll be moving around like a damn Dragon Ball character. However, the targeting isn't perfect, and there'll be a few times where you'll lose your combo, and your input will get eaten as Batman hits the whoa instead of attacking the enemy you were trying to aim at, which, while definitely annoying, only just momentarily breaks the combat flow in your combo, and you can just simply get another combo going in a few seconds by wailing on the closest thug. And after a few strikes, or a strike from a combo that's like over 4, the thugs will get stunned and knocked on their asses for a bit, and you can only hit them in that state with a left trigger plus Y ground takedown, where Batman delivers a brutal skull punch to knock the thugs out, or mounts them to deliver a massive punch right in the penis, leaving them completely unable to move from this impromptu neutering. It's a simple move, but it's just so damn fun and satisfying to give these inmates CTE by punching their heads into solid ground. Getting a combo up to 8x allows you to perform special moves and takedowns that instantly defeat enemies, as Batman will give these extremely jacked thugs a compound fracture in their arms or legs to keep them down for good. And this can be upgraded to only require a 5x combo, making you even more efficient at bone snapping. And you can also double tap A to do a large diving dodge. And coming off Elden Ring, this dodge felt like it was in literal slow motion, which led to a few awkward hits because I dodged way too early or way too late, and I had to take a second just to adjust to its timings. And even though it doesn't do any damage, it's still a great move while in combat, as it maintains your combo without having to hit or block, and it lets you vault over enemies to reposition yourself and to give you a moment of respite in a chaotic fight. And you can also use B to fling your cape at an enemy's face, but you only really need the stun for easily dispatching knife enemies, as this game doesn't have a blade counter mechanic yet, and they can't be hit unless stunned first. The rest of the enemies can just be beat down stun free. You can also use your gadgets in combat as well, like the Batclaw, the Batarang, and the Explosive Gel, giving you even more options to whoop these nearly identical thug hordes with. But they're not required for combat success, and you can easily just use the normal attacks and combos to succeed. But it's still a good option to have if you really want to sauce on these prisoners, and really feel like the man himself chucking your bat toys at prisoners' heads, and blowing 3 of their 5 toes off with the Explosive Gel. The combat system is incredibly addictive, and feels fantastic to engage in. Each meaty whack from your punches and that low crunching sound when knocking out an enemy are just so mechanically satisfying to both see and hear. And not to sound like a meme, but this game really excels at making you feel like Batman in a brawl, effortlessly flowing around the room delivering bat elbows and bat kicks to clown makeup wearing goons, and breaking their arms and legs with combo takedowns is really great. Almost too great though, because the combat is simply too easy for any gamer with any real experience in third-person action games. Even hard difficulty is really no sweat. But there is an even harder mode with no attack indicators if you want an extra challenge, so even then you're covered. But you do have to beat the game first to unlock that mode. But with that, that's most of what there is to say about the combat in Asylum for now. It's pretty simple, and most combat encounters outside of a select few won't do much besides just slow you down. But its immaculate, free and flowing tempo, intuitive design, and surprisingly high skill ceiling with combos and gadgets makes up for this very low difficulty. It's just solid. Rock steady, if you will. And you want to know the best part? This is the most bare-bones version of Arkham combat, as the following games even add more things to the combat to look forward to, making it more varied, dangerous, and strategic, which I'll cover when we look more at those games. But for now, let's get back to Joker chasing. We follow the Joker's trail until we reach a room with the shirtless serial killer Zsasz holding a guard hostage in an electric chair, and we have to sneak up behind him and perform a stealth takedown on him. And this section serves to teach the player about the absolute basics of stealth and how to maneuver throughout the room undetected. Enemies have a line of sight that you have to avoid, and luckily for us, this room is full of interior gargoyles sticking out of the walls that we can grapple up to and move across without being detected, these gargoyles serving as vantage points for Batman. And we can get right behind Zsasz with them, as enemies are deaf to Batman's grapnel hook, takedown sounds, and footsteps, which is great for gameplay purposes. But I always found it a little funny that the enemies are never able to hear Batman's grapnel hook going off, or even detect Batman flying up to a vantage point right in their peripheral vision. But having hyper-aware enemies would make stealth sections extremely annoying, so a few things had to give. Anyway, we take down that certified freak Zsasz with a stealth takedown, and then we get a call from Harley Quinn. And goddamn, these Rocksteady devs were rocksteady making these character designs. Outfitted in her evil stripper clown nurse costume, Harley reveals that she has taken Warden Sharp hostage, and that Joker has full control of the asylum. We then get a call from Oracle, aka Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl, which establishes this Batman as the same one from the Killing Joke continuity, where Joker gave Barbara the worst type of backshot. We then do what Batman is truly best at in the Arkham series, tearing off vent grates and crawling through the vents of the asylum like imposter. And you do this quite a bit, and many innocent vent covers will be murdered and torn asunder in order to stop the Joker. A necessary sacrifice. While venting, we will also run into our first Riddler trophy, collectibles hidden all over the game that make up most of Asylum's side content, which I'll discuss now. The Riddler has been grinding hard before Batman's arrival, placing 240 riddles and secrets all over Arkham Island for Batman to solve, which are Riddler trophies, interview tapes, environmental scan puzzles, and Arkham Chronicles. The trophies and interview tapes are straightforward. You just spot them, figure out how to access them, and then pick them up. Simple as. And some trophies can only be collected once you have obtained gadgets from later in the story, encouraging backtracking through the levels to investigate and find all the goodies you couldn't grab the first time around, giving the game an almost Metroidvania-light styled experience as you backtrack through the Asylum's buildings to get all the Riddler's shitty statues. Also, the Riddler, completely unable to help himself, has generously left collectible maps that mark the general area of each riddle on your own map, making the riddle hunting process generously streamlined. Collecting trophies unlocks game extras, like challenge maps, character models, concept art, and so on. And the interview tapes provide some pretty great sub-stories for the villains of this game, usually involving the villains tormenting the poor doctors trying to interview them. And technically, it's just extra fluff. But these tapes help to really bolster the unsettling and dark themes of the games and its villains, and provide some nice bite-sized character moments that work well to make them feel actually dangerous and intimidating. And there are also the Arkham Chronicles, strange hidden slabs marked with a scarab beetle insignia that you can scan to reveal the story of Amadeus Arkham, the founder of the titular asylum, as he recounts his story of creating the asylum in an attempt to help Gotham by detaining and trying to treat the seemingly endless stream of insane criminals Gotham City spews out. However, Amadeus' wife and daughter were murdered. In a response, he attempted to treat the killer himself in his new asylum, and after a while, the killer was deemed sane and was about to be let out, but he made a bit of an unwise move and killed Amadeus' secretary with a pen John Wick style before being beaten and executed via electric shock therapy by Amadeus himself, which in turn caused Amadeus to lose his own sanity, forcing him to get institutionalized in the asylum he built. Damn, can't get a tougher scene than that. However, the Chronicles don't end there, and the story seems to shift, describing the arrival of criminals like Killer Croc, Poison Ivy, and the Joker, and the author is totally seething at the existence of these villains, and wants to violently kill them for being irredeemable scum. And it's clear that there's no way Amadeus Arkham wrote these later entries, as he's long dead by the time these villains showed up. It's then later revealed that the entries have been written by Warden Sharp himself, who had become convinced that the spirit of Amadeus Arkham had been lurking in the asylum since his death, and had possessed him, with Sharp believing himself to be the spirit of Arkham. It's a great little side story that again adds to the creepy and hopeless aura of Arkham Island, showing how those on the other side of the bars are just as deranged as guys like Scarecrow and Joker, and it rewards players for really digging deep and trying to find the pretty well hidden slabs, and the tone here is just on a whole nother level. Finally, there are area mysteries, where you are given a prompt and then have to find, look at, and scan the solution, which are usually unique villain assets or hidden cells in rooms, or you line up and scan a glowing question mark. Scanning these things usually unlocks a character bio and some cool comic art for both well-known and pretty obscure Batman characters. Anything from Catwoman to Two-Face to Scarecrow to Maxie Zeus, Tweedledee and Tweedletum. Who the fuck are these people? These mysteries allow the devs to create some really awesome environments and details, like Calendar Man's cell, Great White Shark's body parts in a jar, this toe tag on the body of assumedly Ra's al Ghul, and so many more. Now, I'm not the most knowledgeable guy on Batman, and most of my knowledge of man and his wacky ops mostly comes from these games and a few live-action movies.
You're a big guy.
So these character bios are some great opportunities for me to learn more about the franchise and its many villains over the 80 years of Batman comics and media. Serious question though, what was up with all the Alice in Wonderland themed villains in the 40s? But for true man lovers out there, these mysteries and references are just a fantastic love letter to the franchise. And these are my absolute favorite type of riddle. And once I had gathered up all the gadgets and had beaten the game, I went back and explored the island, grabbing most of the trophies I missed and unlocking all the character bios. And I had a really good time doing it. The puzzles are implemented seamlessly into the levels, and it was engaging to figure out how to find most of them. Although I didn't collect every single trophy and solved every mystery. I just wasn't strong enough. But that's okay, as besides bragging rights, your only reward for solving all 240 riddles is to get a phone call where you can hear the Riddler getting arrested. Also, side note, Arkham Riddler for some reason really reminds me of the Nostalgia Critic. Maybe it's an alternate version of him that couldn't get over the Bat credit card.
A bat credit card?
But I digress. Side content aside, we continue chasing the Jinkler, and after clearing a room of his toxic Joker gas, we find him standing on a suspiciously massive hanging cell. And inside the cell is this huge mutated muscle monster. And Burrow must have taken some really bad HGH, as his bones are protruding out in some spots. And that's a detail I really like on these Titan monsters. We learn how to dodge with A, and eventually the monster dies on its own from its steroid abuse. Joker taunts Batman, and leaves on his hanging cell. We then get enough XP from this encounter to level up and purchase an upgrade, which come in the form of new moves like the throw, more health, more gadgets, and shorter takedown combo requirements, and so on. It's pretty simple, but works well for what it tries to do. And I found I only really needed the health and combo upgrades, as the gadget upgrades are nice to have, but are mostly situational and are not at all required. Also, this menu UI is pretty fantastic, having a dark graphic novel style with some nice clicky sound effects and freaky illustrations of Batman, and it fits perfectly with the game's design and tone. And I prefer this style over the later, more minimalist and high-tech styled UIs of the later games. It looks great. It's the best in the series. Back to the story. Once Joker leaves, he gives us a video call to show us that he had paid off one of the Arkham guards,
Officer Bowles.
to capture Commissioner Gordon. So we head to where Gordon was last seen to try and track him. We find
Officer Bowles.
a whiskey flask on the ground, and we use detective mode to scan the booze and find a trail right to him. Detective mode is essential for stealth and exploration, as it highlights enemies and interactable objects. It is essential for locating destructible walls, consoles, enemies, and more. And it's perfect for that, giving you all the information you need at a single glance. It's so good, game studios have stolen this mechanic for years and years after. We follow the booze trail until we reach an elevator shaft, where Harley shows up and drops an elevator on us. But with the elevator out of service, we have to grapple up and climb our way up manually, using your grapnel gun to get up on out-of-reach areas. Grappling is at its most basic in Asylum, and you use it solely as an extended climb of sorts, as you spend most of your time indoors. So there's no need for boosting or much gliding here. Once we climb up and take out some armed thugs by sneaking up behind them, we enter this large room full of interior gargoyles. So you already know what's coming. There's nothing I love more than being a predator. As Batman, Arkham's gameplay can be broken up into 3 modes: combat, exploration and puzzle solving, and predator/stealth mode. One of Arkham's favorite things to do is to throw you in a large room with several armed thugs, and you have to stealthily take them down one by one to succeed. As although Batman is a famous superhero, he's still just man at the end of the day, and man is weak to bullets, and you can die pretty quickly from just a few shots. Usually, I found stealth sections in non-stealth games to be pretty plodding and boring, slowly tagging all the enemies in a camper base, planning out your attack, and executing on it, only for it to likely blow up in your face and having it turn into an absolute clusterfuck or a hard reset. But Arkham somehow manages to make stealth not only super fun, but it also makes it the epitome of being the Batman, and it best captures his essence in this mode. These armed thugs aren't trapping you in here with them. They're trapped in here with you, and it's borderline perfectly executed. Most Predator encounters offer up plenty of interior gargoyles to grapple up to and to assess the situation from. And thank God there's so many of these things. Being a gargoyle sculptor must be one of the most popular occupations in Gotham City, right up there with Joker Thug and Wayne Enterprises employee. You'll probably hop up on a gargoyle to start, open detective mode, and see how many enemies there are, and where they're located, as detective mode lets you see all enemies through walls, giving you the information you need to clear out the room in just a glance. And from there, you have a completely open stealth sandbox to take out enemies in any way you see fit. Take them down from behind with a silent takedown, take them down from above on a gargoyle, get them from under a grate, around a corner, so on and so forth. You can use your gadgets as well, of course. You can use the explosive gel as a mine to eliminate enemies from afar, the bat claw to disarm and throw thugs off balance, and of course batarangs to distract and bait thugs into moving into a more takedownable spot. It's great. You got so many options here. But just be careful, because if you get spotted, your only real option is to try and spam grappling from gargoyle to gargoyle, vantage to vantage to try and escape their line of sight. As smoke pellets weren't added until Arkham City. If I got spotted, and there wasn't only one enemy left, I'd usually just let myself get killed to try again. But the autosaves in this game are quite generous, so it's no real hassle to restart and try the section again if you mess up, which you eventually will, as you'll inevitably get spotted one way or another. Maybe an enemy will turn around and spot you as you move in for the kill, you try a greedy and ill-advised takedown, or sometimes you'll just get spotted if you get caught on ledges or platforms, as Batman sticks pretty hard to ledges and edges when climbing over them. And I've had a few occasions where I tried to vault over a ledge, only for Batman to get confused and instead hang off the ledge or just stand on top of it, leading to some restarts. But hey, failure is the best teacher, and besides these occasional mishaps, Asylum really excels in making you feel like a damn ninja as you pick off thugs one by one, watching their heart rates go from calm to nervous to terrified, which is an amazing detail that actually makes these sections even better, as scared enemies are more aware of their surroundings and will be looking and turning around constantly, unlike the cocky calm they start out as, lazily patrolling the arena, feeling safe because they got the strap on them. They don't know. Later on, thugs start wearing suicide collars that detect when one stops moving, so taking down a thug will alert the others to your location, forcing you to be constantly on the move and repositioning to make tighter takedown windows, and needing to be more aware of your surroundings. And you need to use all your venting and gargoyle hopping skills to win. But like the combat, the Predator system isn't perfect, and it can be a little silly at times for the thugs to not be able to detect Batman choking out their buddy, or hear their muffled cries for help a literal foot behind them, or them not being able to see Batman zipping to a gargoyle when they probably should have. But these are just minor nitpicks, and this is still probably my favorite stealth system outside of actual dedicated stealth games ever, with great snappy pacing and super satisfying mechanics of choking out and pummeling goons from multiple angles, zipping around the room to get away from and to keep your targets confused, and making these thugs piss themselves in fear as you prey on them like Fleece Johnson in the pen.
I like you, and I want you.
And you really can't possibly feel more like Batman than when you're hanging inverted from a gargoyle and then snatching up a passing thug like a Half-Life barnacle. It's just so incredibly fire. But anyway, once we prey on these thugs, we find
Officer Bowles.
who looks like he died giving Joker some insane Arkham Dome. Damn. And we do some more venting until we get outside and get a good view of the rest of the island. That green piss filter is just so nostalgic. It just screams Xbox 360. The atmosphere here is just fantastic. It's gothic, dreary, and perfectly creepy. And I swear you could cut through this atmosphere with a knife. It's just so thick and cohesive, and it keeps you wholly immersed in the dark world of Arkham, from start to finish. We get a call from Oracle that the Batmobile is getting vandalized, so we head on over to find some thugs beating up on it. We take down the thugs and pick up the explosive gel out of the trunk, and find Gordon's pipe on the ground, which will give us a detective vision smoke trail to lead us right to him. The trail leads us to the medical facility, and we can get in by using the explosive gel to blow up a poop wall. We go through some brawls and some Predator sections, saving the doctors and Officer Cash in the process. We also run into our first knife-wielding enemy, who must be first stunned before we can whoop his ass. Eat cape, son. Once everyone is saved, Dr. Young and Cash decide to go to the Arkham Mansion to get her research notes, while Batman deals with some more armed thugs. Once dispatched, we take the elevator down and get jump scared by a lunatic inmate who just got done smoking that scarecrow strong. And this begins the first of the Scarecrow segments, which are some really mind-bending and pretty damn scary hallucination sequences. Here we see Gordon getting dragged away, before we then seemingly find his corpse. And as a first-time player, it's extremely unnerving, as it's hard to tell what's actually real and what's fake. Bugs start appearing on the walls and the floor, and you move on to enter the morgue, and then when you exit the morgue, you enter into another morgue, with body bags on the table this time. Opening the bags reveals the ghastly corpses of Martha and Thomas Wayne, before Scarecrow jump scares you in the third bag. This shit is a full-on horror game right now, and it's gas. Getting jump scared by Scarecrow puts us in a segment where we have to maneuver around this destroyed nightmare version of the asylum. All the while, a giant Scarecrow tries to spot us with his glowing eyes, and you have to time your movements right to avoid his gaze. The level in itself is pretty simple and straightforward, but I really enjoy how it's executed. Making Scarecrow this massive and seemingly unbeatable monster really makes this sequence much tenser. Although that tension does wane a bit once you've done this sequence for long enough. And if you're caught, Scarecrow just slams down on you like a fly, and you gotta try again. To win, we have to reach the bat signal light and point it at Scarecrow, which breaks Batman out of his fear gas-induced haze. Now that we're no longer fated than a hoe, we learn that Gordon isn't actually dead, and is being held captive nearby. After freeing him, we find an emaciated Bane strung up by tubes, who says that Dr. Young had drained him of all his venom, the green fluid that makes him hulk up into the meat monster we all know him as. Joker then injects him full of his neon green HGH, and he attacks us, starting Asylum's first true boss fight. The fight itself is pretty simple. You wait for Bane to charge, throw a batarang at him to get him to crash into the wall, and wail on him while he's stunned. And most of the difficulty in this fight comes from trying to avoid Bane's charges, as the timing between throwing a batarang at his head and then dodging out of the way is surprisingly tight. And I got ran over a few times. Other than that, the fight is mostly just waiting around for Bane to finish ripping a chunk out of the wall to throw at you, and then dealing with the fodder thugs who join in on the fight. And you rinse and repeat until Bane's health bar is gone. It's an okay fight. It's not great, but it's not awful either. It's just alright. We escape with Gordon, but then Bane bursts out of the wall and grabs Batman. But Batman calls in the Batmobile to run into Bane and crash him into the water, hopefully not killing him. We send Gordon off on a boat because the asylum is just way too dangerous right now, and we turn back around to examine Dr. Young's research on Venom, to figure out the connection between Bane and those natty lifters that Joker unleashed on us. Luckily for us, Batman had the impeccable foresight to build an auxiliary Batcave on Arkham Island, in case it was needed for a situation kinda just like this one. It's a bit convenient, but not too unrealistic for someone like Batman. Dude's more than a little acoustic about his computer caves. So we head on over to the Batcave across Arkham Island, which is broken up into a few semi-open areas where you can do riddle and secret hunting. But these outside areas are pretty small and not super noteworthy. They feel like prototypes for what's to come in Arkham City. Once we reach the Batcave, we examine Dr. Young's research, and we find that she's been working on a new strain of venom called Titan, which created those huge inmate mutants that we fought earlier. Apparently, Dr. Young had developed Titan as a steroid to help inmates survive intense therapies. Damn, they must have been absolutely frying these loons if they need to turn into a 5%er just to survive. Titan is much more potent than Venom, and it requires only a small dose to fully hulk someone up, rather than requiring a whole Venom backpack that constantly injects you with venom like Bane has. If Joker were to get his hands on the Titan formula, he could create an entire army of 5%ers to terrorize Gotham with, but the actual formula is stuck in Dr. Young's office, so we obtain the Batclaw and head on over to the Arkham Mansion to find her. We exit the Batcave and go through the Arkham sewers to proceed, and as we're going through, Oracle calls us up and tells us that Dr. Young's research into Titan had been funded by a Mr. Jack White, aka Mr. Jack Mehoff, aka the Joker. And it seems that Joker and Young were working together on Titan, but funding had been cut off when Dr. Young got cold feet and no longer wanted to keep working on the project, cutting off Joker from being able to pay her. So things are a little bit clearer now. It seems that Joker wanted to cash in on his Titan investment, so he got himself captured so he could take over the asylum and to secure the Titan himself. Now I get it. Tired of his tiny lakelet physique, Joker paid Dr. Young to develop Titan to get him absolutely swole so he could pull bitches. I totally get it, man. It's a brilliant plan. But we can confront Joker about this later, as Dr. Young is in immediate danger, so we platform our way through this large brick ruins room and make it back to the surface. We get to the mansion, clear out the thugs both inside and out of it, and we reach Dr. Young's office. But she's already taken her notes, so we have to follow her fingerprint trail to catch up with her. Which leads us to this circular room, where we can drop a chandelier to reach the bottom floor and find the Titan formula, which we burn. Joker then calls us up to tell us Zaz has Dr. Young held hostage, so we head on over to rescue her. However, on the way, we enter Wayne Manor? And the hallway we enter becomes seemingly endless, and we hear Bruce's parents speaking to us. We all know where this is going. The hallway then turns into Crime Alley, and we hear the moments when Batman's parents are shot dead, and we find their bodies. Batman collapses in front of them, and then he turns into a kid. Looks like we're geeking off the Scarecrow gas again. It's a great little sequence. We then proceed into the next room for another round of Scarecrow hide and seek, and we use the Batclaw to pull down boxes for extra cover. And we even fight some skeletons for some extra spooks. But we still just need to reach the Bat Signal to escape round 2 of the dead parents' nightmare. Once we flashbang Scarecrow for the second time, we wake up all the way at the top of the mansion's bell tower and knock down the bell to proceed. Well, hopefully no one's standing down there. We continue on through the mansion, and we find Zsasz holding Young hostage in the warden's office, who we dispatch with a batarang from around a corner. We rescue her, and she tells us what we already knew about the Titan. She tells us of a secret lab that she had researched the Titan in, which is hidden in the botanical gardens. She then goes to open the warden's safe to get the key codes for us, but it's been booby-trapped by the Joker, which explodes and completely barbecues Dr. Young.
Oh my god!
Get out of the way!
After we wake up from the explosion, we take out some of Harley's Joker makeup-wearing thugs, and we use the warden's broken cane Harley beat him with to trace him, which leads us out of the mansion and into the penitentiary, which is full of cells of crazed inmates and electrified floors. Looks like P. Diddy's house. The penitentiary is an awesomely designed area, and it presents a lot of story just through the level design and details. The asylum is doing some crazy shit to these criminals, putting them in straitjackets, muzzles, and even prying their eyes and mouths open with hooked headgear as part of some insanity treatment. It's incredibly unsettling and perfectly in line with the game's tone, and it reinforces the idea that the asylum is just as deranged as its patients. As on paper, they're supposed to be rehabilitating these guys. But all the supervillains here are just as deranged as they were when they entered, and the other inmates had their minds and bodies destroyed, turning them into strung-out lunatics who can only scream and rage and attack you like wild chimpanzees. It keeps the player constantly thinking about who's the greater evil, the villains themselves, or the asylum that seemingly makes them crazier. We eventually run into Poison Ivy locked up in a glass cell. The character designer is still steady as a rock making these characters I see. God damn. She begs us to help her save her nondescript precious plants, but Batman just wisely mews and disregards her. We eventually find Warden Sharp tied up in the back of the penitentiary, but while we're doing that, Harley goes and frees Ivy. Great. Who then buggers off to the botanical gardens while Joker frees all the demented prisoners across the asylum. Warden Sharp gives us his override codes, and it unlocks us access to the cryptographic sequencer, which can be used to blow up all the wall terminals and to disable electronics. And it's pretty simple to use. You just have to find the right stick angles to get the green waveform, which will then cause the console to explode. We continue chasing Harley through the penitentiary, beating up lunatics and dodging electrified floors until we reach her in this central electrified room, where we then have to fight our biggest group of thugs yet, and have to move between areas of the arena as the floors get electrified. It's pretty hectic, and they throw in some taser enemies to just pile on the electricity. But once all the thugs are destroyed, Joker tells Harley to go and fight Batman herself, a punishment for her incompetence in stopping him. Harley then immediately gets defeated by a one counter from Batman. And we throw her in a cell where she remains for the rest of the game. It's a beautiful sight. But with Harley defeated, we can then move on to the botanical gardens to find and destroy the Titan lab there. We enter the huge gardens and get through some challenging Predator sections, until we reach the Titan lab and find Joker, who uses his new and improved Titan to hulk up 2 of his goons. And they're pretty intimidating. Seeing their spines burst out of their backs as they tighten up is pretty awesomely grotesque. But disappointingly, they're just some Bane clones, and you deal with them the same way you dealt with him. Batarang stun them as they charge, and beat on them while they're stunned. But hey, at least you can piggyback onto one and make it whack the other. So that's pretty neat. Once these 2 natties are toast, we call up Oracle and give her a rundown on the Titan situation. It seems that the Titan was created using a modified venom plant, and only the sexy plant lady can help us synthesize an antidote for the Titan. So we obtain the line launcher and go pilf hunting. We use the line launcher to get over some pretty huge gaps, and we find Poison Ivy not too long after. To get her to talk, Batman threatens to go all Pol Pot on the plants on Arkham unless Ivy cooperates. And she tells Batman that there's a special plant growing deep under Arkham Island that can counter the Titan strain. The only problem is that it grows in Killer Croc's lair. God damn it, I knew we'd have to fight that freaky jit. And as we head out of the gardens, Joker calls us up over the PA system to announce that he had injected Ivy with some Titan, making her plants explode in size and block off certain paths, as well as spawning these annoying-ass plant bulbs that shoot killer bubbles at you all over the island. These roided up plants are growing so quickly, they threaten to tear apart the entire island, so we gotta move. We hustle back on over to the mansion to ask Officer Cash where they're keeping Killer Croc, which is in the sewers below intensive treatment. And this stretch of the game gets good use out of the game's limited real estate, as you have to use your new gadgets like the Bat Claw, the Line Launcher, and the cryptographic sequencer to find new paths forward, as Ivy's plans have blocked off all the old ones. And along the way, you even have to do a Predator stealth section where the goons have rigged the gargoyles to explode if Batman lands on one. Smart, but still no match for crouch-walking Batman. So we continue on backtracking through intensive treatment until we reach this hallway. And spoilers if you haven't played Arkham Asylum, and skip this part if you want to experience it raw. It's pretty crazy. But if not, the game starts having an aneurysm and seemingly crashes, with fuzzy static and glitchy color bars showing up on the screen, before cutting back to the opening cinematic? What the fuck's going on here? This is probably the most famous scene in all of Arkham Asylum. Fuck just breaking the fourth wall. Asylum drives a damn truck through it and simulates a fake game crash, which for PS3 and Xbox 360 players at the time must have been extremely convincing. Hell, it probably still is if you don't know it's coming. And after the fake crash, it then cuts to an alternate version of the opening cinematic, with the roles reversed, showing Joker driving Batman to Arkham Asylum, and all the Arkham guards have been replaced with villains and thugs. And we even get to play as the Joker for a little bit, walking alongside a detained Batman. We then cut to Batman's POV, where Scarecrow deems us insane, and Joker then whips out a gun and executes us with a bullet to the face. Ouch. Which then brings up the game over screen. And if you look closely, the hint will tell you to, quote, use the middle stick to avoid Joker's gun. Like we're playing this game with an N64 controller or something. How about you suck on my middle stick, asshole? But after pressing retry, we then arise out of a grave for Bruce Wayne, and we start our final Scarecrow hide-and-seek segment. This whole sequence is legendary, and I fucking love it. It's such a mind-bending event, and I don't think I've seen a fake crash even attempted in any other game, and it's executed brilliantly here. The fear toxin is so strong, it makes players think it's affecting their PC or console, and it may very well be one of the best fourth wall breaks I've ever seen in media. It's like straight out of an episode of Haunted Gaming, and it's certainly my personal favorite. It's just so incredibly well executed and genuinely scary, as when playing a game, there's nothing scarier than your console crashing. Now that's real terror. This final hide-and-seek segment is the same as the others, albeit the longest and the scariest due to the larger number of skeletons. You even fight a Titan skeleton. Now that's fucking scary. But once we reach the bat signal, we snap out of our final Fear Gas geek session, and we awake to Batman manhandling Scarecrow. Scarecrow is absolutely floored that we're even still standing, saying that Batman had huffed enough gas to drive 10 men insane, and he even injects us with his finger syringes for good measure. But Batman just tanks that shit, and he overcomes the mind-destroying effects of the fear toxin just through sheer willpower alone. God damn, that's hard. It's another great scene that flexes Batman's true superpower, his unbreakable will, which I believe is truly the strongest out of any superhero ever, even Superman. He may just be man, but his will can never truly be broken, and that is what truly makes him unbeatable. We chase Scarecrow down into the sewers, where he then threatens to release his little goblin sack of fear toxin into the water supply. But just then, Killer Croc bursts out of the water behind him and drags him to the depths below, doing God knows what to that little guy, as he isn't seen again for the rest of the game. But with Scarecrow sent to Croc's goon cave, we can finally take on the scaly bastard himself and get those Titan plant samples. The Killer Croc boss fight, like Scarecrow, isn't much of an actual boss fight, but rather a whole level based around him. We have to carefully walk across these floating boards, following the distance indicator, and collect 5 to 6 samples of this booger plant, then escape. And as you make your way through Croc's lair, he's constantly stalking you, popping out of the water to attack you, and destroying the boards beneath your feet. And this whole area is just an absolute clinic in crafting tension in games, as when Croc is underwater, there are no sounds besides light water dripping, your own footsteps, and the noises the indicator makes. And this silence builds until Croc bursts out of the water, accompanied by some shocking orchestral music to run you down. And you gotta quickly hit his shock collar with a batarang to knock him off and buy yourself some more time. This scaly prick will make you jump a few times. Although some tension is lost once you get familiar with his behavior, and you've knocked him off a few times. But overall, Croc's lair is still a booty-clenchingly great encounter. And once we get back to the entrance, Croc runs us down one last time, right onto the explosive gel we placed when we entered. And we sent Croc plummeting to the black darkness of Arkham Hill. But with the samples in hand, we backtrack through the sewers, and we get back to the Batcave and synthesize the Titan cure, right in time for Ivy's steroid plans to destroy the whole place. And we also grab the Ultra Bat Claw, which we use to tear down unreachable breakable walls. And not much else, outside of one instance later. We then head out and do some bare bones gliding, whee, beat up some more thugs, and get back to the botanical gardens to go spray Roundup on this freaky plant bitch. We find Ivy and her midriff in the back of the gardens, and she summons a Gigaplant and embeds herself in it, kicking off her boss fight. And this Ivy fight is probably the gamiest and most typical fight in the game, as our goal here is to avoid Ivy's projectiles and root growths, and chuck a battering at her when her plant window thing opens. It's pretty simple, and a bit too drawn out if you ask me. Ivy can take a box of these batarangs to the face, which makes this fight a bit overly drawn out. Her attacks are slow and easy to dodge, so you're mostly just kind of waiting around for her plant window to open while bat diving out of the way of her easily dodgeable attacks. At least in her second phase, she brings in some brainwashed guards to fight you, but it's still just more of the same, making for a fairly boring fight. But regardless, once we've beamed Ivy in the head 50 times with our batarangs and depleted her second health bar, she goes down for good, and we can escape out onto the island, where Joker has started shooting off fireworks, saying his party is finally about to begin. So we enter the cell block and find Joker on a mountain of skulls and mannequin parts, and he calls in his goons to take us on in the hardest melee encounter of the story, having us fight 2 more Titan mutants alongside a bunch of fodder enemies for good measure. It's challenging, but I was able to succeed by taking down the goons first, and then focusing on the Titan guards like in the first double Titan fight. Rinse and repeat for each wave until the Titans are toasted, and once we take them down, Joker reveals he's got Gordon hostage, and he tries to shoot him with a dose of Titan, which Batman jumps in front of and takes for himself. Batman, using that god-tier willpower, manages to keep himself from turning into a natty lifter, which infuriates Joker, who wanted Batman to morph into an ugly meat monster in front of all of Gotham, as news helicopters had begun swarming the island. So Joker instead gives himself a dose of Titan and hulks up into a monstrous Giga Joker, finally completing his transformation from Lanklet to Rich Piano Disciple 5%er Super Mutant. Not wanting shrunken balls as a side effect, Batman takes the Titan antidote for himself, and we begin the final boss battle of Arkham Asylum, which is by far the weakest part of this game, sadly. Now, I don't have any issue with Titan Joker on its face, as this is definitely something that this Joker would do with his back against the wall, and I never really understood the hatred for this plot point, and the idea that Joker would never do something like this ever. I think the YouTuber Strat Edgy made a good point about this in his Asylum video, and he says that people may have let the more grounded movie versions of the Joker shape their perceptions of him, and hulking up like this would indeed be out of character for, say, Heath Ledger's Joker. But Arkham Joker isn't just some ruthless symbol of chaos. He's also a sadistic mass murderer with a borderline homoerotic obsession with beating Batman. And I think it's completely within reason for him to turn into a Rich Piano Disciple here to take out Batman. However, this fight doesn't suck because of Roidker. It sucks because it's barely a fight at all, as Joker will just take a few swipes at you with his massive claws for a few seconds before getting bored or something, and he jumps out of reach to go heckle the news helicopters while he has some thugs try and gank you, like that worked so well before. And while his back is turned to you, you just use your Ultra Back Claw to target that massive V-Lone logo on his back, and you pull him down so you can punch him in the face. And you do this for the golden gaming ratio of 3 times to defeat him, and we deliver a nice explosive gel punch to knock his ass out for good. And we then get an end cutscene where Gordon and the GCPD secure the asylum, detain the villains, and Batman flies off to go stop Two-Face from robbing a bank. The job just never ends. And with that, that's the story of Arkham Asylum complete. And with the story complete, you are free to keep exploring the island with all your gadgets to find all the Riddler trophies you missed. But outside of that, and the challenge maps to get your combat and stealth scores up, there is very little in the way of side content in Arkham Asylum, especially compared to the later games. But overall, Arkham Asylum is a fantastic and extremely efficient package. And although it's pretty short, you could probably beat this entire main story in under 3 hours if you know what you're doing. Not even speedrunning it or anything either. But in this case, that's a good thing. This game has almost no fat on its bones whatsoever, and delivers a dark, immersive, and sometimes downright terrifying Batman story that feels lifted right out of a comic book, thanks to guys like Paul Dini lending his skills to this game's story. It's almost a perfect, self-contained Batman story package. The environment designs and atmospheres of the various asylum facilities are fantastic, and just ooze a lethal and deranged tone, and the game keeps its hooks in you for its entire runtime. And this game's atmosphere is still way stronger than most modern games, and there's just so many awesome secrets and puzzles to solve, and I especially loved finding all the character bios by scanning their cells, suits, and other cool references. And I managed to find around 75% of the riddles without it ever feeling too tedious, but I was not strong enough to get them all. This video is already late as it is, and I'm by no means a huge collectible completionist. The combat is responsive and smooth, and the Predator stealth is just so damn fun to play around with and master. The game isn't perfect, of course. Boss fights are damn near non-existent, mostly being unique villain-themed levels for Scarecrow and Croc, the Poison Ivy window plant, or 6 rounds of Hell in a Cell with tighten-up goons and the Joker. But then again, the Arkham series' strongest aspects were never its boss fights. All the mechanics from combat to traversal are their most bare bones here. And the combat itself, while fun, is incredibly easy for the most part. But this game was also the one to actually introduce and establish all these great mechanics for later games. So credit where it's due. There's no City, Origins, or Knight without the Asylum. But in short, Arkham Asylum is immersive, unsettling, truly unique, and a perfect launching point to grapnel boost into our next game, Arkham City. Arkham City. Now there's a game that'll put some hair on your chest. Released only 2 years after Asylum, City was the game Rocksteady always wanted Asylum to be. Bigger, stronger, more narratively impactful, and a true evolution in man-type games. Did they pull it off? Well, you probably already know the answer to that. Let's take a look anyway. After booting up City and starting a new game, we open on a painting of Cain and Abel, the famous biblical story where Cain kills his brother Abel with a rock after Abel had sacrificed mocked him in front of God. Keep this image in the back of your mind. And if you have the Arkham City Game of the Year version like me, the game doesn't open on Batman, but rather Catwoman. These designers are still steady on rock with these designs. This is part of the Catwoman DLC, which allows you to free roam Arkham City as Catwoman, and it adds 4 short missions for her to flesh out her side of the story. They're alright. They're pretty short and basic missions, and they kind of end up disrupting the flow of the game's story, ironically enough, which I'll talk more on later. And the real value of this DLC is being able to explore Arkham City as Catwoman, which adds a bunch of pinkish red Riddler trophies that only she can pick up all over the map. Get it for the playable character? Stay for the titty window. Anyway, Catwoman gets captured by Two-Face while trying to raid his safe, and we then cut to the actual opening, which opens on reporter Vicky Vale reporting on a press conference being held by Bruce Wayne at the gates of the newly constructed Arkham City, a walled-off section of Gotham's shittiest slums, which has been converted into a massive open-air super prison following the events of Arkham Asylum. Bruce here is advocating for Arkham City to be shut down, as the prison has, predictably, turned into a violent hellhole where villains and their gangs are warring for whatever power and turf they can get. This is interspersed with Dr. Hugo Strange, the warden of Arkham City, gloating to Bruce Wayne about his inevitable success with the city, and reveals that he knows Bruce Wayne is Batman, being the only villain to naturally deduce that fact. Well, technically, Bane also figured out his identity in Origins, but he kind of forgot. But Hugo Strange isn't without class, and he keeps that truth hidden for now. Bruce talks about making Gotham safe again, before a bunch of Tiger soldiers, Tiger being a private army employed by Dr. Strange, pull up on the press conference and arrest Bruce Wayne without a trial and throw him in Arkham City. We then come face to face with Strange himself, and he mentions that Protocol 10 can now begin, which he says will make him a hero of the city, and he walks off. We then get control of Bruce, and we break out of our chair and beat up the guard that comes to kick us while we're down, and we take an SD card from his device, and we get thrown into the Arkham City processing area. We then get bossed around by Jarl Ballin a bit, and then we get thrown in an elevator with notable Gotham reporter Jack Ryder, who had also been arrested without a trial for the crime of reporting on Bruce Wayne's press conference. Damn, Gotham City's got some Russian tier free speech laws. One of the funniest parts of this introduction is how characters think Bruce Wayne is like some huge pussy who's never been in a fight before, his cover being a billionaire socialite and all. But Bruce himself is built like DK Metcalf. I mean, just look at that neck. It's clear the dude can handle himself. And we prove it by fighting off several prisoners while handcuffed. But we still get manhandled anyway, and we end up getting pressed by the Penguin, and we get knocked out from a pipe shot to the head. Damn, we haven't even been in Arkham City for more than 5 minutes, and we're already getting brutalized. Penguin tries to beat Bruce down with some iron knuckles, but the silly wanker forgot to hide his blue counter lightning bolt indicators, so we break his hand and get out of our handcuffs, and whoop the shit out of his goons. Just imagine being one of these goons. You think Bruce Wayne is just some rich and pampered wimp, only for him to turn into the damn Ip Man in a fight and break your arm in 2 different spots. Ouch. Once these thugs are defeated, we can climb up a nearby building as Bruce Man here, and we can finally get suited up as Batman. And this intro is fantastic, wasting almost no time in getting us acclimated with Dr. Strange, Arkham City, and just how chaotic the place is, all without ever feeling rushed. It's just bigger and better than Asylum in almost every way, and it builds in the combat and traversal tutorial seamlessly before we even suit up. Using the SD card we stole from the guard, we can jack into Tiger comms, and we learn that Catwoman is being held by Two-Face, who's probably going to kill her soon. 50-50 chance. So with no other leads, we swoop in to save Catwoman at the courthouse. We glide on over there, and speaking of gliding, Batman has gotten some massive upgrades in that department. In Asylum, gliding was mostly a situational thing, and only really needed in certain platforming sections, and the glide there was incredibly basic, as you could only glide, turn, and do a glide kick, which worked just fine for Asylum's smaller and more cramped level design. But City is a whole new ballgame, and like the name suggests, is now a full open world city that you can explore to your heart's content. Batman's glide now has tighter controls and turns, he can grapple while gliding for extra traversal, and can dive bomb to descend quickly under the ground with a shockwave, or to create glide momentum to keep your glide going longer. And once you've done some AR training, you can unlock the grapple boost, where you can double tap A while grappling up to a ledge to do a Mario Kart-esque boost to continue on gliding. And you'll end up feeling kind of a bit like Spider-Man flying around everywhere on your grapple hook. And it feels mechanically great to fly, boost, and dive. There's a really satisfying weight behind all of Batman's movements, and I have almost no complaints about it whatsoever. It's simple, yet incredibly effective, and it makes the simple task of moving around the map just so much fun. So fun that you don't even need any fast travel to get around. Get that shit out of here. Anyway, we glide on over to the courthouse, and we enter to find Two-Face holding Catwoman tied over a vat of acid, holding a sham trial for her in front of a crowd of his beloved thugs, who all wear Two-Face themed prisoner clothes and masks. It's cute. I like how all the different thugs have matching uniforms and costumes depending on which villain they're working for. Arkham City takes the foundation of Asylum's great free-flow combat system of effortlessly pummeling thugs to build up combos and performing limb-shattering takedowns, and improves upon it in almost every single way, minus the removal of the thug throw move, which has been replaced with a bat swarm AoE that stuns any currently knocked down enemies, and also adds an automatic batarang takedown combo move which instantly knocks out all currently downed enemies, which can let you fly through some combat encounters if you're a master of Arkham combat, and is also essential for any speedruns. The combat itself hasn't fundamentally changed much, but it feels slightly tighter and more responsive as with any good sequel, and most of the changes come in Batman's new moves and the new enemy types. Stunning enemies now allows you to perform a beatdown on said enemy, where Batman will stand rush his ops with a flurry of punches, and is required to take down some newly armored enemies and some big fellas. It's brutal and always fun to do. And one of my favorite things to do was to stun the last standing enemy and then pummel him into the dirt like Star Platinum. Knife and blade enemies now have a new yellow lightning denoted blade attack, where you have to hold back on the left stick and hold Y to dodge the knife swings. And you can get an upgrade to perform a blade takedown by holding Y when an enemy is slicing, and letting go in between attacks, which is easier said than done. The timing is tight as shit, and sometimes the blade dodge can just crap itself and you'll take a few hits despite holding back the L stick and Y, and Batman will just stand there mewing as he gets disemboweled. But besides the blade counter failing at times, it's still an improvement over Asylum, as the knife enemies there just had to be stunned first, and then their asses were grass. There are also new shield enemies that you have to stun and then double tap A to take down. Multiple enemies can attack at once now, forcing you to press Y for each attacking enemy to perform some flashy multi-counters. And it's all pretty great stuff. It makes the combat more robust and strategic, and you can bolster your combos with perfectly timed strikes called critical strikes, which is when you strike them immediately after landing a hit on an enemy, and it counts for 2 combo points, actively discouraging you from just mashing X to win. You gotta tap X in rhythm with Batman's movements, giving City's combat a more noticeable rhythm that you can subconsciously pick up on and master just by playing the game and getting into prison brawls. The combat is still pretty damn easy, don't get me wrong, even on hard mode if you're familiar enough. But combo building and delivering compound fractures to thugs' heads and balls has never been better. But with the combat out of the way, we destroy these Two-Face thugs, and Two-Face himself shoots Batman from up in his box, and moves to kill Catwoman. And after a ridiculous pun war,
I vote for a stay of execution.
2 guns, bitch!
Catwoman escapes from her acid vat trap, and Batman strings up Two-Face to subdue him. Catwoman takes his phone and feeds it to her tits, and Batman grills her on Doctor Strange and Protocol 10. Catwoman doesn't know what Protocol 10 is either, but she tells us that Doctor Strange had just recently resurfaced after a long disappearance from his last known post as a doctor at Arkham Asylum. And while we're chatting, Joker tries to op Catwoman, but Batman sees his rifle laser and puts the Riz on her to save her. We then use detective mode, which is pretty much unchanged outside of some minor UI updates, to track the rifle's trajectory, which came from the nearby chapel's bell tower, so we head on over. Inside the chapel, we run into Harley and a bunch of armed Joker thugs. Harley has ditched her stripper clown nurse outfit for a stripper dominatrix clown outfit, and we one-shot her again, and use a smoke pellet to get up on an interior gargoyle to begin our first Predator section. Predator's stealth is pretty much the same as it was in Asylum, with the biggest addition being some more robust takedown methods like multi-takedowns, and most importantly, the smoke pellet. Smoke pellets are like a do-over as a gadget, as it allows Batman to hide and get to a vantage point without being seen, allowing you to reset yourself, which is much better than Asylum's spam grapple and hope not to die method of escaping. But besides these additions, and the addition of jammer enemies, who will block your detective vision until you take them out, forcing you to prioritize them to get your wall hacks back. It's pretty much the same. And stealth was great there, and it's even better here. Damn, I love being a Predator. Once we silently take down these thugs, we can talk to Officer Cash. Oh hey, what's up bro? and he tells us that Harley had kidnapped some of the doctors to go help Joker, as it seems he's sick with some sort of unknown illness. But for now, we head up to the sniper's nest in the tower, which is stuffed to the tits with explosives, and we have a chat with our old pal Jinkler through some skibbity toilet character models. He's a bit butthurt from the thrashing he got back at the asylum, and he blows up the clock tower. But he gives us a heads up before it's gonna blow, so we dive out the window to escape. A surprisingly classy move from the janitor. But before the tower went boom, we got a lock on the signal Joker used to man the sniper's nest, and we follow it to the Sionis steel mill, which Joker has converted into his base of operations. Massive metal clown and toy statues and all. And we enter right through the cooling tower to try and locate Joker. We continue on through the guts of the mill and rescue one of the doctors from Joker's thugs after a stealth section. Talking to the doctor, we learn that Joker's blood had been poisoned from his Titan usage in Asylum, and the Titan HGH in his blood is slowly killing him. But the nearby Harley statue overhears us, and she sicks her goons on us, who we get around and defeat by using a new gadget, the remote electrical charge. A sort of taser gun that can be used on generators all over the game to open up doors, and to use electronic currents to push and pull metal objects. You can also use it in combat by holding left trigger plus B or circle, giving you an attack that stuns enemies, just making your combat bag even deeper. And it's a great new addition to the lineup of Arkham gadgets. Once we're back in the loading bay, we use a generator to push and pull a hook to tear down the entrance to Joker's room. But we get denied entry by Mr. Hammer, a huge circus freak who used to be conjoined with his twin, Mr. Sickle, and has some pretty awesome and morbid character details, notably his scar running down the side of his body where he and his brother were separated. Mr. Hammer is technically our first, quote, boss of this game, but he's less of a boss and more of a special large enemy type, as he'd be completely trivial without thugs backing him up, only being able to slowly swing his sledgehammer around, which we can dodge pretty easily. We can also shock him with a remote electrical charge to make him spin like a top and hit his own friends. And then we just have to stand rush on him until we knock this Ivan out cold. And now we can finally confront the Joker. And as we enter his room, we see the Joker seemingly flatline and die, with Harley crying over his body. We shove her off and examine the body when suddenly, another healthy Joker appears and gasses Batman out. Damn, fell for the classic fake Joker gag. But in my defense, that's one damn good fake Joker. He's even got the inhuman skull and elongated chin. Cue a short Catwoman sequence where we get her gadgets from her house and take on waves of Poison Ivy mind-controlled goons. And when we're done with that, we catch back up with Batman getting a Joker blood transfusion, poisoning him with the Joker's tainted Reuter blood. We also come face to face with Joker for the first time this game, and he's looking a bit meaty. His face is rawed, pimpled, and cracked, and the dude is clearly not well. Mark Hamill's performance as Joker is still fantastic, if not even better than Asylum's. He's still just as whacked out and charismatic as ever, but now he's sick and desperate. And the same goes for Conroy's Batman, which is just as silky steely as ever. Joker claims that he had a cure, but lost it, and he had planned to trap and poison Batman in order to make him find the cure himself, being the world's greatest detective and all. And he had even donated his nasty-ass Joker blood to all the Gotham City hospitals, just so Batman would be even more motivated to find the cure, and wouldn't just let both of them die of Reuter leukemia. Joker then boots Batman out of the steel mill to find the cure, and FaceTimes him to tell him that Mr. Freeze was the one he was working on a cure with, but Mr. Freeze is currently MIA somewhere in the city, so we gotta track him to a cold location, which we trace to the old GCPD building, where Freeze had set up his field lab. Inside are some Penguin thugs we gotta prey on, and we find out that Freeze had been abducted by the Penguin and is being held in his museum, so there we shall go. On the way out, we upgrade our cryptographic sequencer, and we gotta use the sticks to find the console codes to exit the GCPD. It's functionally identical to the Asylum sequencer, but instead of making a big green waveform, you gotta find the usually relevant to the area code word to open it up. And on the way to the museum, we learn that the Riddler is back, and had kidnapped all the officers and doctors from the chapel while we were out contracting AIDS from swapping needles with the Joker. This introduces us to all the Riddler content, which there is a metric shit ton of in Arkham City, with over 400 riddles to solve, trophies to collect, and challenges to complete all across the game. And it's pretty nuts. There are trophies hidden in every nook and cranny of the map, and they have gotten much more robust than in Asylum. Anything from pressure plate gliding puzzles, electric ball mazes, using explosive gels and batarangs to hit question mark buttons, and like 300 other 90 riddles I can rattle off. The Riddler's been busting his ass to get this shit set up all over Arkham City, and collecting trophies unlocks extras like character models, challenge maps, and concept art, much like Asylum. But now instead of unlocking character bios for scanning riddles, you now get Arkham City stories, small lore passages that expand upon the lore of Arkham City and what happened in the 18 months since Joker's takeover of Arkham Asylum. Lots of extra Gotham lore about the backstories of villains, and the schemes of Professor Strange and the corrupt Gotham officials to make Arkham City a reality. It's a great reward for paying close attention and scanning those unique environment details. And there's probably no better gift for riddle hunters than some sweet, sweet lore. We don't have those reveal all maps anymore, but we can now interrogate Riddler informants for riddle locations. And you'll be cruising all over Arkham City, interrogating, scanning, and picking up riddles. And Arkham City's design itself really helps keep the riddle hunting pace quick and consistent. And there's very little need for backtracking through empty corridors like Asylum. Just pop open the map, tag a riddle, and fly on over to drop in and solve it. Simple as. And in my opinion, riddle hunting is at its absolute best in this game, due to the dense world design and the huge amount of varied riddles to solve, which a lot of are pretty interesting and clever, and require a strong understanding of the game's mechanics and gadgets. But you still got me fucked up if you think I'm getting every single riddle. I'm sorry. I'm just not strong enough. Alongside the huge amount of riddles, there are also added Riddler hostage missions that you can unlock for hitting riddle-solving milestones, which is a part of one of Arkham City's biggest additions from Asylum, the side quests. Arkham City introduces around 12 side quests for Batman to do, some being ridiculously simple, like having an entire dedicated side quest to picking up a disruptor upgrade, to more interesting ones like playing phone tag with Zsasz, destroying Titan Vats for Bane, tracking down Azrael, finding and detaining Deadshot, brawling with the Mad Hatter and his mind-controlled thugs, and the rabbit cowl he tries to control Batman with is actually downright horrifying. Jesus fuck. To a quest investigating a series of killings where all the victims had their faces stolen. They're all pretty small in scope, and some are pretty repetitive in nature, like having to do the Zsasz phone tag like 5 or 6 times to track his location. And Bane's quest just boils down to blowing up 6 Titan Vats all across the map. And Hush and Azrael's quests just make you find them to progress. But they really help fill out the city with extra content that isn't just riddles. And it's a great way to interact with some of the more obscure Batman rogues like Mad Hatter, Azrael, and Hush. And I really enjoy that aspect about them the most, despite the relative simplicity of all the quests. Back to the story. We head on over to the museum to take Mr. Freeze back from Penguin, but Penguin has locked the front door with a wall console, and Batman's sequencer is being jammed. So we gotta 360 out the door and disable 3 jammers, one of which is a bit far underground in a sweet-looking abandoned subway terminal. So after a fair bit of jammer fisting, we can finally gain access to the museum, and get rewarded with a T-Rex jump scare. Inside the museum, we learn that several GCPD officers are being held captive by the Penguin, so we gotta save them first before taking out the little guy. We then walk right into Penguin's Gladiator Arena, and we have to engage in a huge but very fun brawl, and Penguin even drops a Titan in on us to fight. Oh, throwback. But the Titans in the city are much easier to take on than in Asylum, as we can just beat on them after a super stun. No need for a batarang dodge here. And we can even ride them to perform shockwave attacks on all the swarming goons. And it's a pretty great time. Once the Titan and all his goons have been whooped, we can move on to this massive indoor lake of some kind. And we gotta traverse this area to find the rest of the cops, as well as the Blue Boy himself. And although the lake is pretty cool, and the massive shark living in it will make you shit your pants if you don't expect him, I always found this area to be a bit of a slog, as you have to slowly pull your raft around to get to each area of the museum, and it definitely starts to drag after 1 or 2 crossings. We rescue some more cops after a Predator segment where some enemies now have vision goggles, allowing them to see Batman while he's perched up on a gargoyle. But these guys are just here to prevent you from camping out on a single gargoyle for too long, so keep moving and repositioning, you'll be just fine. We find Freeze on the other side of the lake, but before freeing him, we gotta take out Mr. Hammer's brother, Mr. Sickle, and Boris here goes down the same as his brother Ivan. Stand rushing. And with Sickle down, we can free Freeze. But he's all lethargic and weak from Penguin stealing his suit and weapons. But despite his sorry state, he's still uncooperative. So after Batman steals his blue titty canister and spills out some of its contents, Freeze finally caves and he tells us that we can take out Penguin by getting an override for his freeze gun. So we go get the override from his freeze suit, backtracking over the water twice, and then we can finally take on the Penguin with our new disruptor gadget. We turn off his freeze gun that he stole, and we deliver an incredibly satisfying uppercut to the little goblin man's face. Before Batman can capture him, Penguin blows up the floor of the Iceberg Lounge, and Batman falls into an electrified arena with Solomon Grundy, a massive Frankenstein-like monster man who can be revived with electricity. And when he talks, he can only repeat the Solomon Grundy nursery rhyme. So what the hell is Reuter Frankenstein doing here? Well, when the Penguin had bought the Iceberg Lounge, he found Grundy chained up down here. And it's always a nice bonus when your new club comes with an immortal, hulking zombie locked up in your basement. And this Grundy fight is pretty interesting, because to beat him, you don't actually attack him directly. You plant explosive gel on the electric floor generators and blow them up, all the while dodging Grundy's lunges and ball chain swings and slams, which you can dodge most of, and moves like his ball swing and slam are very slow and telegraphed, making them pretty easy to dodge, and just rinse and repeat until his health bar gets low. and then you pummel him to take him down. But he fakes you out, and he tries to shove you into a generator, but he's no match for Batman's A-mashing skills. We blow up the floor generators one last time, and we take him down for good, literally crushing his heart to stop him. Brutal. Penguin then jumps down into the arena to try and shoot Batman with his rocket launcher, but luckily his aim is pure dog shit, and Batman just runs out of the way and pummels him into the dirt to finally subdue the Penguin for real this time. And this fight's got some pretty good spectacle with Grundy getting charged up, and Grundy himself is huge and proper intimidating. But the dead simple mechanics to just blow up the same spots 3 times and performing the occasional button mash QTE make this fight nothing special. But Grundy's presence here is signaling as something much larger, which will be revealed soon. We return to Mr. Freeze, who has suited back up, and he does a little cheeky torture on the Penguin and locks him up in a museum display. Freeze tells Batman that the cure is unstable, and he needs some kind of restoring enzyme to get it to work, which we don't have. But luckily for us, Batman knows somebody who could possess that human-bonded restorative enzyme we need. None other than Ra's al Ghul, who has lived for centuries thanks to his Lazarus pits. So to create this Joker AIDS cure, we need some of his blood. But while Freeze and Batman are discussing this cure, a League of Shadows assassin who Penguin had locked up in the room with us overhears our plan, and breaks out of her display prison and escapes after taking offense to Batman putting Ra's name in his mouth. But luckily for us, the assassin had cut herself on the glass as she broke out, and has left us a nice little blood trail to follow right to Ra's den. As we're following the assassin's trail, we run into Robin, who pleads with Bruce to let him help with Arkham City. But in typical Arkham Batman style, he tells Robin to fuck off and go find anyone who may have been infected with the Joker blood in the Gotham hospitals. But at least he gives us the line launcher. Thanks, Tim. Oh yeah, if you don't know, Tim Drake is famously the 3rd Robin, coming after Dick Grayson and Jason Todd. Anyway, we continue following the assassin, having placed a tracker on her back, which we follow underground through some really cool looking buried and ruined city blocks until we reach the massive metal doors of Wonder City, a long lost and buried city full of advanced technology like humanoid robots. And it has this awesome gothic art deco styling that always fascinated me. And I'm about to go on a tangent explaining the whole lore of this place, but I think it's really cool and really important context for the rest of the game's story, which you can easily miss if you aren't paying attention. So here it goes. By scanning the riddles you find here, you can learn the whole story of this place. And you learn that Wonder City was founded by none other than Ra's al Ghul himself, and was to be powered by Lazarus, the green water-like substance that you can see in the pipes all over Wonder City. And that's the same stuff that revives Ra's whenever he needs to take a de-aging bath. And Ra's was able to develop his Lazarus pits after finding Solomon Grundy in the swamps outside of Gotham City several hundred years ago. You see, Solomon Grundy used to be a man named Cyrus Gold, who had been murdered and dumped in Slaughter Swamp on the outskirts of Gotham. But these Gotham City swamps weren't normal, as it contained the mysterious chemical Lazarus, which combined with electricity from lightning striking the swamp on the night Cyrus Gold died, had revived him into the undead monster Solomon Grundy. Ra's al Ghul then discovered Grundy, and then killed him and brought him back to life repeatedly to experiment with the Lazarus, and he figured out how he was able to bring people back from the dead. And through this Grundy experimentation, he was able to create a whole new version of Lazarus to suit his needs, and he built the Lazarus pits, essentially just big pools of electrified Lazarus to keep him alive indefinitely, or to revive him if he died or became severely wounded. He also began to build Wonder City on top of his pits, and the city itself would be fueled by the Lazarus, which powered incredibly advanced technology for the time, like the automaton guardians we find all over the city. And he had even built the Wonder Tower that Hugo Strange is currently residing in as a conduit to collect electricity for the pits. Ra's would rule the city with his League of Assassins, brutally killing any criminals in secret to keep the city's appearance as a perfect place intact. But unfortunately for Ra's, there was a minor side effect to Lazarus usage, as it seemingly corrupted the minds of those who had contact with it, making them violent and unstable. And Wonder City soon devolved into a hellhole full of deranged criminals high off immortal swamp fart gas. Ra's himself fell victim to the Lazarus pits too, and he became dependent on using them, which made him even more unstable and violent with each Lazarus soak. Ra's eventually disappeared from Wonder City as it continued to fall into chaos, and the place was eventually destroyed and buried by Gotham officials, and new buildings were eventually built over it as the years went on, burying the city from view and memory. And I just think Wonder City is just such a cool place. I really love its design, the atmospheric aura, and the historical mystery it brings to the game. It's just so damn cool and endlessly fascinating as to what life was like in this city. And there's a deep and interesting story to be found if you take the time to solve the riddles, which also hints at the truth of Arkham City itself, and who's actually pulling the strings. It's great. But anyway, we progress through the city, taking out assassins and scanning mechanical guardians to find out how to get the next door open. But before we enter the final gate, the Joker AIDS infection really starts whooping Batman, so badly he almost ascends straight to heaven, seeing the silhouettes of his parents in front of a door that leads to a bright light. And they call out for him to join them, but Batman thugs that shit out and gets back up. But he's still in really bad shape, stumbling his way forward. We are then finally confronted by the assassins, and Batman's side hoe Talia al Ghul, Raish's intitted daughter and one of Batman's lovers. Brothers got pull. Batman tells her he's not here to slay Puss, but rather to take the demon trials and to join the League of Assassins. But in reality, we're here to just extend Batman's life a little bit longer and to get a blood sample from Raish. So we go downstairs and take a sip from this magical demon chalice, and the room crumbles into an otherworldly and ruined version of Arkham City. Not really sure what's going on. To pass, we have to do some gliding trials following Raish's ghost to proceed, and it's sweet to glide through and admire the absolutely foobarred landscape. Looks really incredible. And once we pass the trial, we confront Raish himself, who's looking just as fucked up as Joker. I guess spending the last 200 years underground huffing magical swamp gas isn't the greatest thing for your skin. Raish commands us to kill him, to take his place, and to fuck his daughter, which Batman refuses, as the only thing Batman really wanted was Raish. Well, his blood at least. Angered by Batman's refusal to fuck his daughter, he jumps into his magical bath and rejuvenates himself, and we start another boss fight with him. And this boss is the most interesting Arkham boss yet, as you have to first face off against a massive sand golem version of Raish, who throws shurikens, sends blade waves at you, and swings his sword down on you. And Batman's goal here is to dodge his attacks and hit Raish with his electric charge gun, timing it just right to get inside of the rotating Sandmen. And it can be pretty hectic and difficult to get a shot off at just the right time with all the shit flying at you. And once you've hit him a couple times, he pops out of the ground for a button-mashing sword swing flurry, and then he summons a horde of Sandmen to take you down. And you fight this sand army and the golem twice to defeat the boss. But this fight is made much easier thanks to autosaves during the fight, as it'll start you out at the second phase if you die during it. Defeating Raish's sand golem is pretty challenging, as you have to time your shots just right while dodging a shit ton of sword waves and attacks, and the window to sneak an electric charge in is pretty damn tight. And then having to fight a horde of Sandmen is a great change-up in the fight's pace that plays into the combat system's strengths, especially when you get to mash Y when all the Sandmen jump in on you to attack, and then you throw them all off with a very powerful anime-esque breakout. Classic. And it's the best fight in the Arkham series so far, although the checkpoints are very, very generous, which makes the fight difficult, yet not punishing at all, as I died at the final Sand Golem phase, but it respawned me right back at the start of the same final phase, which was a pretty big bailout. But overall, it's an exciting and almost overwhelming battle at times, that changes itself up to keep things constantly exciting and challenging. Once we defeat Raish, he then grabs Talia and puts a knife to her throat. He isn't playing around anymore. Detective, you will kill me, and you will fuck my daughter. But Batman, hater of domestic violence and respecter of women, throws a reverse battering to stun Raish and then subdues him, and we steal a hearty sample of his blood. Talia then storms off, mad that Batman didn't actually want to join her genocidal eco-terrorist League of Assassins. And I guess the whole dad trying to murder you shit is just par for the course in the Al Ghul household. But with Raish's magical swamp blood in hand, we can finally return to Freeze and create the Joker AIDS cure. After getting topside, we hear something a little ironic. We hear that Mayor Quincy Sharp himself had gotten thrown into Arkham City. Damn, even the mayor got locked up. So we catch up to him, and we perform a gentle questioning about Strange and Arkham City itself.
No! Please, no!
I want to know all about Strange.
Sharp tells us that Hugo Strange had approached him with the idea for Arkham City, and had mentioned that he has rich and powerful friends to support his city prison project. And Sharp was nothing more than a stooge for Strange, using Sharp's position as mayor to get the city built, and then throwing him away when he wasn't useful anymore. So now we have to figure out who exactly these rich and powerful friends are. But before we do that, we gotta cure our Joker AIDS. So we head back to the GCPD and give Freeze the blood sample, and he synthesizes 2 vials of the cure. But before we can take it, Freeze makes a heel turn and breaks one of the vials, attempting to use the cure as leverage to force Batman to find his popsicle wife, who had been abducted by the Joker. But screw that, this dude just bought himself an ass beating. The Mr. Freeze fight is widely considered the best fight in the entire Arkham series, and it's for good reason. It's an absolute clinic on Predator mechanics, and the fight is built perfectly around them. You can't attack Freeze directly, so you have to sneak up on him and use takedowns to damage him. There's one caveat though, as Freeze will adapt after each attack, and you won't be able to use that same takedown method again twice, forcing you to get creative and to change up your attacks. You can sneak behind him, get him from a grate, do an inverted takedown, get him from a ledge, use explosive gel to stun him, use the environment to shock him, get him through a window, both vertically and horizontally, and any other takedown type you can think of. It lets the player come up with their own best strategies to take down Freeze, and it requires you to use almost all the takedown tools you have at your disposal, and it's more of a mental battle than a physical one, which fits perfectly with Batman's fighting style. It's great, although it's still not perfect, as some of the fight is just boring baiting and waiting for Freeze to wander into the right spot for you to take him down, and he follows your footsteps in your general path. and you can exploit this to lead him into takedown ambushes. But it may be a while before he meanders into just the right spot. But despite this downtime, it's a fantastically clever boss, and the best boss in the series so far. Sorry, Raish. You were pretty good, but this one's even better. Once we whoop Freeze's ass, we finally beat some humility into him. But as we're beating him down, his head eventually turns into the Joker's head, who starts maniacally laughing in our faces. This will become very important 2 games from now. But we finally come back to our senses, and we go to take the cure out of the safe, which we find has been stolen by Joker and Harley. Shit. Looks like we gotta go teach that clown bastard another lesson, so we head on over to the steel mill. Along the way, we save one of Bruce's squeezes, Vicky Vale, from a helicopter crash, and then we move on to whoop some clown ass for real. We make it back to the steel mill, and clear the area of wandering thugs, and head inside. And once inside, we use our sweet new freeze blast to create ice platforms and navigate the waterways inside. And we head back to the Joker's office. And along the way, we see a recorded message from the Joker on TV. And he looks surprisingly great. His case of clown leprosy has seemingly gone away completely. That Mr. Freeze Pfizer works amazingly, it seems. We continue on, and eventually run into the doctor we found earlier, who warns us that the thugs are now using mines to try and blow up Batman. Mines are placed by new minor thugs, and they work exactly how you expect them to. Step on one, blam, ding, ow. They'll force you to be more careful when sneaking around on the ground, but you can clearly see them highlighted through detective vision, so just keep an eye out, and you'll be fine. They're nothing crazy, and you can even use the disruptor to disable them. We then clear out this room of thugs and mines in a fairly difficult predator section, and once these little thuggies have been tucked in for bedtime, we can find Harley tied up. Fantastic. But we continue on towards Joker, and we hear on the radio that Protocol 10 will be starting in 10 minutes. Damn, it's almost time to party.
Protocol 10 will commence in 10 minutes.
Throughout the game, I really enjoyed hearing Strange's countdown to Protocol 10. It's a nice way of gauging how far into the story you are, and the tension just builds higher and higher as the countdown reaches its end. And there's probably no better way to start Protocol 10 than with a showdown with Joker. So we confront him. We see a still sickly looking Joker applying some red lipstick before his boyfriend Batman arrives. So maybe that cure doesn't work as well as I thought. But when Joker turns to face Batman, he heals up instantly and looks good as new. How the hell did Joker lose his leprosy? Is he divine? I don't know. Whatever's going on, there's definitely something off about Joker, as he jumps down to fight Batman in hand-to-hand combat, despite him being in his lanklet-based Joker form, which is like a coughing baby trying to fight a hydrogen bomb. But things are back to normal real quick when Joker calls in a bunch of goons to help fight Batman. We get a tough battle against multiple different enemy types, knife enemies, Joker himself, a Titan. We even get a rematch with Mr. Hammer, who works the same as his first fight, so that Ivan goes down again no problem. And once we defeat all the enemies, the ceiling suddenly collapses down on us, trapping Batman in the rubble, leaving him defenseless against Joker. But just before Joker was about to seemingly stab Batman to death, Talia then suddenly reappears, and offers Joker some Lazarus immortality in exchange for not killing Batman. And the Joker accepts this deal, and Talia hands him over her sweet demon sword. But before they leave, Talia looks at Batman and activates her titty tracker, so it seems like she's still on her side for now, whatever her plan might be. But in the meantime, Batman is passed out and trapped under rubble, with no way to escape on his own. So cue a Catwoman mission to get her loot back, but before she leaves with her loot, she sees Batman trapped in the rubble on a TV screen, and she decides to go save him from becoming Flatman, paying him back for saving her earlier. Once Batman is back on his feet, we see that Protocol 10 has begun, and we finally see what Strange has been planning all this time. Protocol 10 is simply a kill everyone command, where Strange's Tiger Guards enter the city with helicopters and shoot and kill any prisoners they can find, in order to completely wipe out Gotham's prisoner and thug population in one stroke. And it's pretty gruesome. Dead bodies can be seen all over Arkham City in detective mode, and the Tiger Choppers are calling out kills like they're Chris Smoove in an AC-130.
Multiple targets down. Body count is high. Hit successful. Multiple inmate casualties.
Another multi-kill. I'm clapping ass.
And now, Strange's plan all makes sense. His goal with Arkham City is straightforward, but extremely clever. Pen up all the prisoners in one big open area, smuggle weapons into Arkham City and let chaos and gang wars break out, cite said chaos as the reason to enact Protocol 10, and then fry those prisoners like chicken, and then celebrate the success of destroying all the scum and villainy of Gotham. Batman wants to head right for Talia and save her, but he gets a pep talk from Alfred to first stop Strange and all the killing first, as it's the truly right thing to do. And it's a great little moment that reminds the player about Batman's true morals, and all the while the soundtrack is just gorgeous, sounding very grim, yet hopeful, just like the games themselves. That overture is singing.
Batman must save Gotham. I'm sorry, but
Deep down, you know I'm right.
Oracle, do not lose Talia's signal. Okay, the tower's locked down. No way in without the codes.
So to stop Strange for good, we have to confront him at the top of Wonder Tower. To get inside the tower, we need a master code from one of the attacking Tiger helicopters. So we gotta fly all around Arkham City scanning the helicopters. And it's a pretty cool section that has the entire map open to find the right chopper. And listening to the choppers announce their kills and strikes really adds to the sense of urgency. And once we get the codes, we can enter the tower the same way we came in during the opening, which is a nice throwback. And we brawl with some Tiger thugs to proceed. And after that is another challenging Predator section at the base of Wonder Tower, having pretty much every Predator enemy type. Snipers, miners, X-ray vision guys, and this one took me a few tries. But once they're down, we can get a lift from the Wonder Tower elevator, where Strange gloats to us about his victory in Arkham City. Yeah man, you really mowed down those thugs. We take on some more security guards and climb the tower Assassin's Creed style, and once at the top, we do one last Predator section to clear it all out, all the while Strange is locked up in the central room, who can see you from any angle like a panopticon. So you gotta watch out for where he's looking too, as he will call you out to the guards if he spots you. It's a pretty difficult Predator section, as all the gargoyles are outside and not inside, forcing you to adapt to the lack of viable vantage points, and to stay low to the ground. But once all the guards are put to sleep like some adorable kittens, we can finally confront Strange, and we give him a much needed boot. Batman and Oracle then deactivate Protocol 10, but Strange gets back up. He starts gloating about his powerful friends and connections, and that Arkham City is just the beginning of his work. But before he can finish his villainous monologue, a sword pierces through his chest, and behind him stands Ra's al Ghul, the true mastermind behind Arkham City. And we now have the full picture. We learn that sometime between Arkham Asylum and City, Strange had figured out Batman's identity, and reported it to Ra's. Impressed by his deduction skills, Ra's decided to fully fund Strange's plan for Arkham City, which we now know is a veiled plan to exterminate all of Gotham's criminals. Strange wanted to succeed Ra's and lead his League of Assassins in killing the world's scum and villainy. But since Batman stopped Strange before he could fully complete Protocol 10, Ra's decided to kill Strange and take the reins of the operation himself. And it's a pretty good twist on its own, but it's even better if he took the time to really investigate Wonder City and read some of the Arkham City stories they unlocked, as there are a lot of parallels between Ra's Wonder City and Strange's Arkham City. And you could have possibly deduced that Ra's was Strange's shadowy ally ahead of time from just that info, and it's pretty great. Before he dies, Strange activates Protocol 11. And what does that do? Well, it blows up the observation deck of Wonder Tower. The blow myself up protocol. Ra's and Batman jump out of the tower together, and Batman grabs him from behind, with Ra's planning to use his sword to stab through himself and Batman, killing them both. But Batman sees this coming, and simply lets go of Ra's, who stabs himself and lands right on top of the A in the Arkham City sign, tearing himself a gargantuan new asshole. He'll feel that one in the morning. But with Strange dead and Ra's dead, again, and Protocol 10 deactivated, we can finally go after Joker and Talia, who are in the theater. And once we get inside, we find Joker holding Talia hostage. And while Joker and Batman are arguing, Talia uses her ninja training for once and breaks free and stabs Joker through the chest with his sword. Holy shit, Joker dead? Well, who knows? But for now, Talia hands us the Joker AIDS cure that she stole from Harley before. So that's why she was tied up. Joker never actually got the cure. Talia took it. But if that's the case, then who's that clean Joker? But that's when Batman comes to a realization. There were actually two Jokers the whole time. Damn, double jerked again. He realizes that Joker is still quite sick from the Titan, and that he's in an immediate trap. Talia then gets shot right in the spine, and dies. And her body vanishes from the room, never to be seen again. We look up and we see the real Joker up in the second level of the theater, looking worse than ever. Looks like he just fell into a boiling grease trap. Bro is raw. The fake Joker then wakes, takes the cure, and reveals himself as Clayface, who had joined in with Joker to kill Batman, and to have some fun playing Joker a bit. He is an actor after all. And I think this is another great twist, and it uses Clayface's powers in a really clever way. And seasoned fans of the Batman franchise may have been able to tell that it was Clayface the whole time, just based on the clues. Although if you were like me, and when you first played Arkham City, I had no idea who Clayface was. So this twist was a bit lost on me personally. But I still really like this fake Joker reveal, and it leads to the game's surprise final boss. Clayface can launch long-range punches, sweeping attacks, clay hammer slams, jump slams, blast you with clay projectiles, and he even turns into a rolling clay ball with a really scary face. And you gotta parry his punches and dive around like a madman for all the other attacks. All the while you're hucking freeze blasts at him to freeze his body, so you can cut him up with the sword he got stabbed with earlier. which is still stuck in his back. He keeps the pressure on you, but most of his attacks are easily dodged, and this game gives you a lot of breathing room to dodge. The timings are pretty generous, making this first phase pretty easy. And once his health has been depleted and he freezes up, we grab the sword and do some moon jumps to cut him to pieces. Batman's got like a 6-foot vertical, god damn. But before we can finish him off, Joker blows up the floor of the theater, and if I had a nickel for every time a villain in this game blew up the floor during a boss fight, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's kind of funny that it happened twice. But anyway, we fall through the floor and into a Lazarus pit for round 2. Clayface now has little clay goons to fight you with, so we now have to manage the clay goons and dodge the occasional clay spit attack, all the while still lobbing freeze blasts at Clayface. It's fun to one-shot the little clay goons with the sword, and it can get pretty overwhelming if you let too many spawn in. But this second phase is still no sweat, and soon enough, we freeze up Clayface again, and jump right into his mouth, and cut Clayface open from the inside out. Was there no other way to beat him? Why did Batman do this? Does Bruce have a vor fetish? Anyway, we finally get back our cure from his mouth and take a sip. And that shit looks delicious, by the way. I've always wanted to try a sip of the Joker AIDS cure. But finally, after all this time, we've cured our Joker leukemia. But Joker is still here, and he's about to take a nice Lazarus bath for some eternal life. We can't be having that. So Batman pulls out his sword, lines up his shot, and throws an absolute dime. Damn, Bruce should play quarterback. That shit was a rocket. And he throws the sword right into the control panel of the Lazarus Pit electrical emitter thing, knocking Clayface into the pit and destroying it. And considering Clayface never comes back in the Arkham series after this, I think we may have just killed him. Whoops. But we can forget about Clayface, because Batman has a choice to make. He has enough cure to save the Joker, but he knows that keeping Joker alive will just cause more problems and chaos in the future, no matter how many times he's defeated and locked up by Batman. He eventually always breaks out with some new whacked out scheme that usually ends with dozens or hundreds dead. But before Batman can make a choice on whether to save him or not, Joker ambushes Batman, stabbing him in the arm that he's holding the cure with, causing him to drop it on the ground, breaking it. Now this is an actual is he stupid moment. You jabbed the wrong arm, Jinkler. What did you think was gonna happen? Joker tries to slurp up the cure off the floor like a dog, but to no avail. It's over. Batman then tells him that this is pretty funny, because despite everything, he still would have saved Joker and gave him the cure. That no-kill rule is ironclad. And Joker agrees that it is pretty funny, and he dies laughing, with a grim smile on his face. We then see Batman carrying Joker's body out of the theater, mirroring the Cain and Abel picture from the opening shot. It's a great touch. Gordon then asks Batman what happened, but Batman doesn't respond, stoically mewing as the screen fades to black on the damaged bat signal on his chest. And it's such a great ending. The callback to the painting is super clever and perfectly foreshadowed. In ending the story on Batman's greatest foil dying was a pretty big dick move by the writers, and it's a great way of showing how the experience has permanently changed Batman. With no Joker to contend with, who will take his place? Will anyone? Joker has always been the one to push Batman to his absolute limits, both physically and morally, and it's a whole new Gotham with him gone. If only Joker stabbed Batman's left arm instead of the right. And with that, that's the story of Arkham City complete. Overall, Arkham City is just such a great game, man. It's better than Asylum in pretty much every way. The map is large, dense, and 10 times better to traverse than Asylum with some great movement improvements and grapnel upgrades. The story is bigger, deeper, and much more narratively impactful. And I really like characters like Hugo Strange with his demented obsession with succeeding Batman and his overall pretty solid plan. He just had the misfortune of being ops with Batman, which usually doesn't end well. Joker's story and death and Mark Hamill's performance were all spectacular. Kevin Conroy is even better as Batman in City, and Catwoman makes my dick hard. Combat is even more robust with new enemy types like shield and armored enemies, making it more strategic and less button mashy. It's just an upgrade across the board. Bosses are also so much better, with fights like Mr. Freeze and Ra's al Ghul being some of the greatest bosses in the entire series. And this is all on top of a decent selection of side quests, challenges, and more. And riddle hunting is probably at its very best in this game. The riddles are clever and all over the place, and being able to mark riddles and the ability to drop in and solve them whenever you want really streamlines the riddle hunting grind incredibly well. Arkham City is damn near perfect. It's an open world game with almost no bloat, and it feels like the fully realized version of Arkham Asylum the devs set out to make. There's not really much else to say, really. There's really not much wrong with this game. I don't know. The side quests are pretty simple and shallow. The combat is still pretty easy overall. Predator stealth is still more or less the same. The Deadshot fight is a total joke. I don't know, man. This game could get the pipe. It's just so good. And it's one of my favorites. There isn't really much to criticize here at all. And this isn't all there is to Arkham City either, as the Harley Quinn's Revenge DLC is available as a sort of short epilogue to City. But I'll talk about all the Arkham DLCs later on. But with that, we can move on to our third game, and the odd one out of the franchise, Arkham Origins. Arkham Origins is a bit of an odd game for me. This is the only Arkham game I hadn't played before I decided to make this video. But it seems this game isn't odd for just me, as it's even left off the Arkham Collections bundle. Back in the day, a la 2013, I played Arkham City, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. But when I saw that the next Arkham game, Arkham Origins, wasn't being developed by Rocksteady, but rather WB Montreal filling in while they were working on Arkham Knight, I was a bit skeptical. And upon release, Origins got a collective, "it alright," from critics. And due to these two factors, I decided to skip Origins for the time being. But there's no time like the present. And 11 years later, now's as good a time as any to see if Origins is still worth playing, and if it's a worthy entry in the Arkham series. Arkham Origins opens on a bat, no man, before Man walks in, scaring away the bats. Man watches a TV feed on his man-puter, where a young Commissioner Gordon denies the existence of a Batman, before we see Alfred drop off some food for Man. Whilst on the radio, we hear about a prison break and a riot going on at Blackgate Prison, led by Mafia boss and possible racist, Black Mask. Man then equips the Batsuit, turning into the Batman. Alfred reminds Batman that it's Christmas Eve, but Batman is a jollyless Santa denier, and he flies off to Blackgate in his Batwing to quell the riot, starting the game proper. We still play as Batman, of course. Whew, thank God. But this is a much greener Batman than we're used to. Arkham Asylum's Batman is the career Batman. He's been doing crime fighting for several years at the start of that game, and all the police know him well, respect him, and work closely with him. But in Origins, Batman has only been doing this whole Batman thing for only a little while, and most people don't even know he exists, or even believe he exists. Batman also sounds different, as this youngblood Batman isn't voiced by Kevin Conroy, but rather Roger Craig Smith, who you may know better as Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, he's no Kevin Conroy, but I still like his performance here as Batman, and I think he fits the character well, and he gives some solid performances, especially when confronting thugs or villains. You can really hear the rage in his voice at times, and the younger sounding voice makes this rage feel more believable. I could never imagine Conroy's voice ever getting this pissed off.
You want teeth? I want answers. Talk, or you won't be walking anywhere, ever.
Batman also has a fancy new suit, being noticeably more armored and advanced than his Asylum and City suits, which look more flat and spandexy. Here, his armor is thicker in all aspects, and his cowl seems bigger and more protected. And it's a bit funny because this cool armored suit makes the later Arkham suits look way less advanced and safe by comparison. But it reflects Batman's comparative inexperience in this game, and it would make more sense that he'd want a more armored suit in his early career. And once he's been doing the whole Batman thing for a while, he'd opt for a lighter, less advanced suit to make him more agile and mobile, and to flex on these thugs. But anyway, Batman enters the prison and finds a thug pressing the warden, and they're both incredibly shocked to see this massive, brolic man in an armored bat costume standing behind them. And it's a great moment. It's a lot of fun to watch character reactions at first seeing Batman, as he's still a bit of an urban legend at this point in the timeline. The warden tells us that Black Mask had come to the prison to capture GCPD Commissioner Loeb for some unknown reason, so we gotta go find him. We get a combat tutorial, and we learn that Black Mask is taking Loeb to the execution chamber. That's probably not good. So we continue on, and this whole prison serves as a tutorial, teaching you the battle mechanics, traversal, enemy types, gadgets, and so on. And it's a pretty great tutorial, probably the best in the entire series, and it gives you everything you need while kicking off the story, whereas other Arkham games sort of drip feed you control tutorials as you progress, so it's nice to get a bulk of the tutorials out of the way in one stroke. We catch up to Black Mask, who had recruited the most human-looking Killer Croc iteration in the entire series to help him start the prison riot. We learn that Black Mask is here to kill Loeb, as he's been bribing Loeb to not lock up his own goons, but thanks to the work of the Batman, his goons were getting beat up and arrested anyway, so Black Mask is here to force a job change. So we beat up more goons, murder some vents, and follow them to the execution chamber, where Black Mask throws Loeb in the damn gas chamber and kills him. Damn, Gotham's got some brutal capital punishment laws. No injection or chair. You get the fucking chamber. Jeez. As we observe this execution through a one-way mirror, Killer Croc then smashes a Black Mask thug into the observation window for seemingly no reason, and the massive crack he creates lets us jump through the mirror. We then pick up a memory card from a destroyed drone and chase after Mask and Croc. And once on the roof, Black Mask escapes via helicopter, but Killer Croc stays behind to fight us, kicking off the game's first boss battle. Killer Croc charges you down and tries to whoop the shit out of you. Croc will also pick up massive gas tanks to teach you about quick-firing batarangs in combat. And from there, it's a pretty straightforward boss battle where you stun and stand rush Croc while managing some thugs that jump in to help him. And we beat his ass with a QTE. And for a first boss, it's actually a really damn solid fight. And it hits on using most of the combat tutorials you performed in the prison, And Croc can be pretty brutal with his attacks if you aren't careful, so this fight isn't just a total cakewalk either. But once he's been whooped, and as Batman is pummeling him over the ledge, he reveals that Black Mask has hired some assassins to kill Batman, and Batman eventually knocks his ass out from too many punches to the face during his interrogation. And it's a nice little moment that shows his rawness as the Bat, and it shows how this younger Batman is much more brutal than his wizened, mellowed out older self. And once we're done interrogating Croc, Gordon and the GCPD show up and try to detain Batman, but he summons his Batwing jet and escapes, this being the first time Commissioner Gordon has ever laid eyes on Batman. Batman then returns to the Batcave to analyze the memory card he picked up, and we get introduced to the progression tree in this game, which has a decent tree of upgrades, but you have to unlock the tree in linear order, so some of the better skills will be out of reach for a long while. The basic health and armor upgrades are just fine and par for the course, but the gadget upgrades are a bit of a mess, unlocking some nice but unnecessary situational upgrades, and I didn't really bother getting deep into the advanced gadget moves and usages. And I'd say you'd only want to get deep into those if you really want to sauce all over these goons with your bat toys. But when I play these games, I prefer to keep my gadgets simple and straightforward, and I'll let Batman's fists and kicks do most of the work. Once we're done talking with NPC Alfred, and I think Origins is the only Arkham game where Alfred is a fully modeled NPC that we can interact with. So all you Alfred heads out there will love this one. Later on in the game, you can even visit him for a 10,000 experience point Alfred wisdom boost, and there's even a little sub-story about him dealing with a massive bat in the Batcave. And it's safe to say that Arkham Origins has the best Alfred mechanics in the entire series. We then check that memory card we grabbed from that prison drone, and on the memory card, we learn about all the assassins Black Mask had hired to kill us with, one of which we already took care of, Killer Croc, so that leaves a total of 7 left. The other 7 are Deathstroke, the martial arts master assassin with some cool-ass armor, Firefly, a jetpack-wearing pyromaniac who flies around and lights shit on fire with his cartoonishly powerful flamethrower, Copperhead, an unknown boob lady with elite contortionist skills who loves to use poison, Deadshot, the world's greatest gun shooter and a master of bullet bending, the Electrocutioner, who? Shiva, a member of the League of Assassins, and finally, Bane himself. And whoever kills the Bat gets a nice sack of 50 million buck PayPal. So it looks like Batman's gonna have a busy Christmas. But for now, our only lead is to find who is using this drone to spy on Black Mask. And only the Penguin would have the resources to obtain a sweet-ass drone like this. So we head out to find him, and hop in the Batwing and head out. As we fly on over to Gotham City though, we get some bad news, as it seems the massive radio towers across the city are jamming the Batwing systems, so we're forced to land and see what's going on at one of these towers. We then get a tutorial on Predator mechanics, and we use a smoke pellet to escape. I guess Asylum Batman forgot his smoke pellet pouch back in the Batcave. But speaking of Predator mechanics, they're pretty much wholly unchanged from Arkham City here, so there's really not much to discuss. It still works just fine, and it's still lots of fun. That's all you need. We then reach the control room of the tower, and have to figure out how to get inside using Batman's new detective crime scene reconstruction mechanic. You scan evidence and things of interest in the area, and it builds a holographic recreation of the crime. It's pretty cool to get deep into the actual detective work of the world's greatest detective, and it fits well. But it's also dead simple, and the clues are usually incredibly obvious, making these investigations really easy. At the crime scene, we learn that the technician had exploded and died trying to access the console, which was rigged to explode. We find the technician's keycard and get a cryptographic sequencer tutorial to get inside, and we turn off the jammer. We are then greeted by a JPEG of the Riddler. Get familiar with this static image. It's pretty much all we see of Riddler here. And once we turn off the jammer, it unlocks a nearby fast travel point, allowing us to travel to the Batwing icon at any time. And there are 7 total jammers to deactivate to unlock all the drop points. And this whole Jammer Tower quest is such a 2013-ass game design choice. It's almost ripped right out of a Ubisoft game. But instead of climbing the tower, you just gain access to its control room. But you can't unlock all the jammer sites until late in the game, as you need later gadgets to reach the control rooms. But they're effectively like any other open world game tower. Nothing special. And like I mentioned, all they unlock is fast travel points, which may sound a bit odd. Fast travel in an Arkham game? Yup. Origins has the honor of being the only Batman Arkham game with a fast travel system, as the map has been expanded a solid amount from Arkham City, about double the size, give or take. And it has the entire Arkham City map in the north, plus a whole new southern part of Gotham City, connected by this long-ass bridge between them. Now having a bigger game map is always great, in theory, but in practice, Origins fumbles having a much larger world to work with. Firstly, the game takes place on Christmas Eve in a snowstorm, so all the buildings and roads are covered in partial or thick snow, which works great to really set the tone and Christmas setting with all the decorations and snowfall, but it also makes the map look a bit boring and washed out in some cases, as everything just looks like a dull white mass. And as you explore and glide around the map, you'll begin to realize why fast travel was added in the first place. Traversal simply isn't that fun in Origins. There's been virtually no changes to the grappling and gliding, being identical to Arkham City. which work perfectly in that game due to the city's compact and dense design, as well as having a shit ton of grappleable ledges to keep you flying and going at pretty much all times. But in Origins, I ran into several places where I was forced to land because I couldn't grapple onto a certain building or ledge, when it seems like I definitely could have. And this made traversal in Origins feel noticeably clunkier and more limited than it ever did in Arkham City. Also, the Gotham Pioneers Bridge is extremely boring to cross. You just grapple, glide, grapple to the next wire overhang, glide again, and repeat until you cross it. It's just boring. And whenever I needed to get from one end of the city to the other, I just called in the Batwing, because crossing the bridge is just a waste of time. And all of this combined makes the traversal and world exploration in this game surprisingly weak. But anyway, we still need to find the Penguin. So we crash an arms deal his goon Loose Lips is holding, and I love the goons in Origins. They have some pretty funny voice lines when you whoop their asses in combat.
I hate you so much!
And I just love hearing their reaction to seeing Batman for the first time. It's great to put the fear of God in these guys just with your presence. So we abduct Loose Lips and throw him off a building, non-lethally of course. And we steal his phone to find Penguin's location. Turn off another Riddler Ubisoft tower or two, and we learn that the Penguin is located in the big ship docked in northern Gotham. So we go say hi. We clear out the guards on the ship, and we enter the final offer, which is another pretty cool level. It's an old ship refurbished to be a massive arms shop and fighting arena, and we enter said arena to make ourselves known. Penguin's cartoonishly British assistant wants to give us a proper thrashing, right?
And he deserves a right proper welcome, don't he, lads?
And she reveals that the electrocutioner is in the building, ready to kill Batman. He flexes his electricity and hypes up the crowd, and then gets one-shotted by a flying bat kick to the face, getting zero diffed by Batman. I love it. We then fight a horde of Penguin thugs, and once they're down, we find the Penguin is up in his office. Likely place for him to be, and we chase after him, doing some fun battering puzzles along the way. We catch up with Tracy and throw her in prison for that horrible accent, and we move on to more goons and do a Predator section, where we take out some goons tormenting a Falcone family thug. We rescue the thug, and he tells us that Penguin has his boss, Alberto Falcone, held hostage, who we soon see getting tortured by the Penguin. So we crash this torture session and demand to know where Black Mask is. Penguin tells Batman that Black Mask's apartment had been broken into, but before we learn more, we get dragged back into the arena by Deathstroke himself, kicking off our third assassin encounter. The Deathstroke fight is an interesting one, as it's very cinematic and bombastic. Batman and Slade trade blows and counters, furiously wailing on each other like Indian and Chinese soldiers at the border, and your movement is locked into assaulting Slade head-on, giving this fight an almost fighting game-like structure. And all the animations are exciting and brutal to keep you locked in. But the actual fight itself is pretty damn simple. Just mash X to strike and Y to counter whenever you see the blue lightning, and rinse and repeat until Slade drops a smoke bomb and goes in for a flurry attack, which you block by mashing Y. And if your mashing was successful, you get the stand rush Deathstroke in return for some huge damage. And besides that, his only other unique attack is to use his line launcher-esque tool to pull explosive barrels into you, which is just a Y counter. And you eventually break his staff and he pulls out his sword, where he'll have longer combos, and if you mess up the timing on your counters, he'll punish you with some undodgeable attacks. But if you got that counter timing down, he won't touch you. Now this fight could have easily just evolved into a glorified cutscene, and a lot of it is indeed pre-baked animation sequences with counter opportunities added. But this fight is actually pretty long, and it's a real test of endurance for Batman, especially on hard mode, which makes the fight even longer. And although the actual mechanics of the fight are pretty railroaded and dead simple, and positioning is a complete non-factor, this fight still manages to be very fun and exciting, and it fully succeeds in presenting a brutal martial arts battle between two equals. And I totally see why this fight is so beloved. But we make Deathstroke kiss our feet anyway, and steal his remote claw tool he used to fling barrels into us. It's essentially just a limited line launcher, being able to shoot a line between two predetermined points. It's alright. It's like the line launcher, but worse. But hey, at least Slade gave it a bat-aesthetic design for us when we took it from him. While we were fighting, Penguin had buggered off to go hide in his fortified office, so we call Alfred to learn more about the break-in Penguin mentioned. Alfred tells us that it seems that Black Mask himself was the victim of the break-in, so we head on over to his apartment to investigate. And while we're on the way out, we see a masked villain screaming about Gotham society on the ship's TVs, and we learn that this is Anarchy, one of the most wanted villains in Origins, which introduces us to the non-Riddler side quests in this game, which function very similarly to Arkham City's side quests, most of them being pretty simple series of tasks before taking on the criminal in question. For example, Anarchy's quests here will have you finding an Anarchy goon, talking to him, and starting a countdown where you have to fly to the bomb location, defeat the goons guarding it, and defuse it before the timer runs out. And once you complete all the bomb defusals, you take on Anarchy himself, and whoop his ass and get him sent to the doghouse. The other side quests are just as simple, deactivating weapons caches, finding one of the assassins Shiva, which is like one investigation and like one fight with her, blowing up drug barrels, this one being copied and pasted from Bane's quest in Arkham City, beating up goon squads to take down someone named Bird, and so on. It's almost bar for bar the same as Arkham City's quests, but it does have some better aspects. The Mad Hatter's quest has a whole side-scroller level unto itself in a twisted version of Wonderland, which is way better than just the Pocket Watch arena we got in Arkham City. And the Deadshot fight is way better in this game, as instead of just doing 20 seconds of sneaking to one-shot him, it's a whole Predator section where you have to attack Deadshot multiple times, while avoiding new guards who come into the room. And it's much better and much more challenging this time around. And there's even a hidden quest to scan plaques hidden across the map to learn about the fate of Gotham's legendary architect, Cyrus Pinckney. But overall, most of the side quests here are just as simple and straightforward as they were before, but they do have some improvements over City's quests in some areas, so they're ultimately worthwhile to complete. Also, I haven't yet mentioned the Riddler trophies, and that's because there aren't any, and there are now Enigma data packs, which function the same as Riddler trophies, but are broken up into 20 sets of 10 data packs, which if collected, unlock some audio files for some expanded Arkham character lore, and I spent the least amount of time hunting for trophies in this game, only really grabbing the ones I happened to come across, as I had really no desire to find 200 data packs just for some lore fluff, and it would have taken just way too long. Also, these glowing boxes just don't hit the same as those funny little question mark trophies. The Riddler has also set up 70 relays across Gotham for you to destroy, so yippee, more busy work. But if you're really into the Riddler content and trophy hunting, there's a lot of Riddler side content for you to sink your teeth into in this game. But overall, I was pretty disengaged from the Riddler content here. But back to the story. We head on over to Black Mask's apartment, and we find a grisly sight. A dead body that appears to be Black Mask himself, a strung up dead woman, and the apartment is just a total disaster. Using our crime scene analyzer, we reconstruct the scene, and we get a picture of the situation. Someone had shot Black Mask, but the shooter was then attacked by someone coming through the balcony, but the attacker was subdued by the shooter. During the investigation, we also learn about a new criminal known only as the Joker. I wonder who's behind this apartment attack. But we don't know for 100% certainty, and we have to access the National Criminal Database to test the evidence, to find out who is who in this situation. But the only way to gain access to the database is to break into the GCPD and manually jack into their systems, so we head on over. We arrive at the GCPD, and I really like the premise of this section, having to go up against the GCPDs in Arkham series first, and it's pretty memorable because of that. Also, it's pretty interesting to learn about how corrupt they are at this point in the story, and how they're one of the main enablers of villains like Black Mask, even working directly with him to take out Batman. We can also spy on Gordon, and learn about his integrity as an honest cop despite his corrupt department, and he's got that Jarl Ballin voice in this game.
That they're all competing for a huge bounty, which Black Mask has offered for the head of the Bat.
So we sneak on through the GCPD, beating up crooked cops as we make our way to the server room, and we even get to prey on some of the boys in blue in another fun Predator section. We then head to the basement and grab the disruptor, which we can use to get into the server room. We also start and quell a prison riot by beating up the police guards, and then beating up the criminals who got out afterwards. We then head back up and access the server room, and run into a young Barbara Gordon, and there's a cute little scene where she helps out Batman with getting past the GCPD security systems, telling him he needs to access the telecom wires in the sewers to gain full access to the database. And on our way out, we run into Gordon again, and this being the first time Gordon and Batman actually interact with each other in the series. We try to reason with him, but some gun-toting SWAT guys barge in and interrupt us, forcing Batman to clonk out Gordon and to use his new jammer to deactivate their weapons and escape. We then head into the sewers, where we run into some Black Mask thugs, along with the only new enemy type in the game, the martial artist. When he attacks, you have to counter him twice, and when you try to strike him, he'll likely dodge out of the way, and they're immune to ground takedowns, making them more of a defensive enemy, as you'll damage them mostly during counters, or when you sneak in a hit during a flowing combo. However, at least for me, these guys were also a bit buggy, as they'd sometimes get stuck when about to attack, as the lightning will appear above their heads, and you press Y, but he doesn't attack, and your combo breaks. And this happened to me a few times, which made fighting these guys a bit of a hassle when their attacks break and fuck up your combo. But overall, they're a solid new challenge for experienced Arkham players, and they change up the flow of combat by making you go on the defensive to defeat them. But we take down these thugs here, and we proceed through these surprisingly large subway terminals, and we see that they've stuffed this place to the tits with explosives, showing that Black Mask has really lost his gourd, turning from a mobster to a terrorist overnight. It's almost like he's a different person. But for now, we slay some more goons until we reach the control room, and we finally gain access to the criminal database. And with this information finally in hand, Batman gives us a rundown of the case for those at home who are confused. The GCPD's official story is that Penguin broke into Black Mask's crib and murdered him, but Batman knows the truth. It all started when Black Mask's girlfriend was attacked by our mystery assailant in the apartment, which baited Sionis to show up, but the man who was shot was a decoy, and the real Black Mask was the one who snuck through the balcony. But Black Mask's ambush failed, and he got overpowered by the intruder. But getting beat up even with the element of surprise on his side wasn't enough embarrassment for Sionis, who was then forced to shoot and kill his girlfriend. Damn, never ends for this dude. But one thing is clear, the Joker is definitely our faceless attacker, and is heading to the Gotham Merchants Bank to use Sionis to get inside, as he owns the place. We arrive at the Gotham Merchants Bank, and find it full of Joker remains. Looks like he's ready to make himself known. We run into the alleged Black Mask clearing out the bank vault, and he brings out the real Roman Sionis, bound and gagged, and savagely beats him. Black Mask can't catch a damn break. He then takes off his mask to reveal himself as the Zonkler himself. I'm not sure how he fit that chin under that mask, but I digress. The Joker has finally revealed himself, and is voiced by not Mark Hamill.
Technically, it's my operation now. Isn't that right, boys?
Fuck. Nah. This time he's voiced by the Mel Blanc of the gaming industry, Troy Baker, who does a solid job as a younger Joker, no doubt. Much like Roger Craig Smith as Batman, but it doesn't hit the same as Mark's Joker. Also, the new voice, paired with the slightly altered design, makes this Joker feel like a different person than the one in the other Arkham games. And I don't see them as the same entity, if that makes sense. This is like the Millennial Joker or something. Anyway, Jonkler shoots Batman a few times while Batman just stands there mewing, taking those bullets like a champ. And Joker escapes before blowing up the vault. Amateur hour. Tried to blow up Batman instead of just shooting him dead. Rookie mistake. We escape the blast and then do a Predator section to escape the thugs who come in to clean us up. And by interrogating one, we learn that the Joker had run off to the Sionis steel mill, so we make chase. We enter the steel mill and clear out the clown thugs inside, looking for Black Mask, as he'd been in Joker's custody for a while, so he would know what his plans are. We find him strung up in his office, and while we're gently interrogating him,
Wrong answer.
the assassin Copperhead slinks in from the ceiling and attacks Batman, crawling all over his body and injecting him with some sort of powerful neurotoxin. We get a sample of the neurotoxin to synthesize a cure, and try to stumble out of the steel mill, but the toxin starts kicking in, and Batman starts geeking hard off that shit. He starts seeing hallucinations of Alfred viciously scolding him, and the ghosts of Loeb and the bank manager blaming him for their deaths. It's very reminiscent of the Scarecrow sections of Asylum, just nowhere near as good. But we thug out this toxin, and we soon confront Copperhead, who can now spawn clones of herself, and we kick off the fourth assassin fight. And it's less of a boss, and more of a unique horde battle, as you fight off the Copperhead clones who strike and slash at you, and your main goal is to survive until Alfred can airdrop you the antidote. And it's pretty challenging, and Copperhead almost got my goat here, but I made it through, got the antidote, and with that, we're so back, baby. And as for the fight itself, it's alright, being a decently challenging horde fight. It's not subtle or nuanced, but it's alright. But now that our brain isn't turning into liquid sludge, we can grab Copperhead and Batista bomb her into the dirt to defeat her in one hit. And we throw her in a crate for some time out. She tries to bargain with us for her freedom by promising to reveal where the Joker is going next, as he's meeting with all the remaining assassins. But Batman plays her like a fiddle, as we can just simply track that doofus the Electrocutioner's shock gauntlets by tracing their electromagnetic signal. Clever. So we head out of the steel mill and follow the signal, which leads us to the Gotham Royal Hotel, and we enter through the garage and beat up some corrupt SWAT officers, as they are working with the Joker, who they still think is Black Mask. Cue another Predator section, and we gain access to the hotel surveillance center, and we can see Joker meeting with the assassins. Joker reveals himself to the assassins, and kicks Electrocutioner out of a window for being on his damn phone too much. He then dismisses the assassins to go and kill Batman, but Bane sticks around, knowing that Batman will come to them. So all they have to do is wait. We head on over to Electrocutioner's mangled corpse, and we grab his shock gauntlets for ourselves. A pretty sweet upgrade. Not only can they power those previously unusable electric consoles you've seen all across the map, you can also press both controller sticks down to activate them in combat, making your attack stronger. Which is super cool to go all electric bat and fry these thugs with your fists. But it just makes the easy Arkham combat even easier, and we're doing these thugs like Thomas Edison when he sees an elephant. Using the gloves, we can access the upper levels of the hotel, and Joker has really trashed the place. Evil clown torture setups are all over the place, and he even built a damn makeshift roller coaster that weaves in and out of the hotel. And he also built a whole ramshackle torture funhouse complete with massive clown faces, carnival-style games, and a gigantic jack-in-the-box prop. Say what you want, but the man is absolutely gifted at construction. So we continue on, scaling the hotel, and I really like how much verticality there is to this level as you slowly make your way to the top, grappling through windows and even catching a ride on Vicky Vale's helicopter. And there's even this cool moment where you fight from the POV of the news chopper's camera, and it's short, but I love little details like this. And the Gotham Royal Hotel is probably my favorite level in the entire game. The sense of spectacle and the vertical scale of this place is a genuine improvement over Asylum and City, even if these levels are a bit more linear than they were in the past. We then clear out a room of Bane thugs, and we finally take the elevator up to the penthouse where Joker is. But Bane catches a whiff of Batman and beats him up a bit. But Joker tells him to stop, so he can flex his bombs to Batman, blowing up an entire half-built skyscraper just for shits and giggles. We try to beat up Joker, but Bane interrupts and throws Batman out of a window and into a library, where we begin our next boss battle against Bane. He reveals his Venom suit and throws Batman out of yet another window. And while we're getting our ass whooped by Bane, Alfred goes to call Gordon in the GCPD for help. But now that we're out on the balcony, we can fight Bane for real now, as the library battle is just a sampler for this full battle. And the Bane fight is probably the hardest fight in the entire game, being unusually difficult for an Arkham boss. He always starts with a charge move, and this charge is pretty harsh. Bane follows you pretty hard, and the dodge window is incredibly tight. And I got my ass plowed a few times trying to get by Bane's charge move. Pause. To hurt Bane, we have to ultra stun him, which also has an incredibly tight window, and then aura his ass until we can rip out some venom tubes off his back with a takedown combo. And once he's de-venomed, we can actually damage his health bar. And the fight only gets harder when some extra thugs jump into the fray, as you now gotta deal with them on top of the charging Meat Man, and I got run over many times trying to get around a thug. I appreciate the challenge, as most Arkham bosses only took me 1, maybe 2 tries, if they got lucky. But Bane's fight can get pretty irritating when you're getting run over trying to get away from a thug, or when he tanks through a stun and just rocks your shit with a haymaker. It makes the fight feel a little inconsistent. The fight could have been made better if the arena was slightly bigger, so Bane's charges could be more consistent and less frustrating to dodge. But despite these issues I have, it's still a pretty great fight that forces you to really make sure your positioning and dodge timings are on point, and it's a really solid challenge for an Arkham boss. Once we take his health down, a cutscene triggers, and the GCPD arrive with some helicopters to stop Bane and Joker. And the helicopters and Joker start exchanging gunfire. Joker shooting his AR with just one hand. Dude must have a wrist of steel. Goddamn. But not to worry, as Bane's nondescript South American thug army blows up the police choppers and take Bane away on their own chopper. Joker tries to shoot at Bane for running away, but Bane turns around with a damn rocket launcher and blasts at Joker, who upon seeing the missile on its way to atomize him, simply drops his gun and lets himself get flung by the explosion. And I like how the Joker here is seemingly fully ready to die, and this night is just a way for him to go out with a bang. And as Joker falls to his death, Batman runs to save him, diving off the building after him. No kill rule by any means necessary. This was a ridiculously terrible choice by Batman in hindsight. His life would have been a lot easier going forward if he just let him fall. But it's alright. He doesn't know what the Joker's gonna get up to in the future. He don't got internet. Even after landing, Joker tries to shoot himself to make sure he dies, but Batman disarms him, and shortly after, the cops come in, and Batman escapes in the Batwing, and Joker gets arrested for the first time ever. Only 1,000 more times to go. But as he's arrested, Joker realizes that Batman is a truly unique individual, and it's this moment that marks the start of his obsession with Batman. And it's a pretty great scene, because it reveals that the Joker was originally a very capable, but suicidal maniac, ready to die after all the chicanery of this Christmas Eve Batman killing sweepstakes. But after Batman saved him despite everything he did, the Joker now has a new purpose in life, to understand and defeat the Batman. And although I still don't really buy Troy Baker's Joker as the later Mark Hamill Jokers, it's still a pretty great genesis moment for the worst love story of all time between Joker and Batman. We next get a montage of Joker in Blackgate Prison being interviewed by Harley Quinn. This scene retconning the audio tapes from Arkham Asylum, but that is neither here nor there. From this scene, we get an esoteric origin story from the Joker himself, which is probably all bullshit. This is the Joker we're talking about. But regardless, we play as a red-hooded and caped Joker, who is following after a phantom version of Batman. And this whole sequence is a reference to the Joker's original comic origin story from the 50s, not his mainstream Killing Joke origin, where before he was the Joker, he was a thief called the Red Hood for his Red Hood, this fully red helmet that looks like a pill cut in half. And the Red Hood had turned into the Joker after he had robbed his workplace, Ace Chemicals, and had escaped by swimming through the vats of chemical waste, which disfigured him and gave him his trademark ghostly white skin and green hair. That shit is not makeup. That's just what he looks like. And this story's got Harley's southern regions gushing like a lake, establishing her origin as well. But it's moving a bit too fast. This game takes place all in one night like the other Arkham games. So I guess Joker got Harley to quit her job as a psychiatrist and convinced her to become a demented stripper clown woman supervillain in only a few hours. Now that's some godly riz. Batman returns to the Batcave to have an origin flashback as well, where we see Bruce's parents get shot and Bruce kneels at their body outlines in Crime Alley. Poor Bruce has to be brutally reminded of his parents' slaying in every game, it seems. But Batman quickly snaps out of his funk, and we get the glue grenade from Alfred, a cummified version of the freeze blast. But before we head back out to look for Bane, Alfred tries to stop Batman, worried he's in too much danger, and he may get killed by Bane or any of the other assassins. Batman, of course, tells him off. Batman throughout all of Origins is very gung-ho, brutal, and stubborn, refusing help from pretty much everyone besides Alfred. And even then, they bicker constantly on how best to deal with each situation. Batman tells Alfred that he's literally the Knight, bro, so he storms off to find Bane. It's a good scene that really challenges Bruce on whether or not he's truly doing things the right way, but it's also brutally apparent that Alfred or someone else close to Bruce will get hurt or captured soon, teaching him a hard lesson on responsibility and needing to trust others. But for now, Batman flies off, heading to the GCPD morgue to see if a massive muscled body they recently brought in belongs to Bane or not. And we head through the sewers again, and once we arrive, we find that the body is not Bane, just a Bane thug. So we scan his corpse. We learn that the thug had taken some form of modified venom, which made him hulk up into a Craig Goliath-esque muscle monster. But the drug has a side effect, as it fries the memory centers of your brain. As we finish up, we get a ping from the tracker we placed on Bane back at the hotel, and move to find him. And the tracker leads us to an underground tunnel, where Bane and his goons have set up a makeshift base. We find the tracker on a table, along with dozens of screens of Batman and Bruce Wayne. Bane seemingly had figured out who Batman is, so Batman blows up the room to destroy the evidence. But with Batman's identity compromised, Alfred is in direct danger, as Bane will likely be stopping by Wayne Manor real soon. But as we return to the Batcave, we hear via comms that tweaker Firefly has taken hostages and planted bombs on the Gotham Pioneer Bridge, so we have to go there instead to stop him. Sorry, Alfred. When we arrive, we find Firefly causing a ruckus, but we distract him with the Batwing, which he chases after like a cat chasing a laser, and we move in to defuse the bombs. We run into Gordon inside the bridge, and warn him about the bombs with middling success. We have to defuse 4 bombs in the bridge, clearing out Predator sections and traveling all over the bridge to find the bombs. And this is another level I really like, as the bridge gets destroyed by Firefly as you progress through it, and you have to progress by grappling through the destroyed and twisted metal structures. There's a really great sense of scale and destruction here that I really like, and this previously boring bridge just got real interesting. Once we defuse 3 of the 4 bombs and subdue all the thugs, we get to take on Firefly himself for another assassin boss battle, as he attacks us on the bridge. This boss battle, like the bridge level it takes place on, has a lot of great spectacle. Firefly flies around the bridge, dropping fire bombs and shooting his flamethrower from up on high, and you even gotta make a dash across the bridge and escape his attacks to start his second phase. But besides this cool and dynamic arena, the fight itself is ridiculously easy. You just spam chuck your cum bombs at him to incapacitate him, and then chuck batterings at his head before you get to pull him down to earth with your back claw and clonk him in the face. And rinse and repeat around 4 times to win. The glue bombs are just way too OP for this fight. You can hit Firefly almost immediately, and using the quick throw mechanic, you can easily incapacitate him in a few seconds with perfect accuracy. And don't get me wrong, it's fun to beat the absolute piss out of this freak, but it's a pretty solid step down from the past couple bosses, especially in terms of difficulty. But to defeat Firefly for good, we have to grapple up onto him, and he takes us for a ride through the air for a bit. Whee! Before we crash land and give him a good old fist kiss. Mwah! And we also learned that Gordon and the police had defused the last bomb for us, and Batman and Gordon finally have a congenial chat. And Gordon realizes that maybe the Batman and the GCPD could work together and get shit done better. But not before Batman dips as Gordon looks away for a few seconds. Classic. We then cut back to Batman, who gets a call from Bane, who says he's at Batman's house and had just brutalized Alfred. What an asshole. So we return to the Batcave and find it completely trashed and on fire, and we desperately search for Alfred, who we find in some rough shape under some rubble. Alfred asks us to not let him add to the weight Bruce carries, and he seemingly dies.
Sorry.
But Batman remembers he's got some sweet shock gauntlets, so he uses them as impromptu defibrillators, and they actually work, as Batman gives Alfred an electric chest slam, which shocks him back to life. We then cut to Alfred in the Bat Infirmary, with a maskless Bruce attending him, and Bruce definitely looks the most normal and human-like in Origins, compared to the half-ogre he is in Arkham Knight, but he's still got that powerful brick skull. I see the mewing has paid off. Bruce is shaken up by Alfred's near death, worried that he won't be able to protect those he cares about. But Alfred tells him that all he needs to succeed is to just swallow his pride and accept some help from others, and stop being such a lone turn my back on the world hardass, and that no man can do everything alone. A classic Batman message. He then turns on the radio to hear a report that Joker had started a riot at Blackgate Prison. Great. So with his lesson learned, Batman suits back up and heads out to end this night's bullshit for good. And it's all going down where it started. We go through the prison sewers and take on probably the hardest Predator section in the entire game. And once we clear out the thugs, we free a moody Dr. Quinzel, who tells us Joker is in the panopticon of the prison. So we head there to find him. Once we get done brawling with some thugs, we run back into the Joker, who gloats about all of his accomplishments of the evening. Which, to be fair, is kind of a lot. He killed the GCPD commissioner, started 2 prison breaks and riots, destroyed a hotel, a building, and a bridge, took over an entire crime family from the inside, and probably killed a few hundred people, give or take. But he still hasn't done the one thing he truly wants to do, defeating Batman. So he and Bane have come up with a real harebrained scheme to get him to break his no-kill rule. Bane and Batman will have a gladiator-style fight, where either Bane will kill Batman, Batman will kill Bane, or if Batman defeats but refuses to kill Bane, Joker will instead kill himself via an electric chair charged by Bane's very own heartbeat. Joker's seemingly still on his suicide shit. So once we know the rules of the game, Bane jumps down for round 2. And it's pretty much an exact copy of the hotel fight from earlier, but with a bigger arena, so the fight is already so much better. There's much more space to consistently dodge Bane's sticky-ass charge. But the fight doesn't last long, as Batman gets pinned under Bane's foot. But just then, Jim Gordon waltzes in out of nowhere and tries to stop Joker, but he gets bitched immediately, and Joker takes him hostage with his sneaky lanklet strength. Batman uses his shock gloves to escape Bane's foot, and the fight continues, which is still more of the same. Just keep popping those takedowns on Bane, and watch out for the charges, and you'll be just fine. And once he's defeated, Batman gives him an electric beatdown, and seemingly shocks Bane to death. Joker buys it, and he thinks Bane is dead, so he moves to shoot the Blackgate Warden. But Gordon does a heroic leap and takes the bullet instead. But no worries, he's got his vest on. Batman reveals that Bane is just under cardiac arrest and needs to revive him. And learning from his past mistakes, he asks Gordon to help him catch the Joker, who obliges and chases after him. We then revive Bane, who is pissed that Batman didn't murder him. So as a last resort to kill him, Bane takes his experimental venom, which causes him to literally hulk up into a raging muscle beast, and Batman blows up the floor to escape Bane's slam, causing them to crash into a cell block below, kicking off the game's final boss. And this final boss can be best described as the Mr. Freeze fight from Arkham City, but worse. You can't attack Bane directly, and have to sneak up on him to damage him. You can sneak up directly behind him, get him from under a grate, through a vent, from around a corner, and so on. And when you sneak up behind him, you can piggyback ride on Bane, and careen him into an electrified prison door for massive damage if you hop on him at the right place, and he passes by one of them. And like Mr. Freeze, Bane will learn from his mistakes, smashing grates and checking vents if you already got him from either of them. However, you can still just sneak up on him, or corner takedown him multiple times to win, as he doesn't become invulnerable to the sneak attack type once you use it on him. Also, the Mr. Freeze fight in Arkham City took place in an entire open room full of Predator perches and options, while here, you're fighting Bane in a small grid of hallways, with much more limited options and less room to work with, making the fight much simpler overall. Just watch Bane through detective mode, get set around a corner, and take him down a few times. Simple as. It's a solid, if underwhelming final boss that gets overshadowed by its icy counterpart. But once we drain his health bar, Bane punches Batman through a solid wall. This dude's got bones of adamantium, god damn. And he tries one last vicious charge to take us out. But Batman notices some remote claw metal anchor points, and he uses them to string up Bane and fry his 5%er ass to take him down for good. And as we string him up, he mumbles to himself about how he needs to find the Batman, that TN1 experimental venom having completely cooked his memory, making him forget about Batman's identity. So we don't need to worry about Bane dropping Bruce's docs anytime soon. And all that's left to do is to find Joker and make sure Gordon and the Warden are all good. We find Gordon in death row, and even Killer Croc comes in and tries to get his revenge on Batman. But Gordon takes down the sniper and instead shoots Croc in the shoulder, and Croc fucks off after getting such a nasty ouchie. We then fight alongside Gordon to take down some thugs, and damn, I didn't know Gordon had hands like that. And once we defeat the thugs, he tells that Joker is made for the prison chapel, and once we make it to the chapel, we find him in front of the altar, and Batman hoists him up and shits all over his parade by telling him that Bane is still alive, thwarting their stupid death game. And we then beat Joker's ass around and give him a beautifully brutal beatdown to end off the story's gameplay with. And we even see the beatdown from the Joker's POV, seeing Batman morph into the Phantom Bat creature from his flashback. And since this is the Joker, this beatdown probably got him bricked up. Ugh. But regardless, we knock his ass out cold, and then Gordon runs in and tries to arrest Batman. But Batman pulls his classic vanishing act when he's looking away. We then cut to a montage of all the villains getting arrested, as Gordon monologues about working with Batman in hope for a better future for Gotham. As Batman flies across the sky, the screen fades to black amidst a swarm of bats. And with that, that's the story of Arkham Origins complete. Overall, I found Arkham Origins is a really solid game. The story here is fairly long for an Arkham game, and it features a lot of interesting and large levels like the GCPD, the Gotham Royal Hotel, the bridge getting blown to smithereens, and Blackgate that I really enjoyed. In the story, although a bit fast and loose at times with a large number of assassins, the endless stream of thugs occupying Gotham City on this random Christmas Eve, and the plot packing a ton of events into one night, when the story seems like it would take place over several days. I mean, Joker causes a riot at Blackgate, kills the GCPD commissioner, gets apprehended by Batman, gets interviewed and seduces Harley, and causes another prison riot all in the same night. But I'll forgive it, as the Arkham games have a bit of a running joke that the nights the games take place in are unnaturally long.
In case you need to reach me, it's going to be a long night.
I liked Batman the most as a character, as despite how obvious his arc is in the story, the character moments and voice performances are all pretty great. All the scenes where Joker and Batman interact are all pretty great too, and although I think Troy Baker is just alright as Joker, and this feels like a different Joker from earlier versions of him in the series, the story still works pretty well to effectively show how their wacky symbiotic relationship began. And as for the rest of the story, it's alright. Its tone and atmosphere are nowhere near as engrossing as Arkham City and Arkham Asylum's, and all the assassins besides Bane end up not mattering too much, and some even get relegated to side mission fodder. But overall, I still found it to be a very solid Arkham story, and I really like the unique dynamic where Batman is still relatively unknown and untrusted in Gotham City, and seeing thugs and cops react to him for the first time was always entertaining, making this game's story still stand out to this day. For the unique perspective, the gameplay is still as solid as ever, and it really feels like Arkham City 2, rather than Batman Arkham 3, if that makes sense. Its most notable changes come in the form of new gadgets like the shot gloves, the new martial artist enemy type, the expanded map, and of course, the boss battles, as Arkham Origins has the largest number of fully realized boss battles, like Croc, Bane, Copperhead, Deathstroke, Firefly, and Hulkbane. And some of these fights like Deathstroke and Bane are regarded as some of the better fights in the series by fans. But despite these changes, Origins is almost completely identical to Arkham City. Same combat, same side quest structures, same movement and gliding, same 400 Riddler shits to pick up, same half of the map. It's just more of the same without any notable leaps forward in the series. And I can understand why that could be disappointing. And the game does indeed feel like a stopgap between Arkham City and Arkham Knight. I mean, you can literally hear it through the noticeably not Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy voices. But at the same time, the game was never meant to be anything more than that. So I still found this game to be a great collection of interesting locations and bosses to fight, even if some weren't as great as the others. And it was just more Arkham City for me at the end of the day. And I love that game, so that's totally fine by me. But with that, we can finally move on to the final game and the ending of the Arkham series. Suicide Squad does not count. Arkham Knight. 2 years after Origins, and 4 years after City, Rocksteady finally made their triumphant return and dropped Batman Arkham Knight in mid-2015 on the more powerful next-gen Xbox One and PS4 consoles. A big step up in hardware from the 360 and PS3 the Arkham series has called home for its entire lifespan so far. This game was gearing up to be the biggest and greatest Batman game. Scratch that. Superhero game of all time. I mean, did you see the car, bruh? But did this new console and extended development time allow Rocksteady to make this promise a reality? Or did they fuck it all up? Well, at launch, they fucked it up for a bit on PC. And I remember that was a pretty big deal. And many YouTubers made a big stink about the PC port of Arkham Knight chugging like Badlands when he sees Diet Coke. But they've had 9 years to hopefully fix all that bull jive. So let's waste no more time and take a look. After we get past the main menu and start a new game, it opens to a cutscene of the Joker's body in an incinerator, to the tune of Frank Sinatra's I've Got You Under My Skin. A nice little foreshadowing for what's to come. We then cut to an uncomfortably close-up shot of Joker's smiling dead face, and you press any button to start up the incinerator. The whole time I'm just waiting for Joker's body to burst back to life and jump scare me. But luckily, he only does that in the New Game Plus opening sequence. Classy move. So we burn Joker's body to a nice charred black, and the screen cuts to a flaming bat signal. It's a pretty great and unsettling scene that immediately picks up from Arkham City, and it reminds us of Joker's death from self-inflicted leukemia. And it also shows that the Joker is really dead and gone for real this time. Well, at least his corporeal form is. We then move to a cutscene overlooking downtown Gotham City, as Commissioner Gordon gets us up to speed. It's been 9 months since the Joker died, and in the time since, the remaining villains and thugs have gone suspiciously quiet, and Gordon is anxious about when the next proverbial trigger will get pulled. We then cut to the perspective of Officer Owens, a random, unremarkable GCPD officer who stops into Paulie's diner for some dinner, where we start the game from his perspective. And this game is really flexing its next-gen graphical update since Arkham City, and I find it works really well here. Arkham Knight is simply a gorgeous game, and its graphics still hold up extremely well to this day. And the one and only real issue with the graphics is that there's a slight fuzziness to everything, no matter how much I jack up the anti-aliasing. It's hard to explain, but it makes the game have a very slight haze to all its visuals, as most edges and objects have pixelated edges, and fine details look a bit crusty. But besides this, the game looks amazing, and it's really crazy that it's still built on Unreal Engine 3, the same engine they made Asylum on all the way back in 2009. Is this the best looking Unreal Engine 3 game ever made? It's definitely possible. I can't think of anything else. Batman's model, suit, and cape all look incredible and meticulously detailed. The characters look more human than ever, and Gotham City is really spectacular to see and explore. It being an interesting archipelago of 3 islands, the old Gothic-style Bleak Island, the more modern-looking Miyagani Island, and the futuristic-looking Founders Island, all of which are pretty sizable and very detailed locations. And I really love the neon signs and modern skyscrapers juxtaposed with the Gothic-styled architecture all covered in a dark, rainy atmosphere. It's just fantastic, and is the quintessential Gotham City in my mind. And you can even see the remains of the half-sunken Arkham City in the distance. Hello, old friend. Rocksteady have done a great job bringing the city to life and making it the ultimate Batman sandbox. And I feel like it definitely met the expectations set for the city from the first moment you could see Gotham glowing in the distance all the way back in Asylum. And even though it's been evacuated, it still feels alive. Rioters swarm the streets, causing general chaos. Cars and police cars chase each other all across the roads. And it's so cool to drop down into a crowded area and have all the rioters run in fear just from your aura alone. It's great. But my only issue with Gotham is that I'd be concerned about flooding if I lived here. Downtown Gotham is out pretty deep in the ocean here. Those waves look pretty big. And it seems like it'd be a damn hassle to cross all those bridges when I need to get somewhere. But back to the opening. As we're enjoying the views of the detailed diner and the much improved character models, this fucking narc comes over and tells us that one of the diner patrons is smoking in the corner. And we can't be having that. So we get up off our overweight asses to see what the problem is. You can overhear a ton of interesting flavored dialogue from the other diner goers here. A surprising amount, actually. But I don't want to look like a freak standing motionless over these people's tables for minutes on end. So I go to confront the smoker. We tell him to stop smoking, but he turns his head around to reveal he's not a human, but some nightmare scarecrow headman, who gives us a nice big jump scare. And after we get Markipliered, we stumble to our feet and turn around to see the diner has been sent to the 8th layer of hell, as all the patrons have turned into violent scarecrow fiends, and the diner itself is crumbling apart in an orange haze. We whip out our service pistol and get a unique first-person shooter sequence where you cap some of these demons if you want, but you get overpowered eventually, no matter what you do. And what you do here in the diner will affect the game later. If you don't shoot anyone, you can run into Officer Owens at the GCPD, who was shook up from the experience, but has made it out mostly intact. But if you shoot anyone, you get a bad ending for Officer Owens, who gets mind broken by his fear toxin session and has been locked up in a cell. It's small, but a really cool detail. Anyway, we then cut to a news broadcast about the diner attack, and we learn that all the patrons have been killed after being exposed to Scarecrow's latest fear toxin, which now not only makes you lose your mind in fear, but it also makes you a violent berserker when exposed to it. Scarecrow then gives all of Gotham a phone call and says that this attack was just a little taste of what he's planning, and he wants to cover all of Gotham in this hellish geeker gas. And I really like Scarecrow's new design and his deeper voice for this game. That brother has definitely been looks-maxing. I think he also is physically taller than he used to be in Asylum. I still really enjoy the more goblin-esque and diminutive Scarecrow design from Arkham Asylum, but that version wouldn't work well as a commanding and leading villain in a gritty Arkham game, so I'm glad he was made more robust and intimidating. His announcement scares the pants off of Gotham's population, who all mostly flee shortly after, leaving the city empty besides the cops, villains, and thugs. And we zoom out of the chaotic streets of Gotham to link up with Batman, clocking in for his Halloween shift, where we then gain control of him and jump right into action. Our first task is to glide on over to the GCPD and talk to Commissioner Gordon, and the gliding and grappling in this game is no question the best in the entire series. Your grapple range and speed have been greatly increased from City and Origins to accommodate for the bigger game world and the much taller buildings and structures all over the 3 Gotham City islands, which is probably 3 times taller than City and Origins, so there's a ton of vertical real estate to bomb around in. And you'll be gliding, diving, and grappling all over the city, scaling buildings in mere seconds with Batman's improved grapnel gun. He must have a death grip on that thing. Dude is zooming. You can now also chain or buffer grapples, as prompts to grapple to higher locations will appear as you're grappling, letting you stay constantly on the move while in the air, making the movement and gliding feel even better and smoother. You can now also upgrade your grapple gun to Mark IV, giving you huge speed boost after grappling to keep your momentum going as you start gliding, which is at its fastest, tightest, and smoothest in the entire series. Batman can fly like the majestic falcon, and can grapple across huge distances, and it all combines to create the most fun and fast-paced gliding in the entire Arkham series. And I never really got tired of bombing around Gotham by air. It's just so damn fun and mechanically satisfying to do. And this was my preferred method of travel, which conflicted with a pretty huge feature of the game, but I'll discuss that soon. Anyway, we fly on over to Gordon in the Bat Signal, who is on the phone with Barb, who he thinks has evacuated the city. We ask Gordon if he has any leads on Scarecrow's location, but all he's got is an unidentified military vehicle speeding through town and a missing police unit. So we give Gordon a sweet new bat phone and dip out when he isn't looking. Classic. We then hologram call Barb, who is actually still in the city so she can still work as Oracle, and we get the location of the missing police unit from her. We swoop in and rescue the cop, almost getting flattened by the military vehicle, which raises a problem. We can't punch and kick and take down a vehicle, so we gotta even the odds, and Batman calls in his Bat Whip, Arkham Knight's biggest and newest feature. Now, the Batmobile was a long requested feature for an Arkham game, and fans have been asking for a drivable Batmobile since all the way back in Asylum, which had one, but that car was about as useful as a Bat-themed brick. And now, 6 years later, we get a fully drivable Batmobile, and when fans finally got their hands on it, they didn't really like it that much. The monkey's paw had curled. Yeah, as you probably already know, the Batmobile is a bit of a contentious part of this game, as many players have criticized it for being overused, clunkily forced onto players through gameplay, and it being too simple and bare bones in its mechanics. For me, the Batmobile is a pretty fascinating beast. Firstly, its presentation is damn near perfect. It has a unique design that looks sleek, yet strong, looking like a cross between a sports car and a futuristic tank, with all the sweet bad trimmings and finishes you'd expect. And the sound design just makes it seem even more powerful, and by pressing left bumper, you can summon it to your location, and it looks cool as fuck to call it in as you're diving in from the air, landing, and hopping in as it pulls up. The presentation of this thing is amazing. Driving and handling the Batmobile will take a bit to get used to as you get used to the feel and weight of the car. But once you're familiar with it, it feels fantastic to drive around in, and it's clear that a lot of thought and effort went into making the driving feel weighty, yet fluid and tight. And the whole of Gotham has been designed with wide open roads for you to drive around in, and you can even slam into fleeing rioter thugs. But don't worry, they just get harmlessly tased by the Batmobile, and totally didn't get 80% of their bones obliterated by a 2-ton tank with a jet engine smashing into them at 88 miles an hour. Yeah, they had to cut a few corners to make this game not turn into GTA but you're Batman, so thugs can't ever get killed by the Batmobile, even when it seems like they should. That crash did not look survivable. Later on, you can upgrade the Batmobile to get boosters for even more speed, and you can even drift by holding X for when you need to take any sudden sharp turns, and it all works great. And I don't think you can get much more mechanically sharper than this, which makes racing around in the Batmobile a pretty great time. So as far as getting around goes, the Batmobile has us fully covered. However, this isn't all there is to the car, as by holding left trigger, you can enter the Batmobile's combat mode, where you obtain slower but omnidirectional movement, a dash dodge, and the ability to shoot a cannon or a machine gun to attack, making the game a third-person shooter when in this combat mode. Combat mode is used to take on the swarms of snake-themed drones that the Arkham Knight and his militia have brought into Gotham to occupy it. And these drones come in the form of the simple Rattlers, Twin Rattlers, the armored Diamondbacks, the rocket-launching Mambas, and the only vulnerable to backshots Cobra tanks, and the Dragon helicopter too. And good thing these are all unmanned drones, so we can blow them up completely guilt-free. Although I feel like the Arkham Knight could have defeated Batman by just strapping living people to the drones, as Batman will be unable to shoot the tanks, making them effectively invincible. Batmobile combat is pretty straightforward. Just shoot the drones, and you do extra damage if you hit their turrets, and dodge the telegraphed attack lines as you reload, and just let that cannon rip. It's pretty simple, yet effective. The cannon has a nice oomph to its shots, and blowing up drones looks and feels great to do, and the telegraphed enemy shots give you all the info you need to avoid incoming attacks, and any damage you take is solely on you messing up, giving us a solid foundation for the new vehicle combat. The vehicle combat gets more varied as you go along, as you have to deal with more attacks, stronger drones, and brand new drone types like the mentioned missile-launching Mambas that you have to shoot with your machine gun to destroy the incoming missiles. And these additions help to make the fights more hectic and varied as you progress through the game, but the vehicle combat never really evolves significantly from where it starts from. And it begins to feel pretty repetitive, especially in the late game, where you just shoot, reload, dodge, shoot, reload, and on and on and on. It just feels like a very basic third-person shooter. And this repetition does get broken up when you're taking on the Cobra tanks, as they're only vulnerable from a weak spot on their backside, so you have to sneak behind the tanks and hit the weak spot to blow them up, giving our Batmobile some stealth sections to do. But these are just as simple. Just get behind the tank, lock on and shoot, and drive away and hide, and repeat. It's pretty simple. And sure, you do get Batmobile upgrades like missile barrages to destroy several drones at once, EMPs, faster cannons, and drone hacking upgrades to spice up the combat. But it just makes vehicle combat even easier, and it's still very basic overall. And I totally understand why many players aren't super keen on the vehicle combat and see it as forced and overused. Although I still enjoy the vehicle combat overall, even if it began to drag pretty hard as I completed all the side content and late story missions. But in my opinion, the worst aspect of the Batmobile is that it gets totally overshadowed by the grappling and gliding movement mechanics, as I'd much rather glide around and grapple up buildings using the amazing movement systems to get around the city, rather than getting in my car and driving to the objective like I do in real life. And I never got tired of the new faster gliding and longer grappling and boosting. And as a result, I only used the Batmobile when I really needed to, like when I needed the power winch to solve a riddle or an objective, or when the Batmobile was required for story progression, which at least for me, made the Batmobile feel less overused than what many others experience in this game. So I never ran into a moment where I was like, damn, I gotta use the car here too. But overall, I still enjoyed the Batmobile and all the new mechanics, and the gameplay opportunities it brought. Even if those mechanics are a bit too shallow and simple to be truly great, I still had a great time just bombing around in this thing for a while, and enjoying the tight controls and high speed it brings to the game's traversal. But back to the story. Using our fancy new car, we smash the military Humvee off the road and interrogate the soldier driving it for Scarecrow's whereabouts. And after some gentle persuasion,
Talk, or I'll crush every bone in your body.
he tells us that Scarecrow is working out of a penthouse in Chinatown. So we head on over and drop in on some militia goons. And this is our first real combat encounter, and Knight has made a few updates to the free-flow Arkham combat system worth mentioning. Although it's still mostly the same system we know and love. You still just mostly press your classic X to hit, and Y to counter the blue lightning enemy attacks, and build up combos from there. But the combat has been tightened up and made much faster and stickier, so you're less likely to lose combos off missed takedowns or strikes, and Batman will almost never hit the whoa in confusion. Batman also tracks his targets much harder now, and in the past, Batman could definitely dance from one enemy to the next, closing huge gaps in a single leap like he's part Flash, but he's at its fastest in Arkham Knight. The dude moves at superhuman speeds to deliver kicks and punches to enemies well over 10 feet away from him, and it's actually kinda nuts how much Bruce is schmoovin' in this game. The dude can wave dash as a human being. He can also kick off walls to attack enemies, and Bruce has also become a bit of a grappler since Arkham City, as counters will oftentimes have you pick up enemies and chuck them like it's the 99th annual Gotham City crackhead throwing competition. And these tweaks to the combat make it probably the easiest combat in the entire series, as it's simply faster and more consistent. But luckily, Knight has the biggest and most robust fights and enemies in the entire series as well. Enemies now have a new move where they can tackle you, and they can grab you from behind, forcing you to mash X to break out. And the charging enemies make sure you're aware of your surroundings and managing the fight, but they're insta-killed by a single quick-fire batarang, so as long as you see them, they're a non-issue. There are also new enemy types, like the Medic, who can revive knocked out enemies and later charge them up with some electricity that you have to disable with the Batclaw. Otherwise, touching them gives you a nasty ass shock. Large brutes can now be equipped with blades, making them even deadlier than before. And there are new combat expert ninja thugs, who operate like the Arkham City League of Assassin ninjas, and they can jump off their teammates to attack you and disappear into electric smoke clouds to get away from you, using both bladed and normal attacks. And these are all on top of the classic Arkham thugs: knife thugs, stun thugs, shield thugs, and sorry Origins martial artists, you're going to the mine prison. Also, you can now punch enemies that are knocked onto the ground, which makes combos super easy to maintain, as one of my biggest combo killers in past games was misinputting a punch and targeting a downed enemy, leading to Batman hitting the Quan instead of whooping the ass of the dazed and laid out thug. But it looks like Batman remembered the lost martial art of the curb stomp after the events of Arkham City. And all these new enemies and tweaks make Knight's combat the most varied and dynamic of the series. And of course you can still use gadgets in combat, but outside of the occasional batarang or Batclaw, I like to keep it simple with the good old fisticuffs. It still isn't perfect, of course, and the combat is still very easy overall. And all the aforementioned speed and targeting tweaks make the already easy combat easier than ever. And you'll feel pretty damn powerful in this game, racking up huge combos with little effort, moving at superhuman speeds, juggling enemies who are helplessly reeling on the ground from the concussion Batman just gave them. But despite this, overall, I find the combat is still fantastic. Incredibly smooth and responsive, and endlessly fun to rack up combos and pummel these nameless militia goons into the concrete over and over again. Once we defeat these militia goons, we find that the penthouse only has Poison Ivy locked in a cell within it, and she's stuck in there with a militia captain, with Scarecrow nowhere to be found. Scarecrow FaceTimes us from the TV inside the cell to gloat, and then fills the cell with fear toxin, but Ivy has some plant-based immunity to it, so she escapes the cell. From Ivy, we learn that Scarecrow had gathered up all the famous Gotham villains to team up and kill Batman, and then take over Gotham City together, pooling all their resources into this big operation. But Ivy wanted no part of their epic Gotham takeover plan, so they had her detained in the penthouse. She then tries to use some vines to restrain Batman, but he breaks out and detains her by the time she reaches the ground floor. Good stuff. And as we head out, the militia pull up on us with a tank, and we call in the Batmobile to take them out, which thankfully has non-lethal shells to shoot humans with, although they may no longer have any intact ribs after taking a shot from this thing. We then get our first Batmobile combat encounter, and when that's done, we load Ivy into our passenger seat and take her back to the GCPD holding cells. The GCPD building is a hub for the game, tracking your progress to a progression board in the lockup itself. Because as you play through the game, completing side objectives and story missions, the cells slowly get filled up with thugs, militiamen, checkpoint and armored vehicle captains, classic villains like Two-Face, Penguin, Professor Pig, Man-Bat, and so on as you complete their quests. And it's a great way to physically show how much progress you've made, and I found it so satisfying to watch this place get filled up. And once we lock Ivy up in her doghouse, we check in with Gordon, who introduces us to some side quests on the handy GCPD side quest board. Arkham Knight has the most side quests yet, having about 13 complete side quests with different stories and villains to take on, some better than others. The simplest ones, like Hush and Deacon Blackfire's quests, are just one-time encounters where you find, defeat, and lock the thugs up in one fell swoop. And these are some okay quests, but they're just way too short to leave a lasting impact. Other quests are more grindy and checklisty, like the Lost Firefighters quest, and the Militia Checkpoint, APC, Watchtowers, and Bomb Defusal quest lines having you find 16 firefighters, clear out 20 militia checkpoints, destroy 9 militia APCs, disable 21 militia watchtowers, and defuse 14 street bombs. So get ready to use that power winch to trigger a controlled explosion. They're good for filling out Gotham with plenty of activities to run into, but there are just so many samey objectives to do, and it gets very repetitive to get through it all, and it just bloats the game's side quests with lots of burnt time on repeated content. And you have to do all 54 of these militia tasks to have the privilege to take on Deathstroke, who has been called in to lead the militia after some plot developments I'll get into later. But the Deathstroke fight is laughably atrocious, as you don't even fight him one-on-one, and instead you have a tank battle with him where he calls in a bunch of Cobra tanks to back him up. But his tank is vulnerable to all attacks, so you can just wipe him with no effort if you have some Batmobile upgrades. Deathstroke, the ultimate soldier and assassin who gave Batman a serious run for his money in one-on-one combat, is locked in a shitty car for the entire game, and it just seems like a waste of his talents. It's like if the Riddler's master plan was to beat Batman in a one-on-one game of pickup basketball. Like, it's just not happening, bruh. Finally, that leaves the rest of the side quest in what I'd call the solid and good section. Teaming up with Nightwing to take out Penguin's weapons caches, doing some fun and tough Predator sections to capture Two-Face, training as Azrael to take Batman's place, and learning that maybe the real Batman was inside him all along. Examining the victims of, and tracking down that certified freakazoid Professor Pig, chasing Firefly 3 times across Gotham, and my favorite, getting the piss scared out of me by Man-Bat, and figuring out his dark origins, and hopefully finding him a cure. And these side quests here are all pretty simple overall, much like their City and Origins forefathers. But missions like Pigs and Man-Bats are a pretty solid step up from those past quests, and still stuck with me long after playing. They're just so well executed, intriguing, and downright horrifying at times, and are some excellent small stories that fit perfectly into the theming and tone of the Arkham series. And it's not perfect, and in fact some of these quests can bog down the overall experience with bloated content that feels more like a time burn than anything. But overall, this is still the best collection of Arkham side quests in the entire series. And of course I can't forget that smarmy green question mark licking fuck the Riddler, who is back again with a vengeance, rigging up convoluted Rube Goldberg riddle machines, trials, and scandal riddles all over Gotham City. And it's just more of the same as the past games, with some new riddle types that require the usage of the Batmobile's power winch, and I yet again cannot grab them all. Nor do I have the time to. You see, I'm a pretty busy guy. And also, I'm just too weak. Riddler also has a solid standalone side quest completely independent of the Riddler trophies, which will have you completing Riddler car puzzles to free Catwoman from an explosive collar. And these trials are anything from gliding puzzles, car puzzles, to full-on 3-lap races that remind me of Mario Kart. But seriously though, how the hell did Riddler set all this shit up? And I really enjoyed these car-themed puzzle trials. They take great advantage of the Batmobile's mechanics in some really creative ways, and doing the Riddler races was a surprisingly great time. I only wish I didn't have to collect all the trophies to get the true Nightfall ending. There's just too damn many of these things, man. But with all that side content out of the way, we can get back to the story. And as we head out, we get a call from Lucius Fox. The Wayne Enterprises CEO Gadget Lord making his first Arkham appearance is nice to see. And he's got a voice like butter.
It's 100% functional, though no guarantees if you're intending to pull that car of yours up the side of a building.
We ask him for a speed upgrade for the Batmobile, and then head over to Oracle's Watchtower to check in with her fear toxin sample analysis. We take a look at the sample, and we learn that we can track where it was made by looking for a unique radiation signal within the city. So we leave to jury-rig an antenna to find it, as realigning all the bat satellites would just take way too long. But before we go, Barb tells Batman that she's uneasy about lying to her dad about evacuating the city, but Chadman just brushes her off for now. Surely this won't be a problem later. So we head on over to the antenna, but the generator is damaged, so we call up Lucius to get our hands on the power winch upgrade to give it some juice. And Batman gets a ton of holographic video calls throughout the game, and although the holographic screen effects and character models look pretty sweet, I just wish Batman could take the call while moving around normally, as each call locks you into watching the whole thing before proceeding, and some of these video calls could have just been texts. But anyway, we get the winch, and we get a tutorial on how to use it to tear down obstacles, create ramps, and power objects. And Batman decides the best way to power up that generator is to drive his 2-ton tank car on the roof of a glass building. And also, I missed the jump here. But once we use the power winch to get the antenna back up and running, we get a call from Robin, who begs us to let him help. But in classic Arkham Bruce fashion, we tell him to fuck off and finish his damn homework. But now, all we need is to activate a separate microwave antenna to find exactly where Scarecrow is. But the antenna is guarded by some armed thugs, so we have to do a Predator tutorial to proceed. And also, it's time for some new threads, and we call up Lucius for a new Batsuit, the Batsuit V8.03. And I gotta be honest, It's probably my favorite Batsuit in the entire series. And I know lots of people prefer the more subtle and classical styled suit of Arkham City and Asylum, but for Knight, I really love this suit's flexible and interlocking armor pieces, and there are just so many amazing details and unique parts on this thing, and even the cape looks advanced. And when outside, the rain and water effects look incredible on his cowl and cape, and there's just a staggering amount of detail on Batman's model, and I just can't stop looking at him. Pause. It really makes Batman look and feel like an Arkham Knight in shining armor, which itself comes with some pretty sweet upgrades. You can now eject out of the Batmobile at high speeds, you automatically unlock the Mark II grapnel boost, and most importantly, you can now use Fear multi-takedowns in Predator sections, where you can chain takedowns of 3 and later 4 and 5 enemies in a single attack, as long as they're within range of each other, and you can recharge it by performing a silent takedown on an enemy. The Fear system on the surface is really badass and works perfectly to make Batman feel stronger and more lethal than ever, but being able to wipe up to 5 enemies out at once is a bit too strong in my opinion, and can make some potentially tough Predator sections a complete joke. But I never really had too many moments where the game became laughably easy thanks to the Fear takedowns, and you can just choose not to use them if you think the game is too easy. But overall, I really like how it empowers Batman to his strongest form yet, and it never made the stealth completely trivial for me. I'm still pretty shitty at it, and I still got turned into Swiss cheese many times. But besides these new Fear takedowns, Predator's stealth, much like the combat, is mostly the same at its core, with some slightly enhanced animations and mechanics, and the main changes mostly come from the new enemy types. Medics can revive knocked out enemies, which can drag out Predator sections if you aren't careful, and some militia troops can track your position, forcing you to stay on the move. There's also camo militia enemies who don't get highlighted in detective mode, forcing you to keep your naked eyes on them, and it also forces you to not just sit in detective mode for the entire encounter. There are also drone operator guys who can spot you from said drone. And finally, there are these new minigunner enemies that have to be taken out with a punch and dodge quicktime event that alert all enemies to your presence. So you have to either take them down last, or get them extremely isolated to take them down before reinforcements arrive. And these new enemy types help offset the Fear takedown system, and make Predator's stealth more dynamic and strategic than it's ever been. And like in the past games, it's still great. Not much more to say. It's Batman Arkham. You already know. So we use our sexy new Fear takedown to clear out these militia thugs hiding in the small building, and once they're toast, we level up and get a skill point to spend. Arkham Knight also has the best skill tree in the entire series, with the most amount of skills by far. There are 6 categories for gadget tech, gadget skills, combat, your Batsuit, the Batmobile, and Batmobile weapons, and they all do what you think they do. Batsuit armor, Fear takedown upgrades, faster and stronger Batmobile and weapons, new gadgets and gadget combos, so on and on. You already know. You unlock upgrade points by leveling up, or for completing side quest steps, and you can invest in any of the 6 categories in any way you wish, and the perks are broken up into a tree of hexagons that unlock the perks they're bordering as you purchase them. It's a lot better than the linear upgrades of the previous games, and gives you solid freedom to invest in whatever skills you want, in any order you want. And I think it's pretty great stuff. My only gripe would be that some side content can only be completed by unlocking certain upgrades, like when trying to clear out all the road checkpoints that have large turrets on them, as you need to purchase a disruptor upgrade that detonates enemy ammunition to destroy them. But besides that, it's the best upgrade system in the series, and I don't need to spend my points on useless gadgets if I don't want to. Sweet! Anyway, now that we have the 2 towers up and running, we can now find where Scarecrow is mass producing his Fear toxin, which is at the Ace Chemicals plant. Likely place to brew up some chemicals. Probably could have guessed that one. So we head on over, and we link up with Gordon outside Ace. But then, a helicopter shows up and blows out the bridge into the Ace Island facility. And then Batman stances up to the chopper, and the chopper's driver tries to blow his ass up. But Scarecrow intervenes and says they gotta keep him alive for the plan, and that the driver's vengeance will come later. So he obeys, and flies off. Who is this guy? We need to know, so we head inside Ace to clear out the militia and to save any workers being held hostage. And as we rescue the final worker, we get cornered by a militia squad and the Arkham Knight himself. Hey, that's the name of the game. The Arkham Knight has a design I really like. He's wearing a militaristic and technologically advanced version of Batman's suit, complete with a holographic cowl and an A for Arkham logo emblazoned on his chest. He drops in and flexes his Batman knowledge to his troops, telling them not to aim at the big bat symbol on his chest, as that's actually where his armor is the strongest, and to rather shoot at the shoulders and then where the armor plates meet, showing us that he's got some deep knowledge on Batman tech and lore. The Arkham Knight also says he knows what Batman is thinking, so Batman tests him, to which he replies,
Who the hell is this guy?
Who the hell is this guy? Hey, that's what I'm thinking. But before he can kill us, he has to check in with his daddy, Scarecrow, to get permission, who still refuses to let him kill Batman. But luckily for us, the militia had forgotten about my highly advanced car tank parked right behind them, so we used the turret to take out the militia goons before the Arkham Knight himself grapples away. Once the militia have been mopped up, we can then speak to the Ace employee to learn that Scarecrow has been producing his gas on a massive scale, and could potentially make a bomb big enough to cover the entire East Coast in a horrifying fart cloud. So we gotta get him to knock that shit off. So we continue through the facility, clearing out thugs and doing some sick car jumps before entering. We find the last hostage. But before we can extract him, we gotta fight a boss helicopter and its drone entourage. This being technically the first boss of Arkham Knight. Although it's incredibly simple. The helicopter can rain down missile barrages, or will shoot off heat-seeking missiles that you have to destroy with your machine gun fire. So to win, just take out the accompanying take drones, and then just shoot at the helicopter, dodging its attacks and destroying its missiles until it's scrapped. Simple as. It's more of a tanked up enemy than an actual boss encounter, but once that's done, we extract the hostages, and then do a 180 and head right back into the facility. We then get in by jury-rigging a new door for the place, and we make our way deeper into the facility, taking out the militia doormen, and clearing out the central mixing chamber in our first real Predator section. And once the enemies are all down, we can then face Scarecrow, who smugly surrenders to Batman, and Batman gives him a little clout in the air as punishment. Scarecrow then threatens to kill Barbara if we don't let him go. Seems he got her docs from someone. Scarecrow then seals us in the mixing chamber while we are on video call with Barbara, trapping us in this imploding building. Barbara then gets abducted off screen, but there's no time. We gotta stop this fear toxin bomb of a building from blowing up, and we do that by slowly pulling out and transferring the gas tanks to reduce the imminent explosion. This forced carefulness working really well to raise the tension and feeling of impending doom by fart gas, as Alfred desperately pleads with Batman to leave the plant. And as we move the final canister, we turn around and are greeted by the Jinkler, who then shoots Batman in the head, cutting to black. We then cut to a flashback of Commissioner Gordon arriving at Panessa Studios, one of Batman's hideouts. We even get to take control of Jim, who enters and makes it to the Bat holding cells in the studios. There's 5 of these cells, 4 of which are inhabited by some Joker cosplayers, Joker seemingly having taken control of their minds and bodies, as all the prisoners but Henry were compelled to dye their hair green and to wear crusty white makeup. Batman jump scare. Batman then tells Jim about Joker's Arkham City blood donation, where he sent out his Titan-tainted Joker blood to Gotham hospitals as a means to motivate Batman to find a cure. Jim thought that the GCPD had intercepted all of the Joker blood, but it seems that a few cases slipped through the cracks, thanks to some medical errors, and those who got infected got locked up here. But one victim, Henry Adams, is seemingly immune to the Joker blood, as he hasn't been compelled to dye his hair green and to don Joker makeup, and Batman hopes Henry could be the key to finding a cure. Batman then reveals why the last cell is empty, as it's actually for him, the real patient zero for Joker AIDS. We then wake back up in the Ace plant, Joker waking us up with his sultry Mark Hamill voice. You're looking as meaty as ever, Jinkler. Exposure to the fear toxin has caused Joker to manifest within Batman, who now actively hallucinates him, seeing and hearing him as if he was a real person standing there. And this new fear toxin brings out the darkest and most violent version of yourself, as seen in the diner when all the patrons went apeshit berserker rage mode on each other. And the darkest and most violent version of Batman is the Joker himself. But Joker visions or no, we still gotta get out of here. So we use the Batmobile to help us escape and drive out as the place explodes around us. The crumbling physics look great. We then call up Alfred to report that we haven't died yet, and he tells us that the Arkham Knight and his militia have taken over all of Gotham. But then, the feed cuts to Joker's face, Batman hallucinating Joker in all forms. But we snap out of it and tell Jim that we're heading back to the GCPD. The Joker corruption is a pretty cool feature in this game, as Batman not only will see Joker all over the place, but things like statues and billboards will get Jokerified, and even the not Statue of Liberty in the center of Gotham will turn into the Joker during lightning strikes. And it's a really effective and seamless way to show how the Joker mind virus is taking over Batman completely. When we arrive back at the GCPD, we meet with Gordon in the garage, and we have to break the bad news to him that Barb got abducted. He still doesn't know about her whole Batgirl/Oracle side job, and he starts tweaking out a little, so we head on over to the Watchtower to look for clues. The imaginary Joker taunting us the entire time. We fight off some more attacking militia trucks along the way, and get a sit-rep from Alfred on the militia's presence in the island, which we can track from the main menu. It's a handy tool to keep track of how many militia tasks there are left on each island. And when we arrive at the clock tower, we clear out the militian thugs guarding the front door, and head inside. And when we drop in, we find ourselves in Barb's old apartment. Oh shit, we're in a flashback, aren't we? And it's a rendition of Joker's classic killing joke attack on Barbara, where he knocks on her door and shoots her spine in half, paralyzing her. Joker then exits the room, and when we turn around, the door gets replaced by this message, a reflection of Batman's fear of harm coming to his friends, and his guilt for Barbara's crippling injury from Joker. We then turn around again and find ourselves back in the normal clock tower, and the Joker's here, telling the Batman he's got to reveal Barb's secret as Oracle soon. Jim then arrives, and we activate the sweet hologram computer setup she has, revealing her secret as Oracle. Jim then gets pissed about being lied to for years, and punches Batman in a rage, and storms out of the Watchtower. Yeah, he's fucked. He's gonna get captured real soon. But anyway, breakup aside, we still need to find Barbara. So we check the watchtower cameras to see where she may have gone. From the cams, we find out that the Arkham Knight had abducted Barb personally, and we even learned the car she was taking it, so we can follow its tracks straight to her. Thank God for the Bat surveillance state. We can follow the tracks using the Bat scanner on the Batmobile, and along the way, Batman calls up Alfred to ask him to search the Arkham City database to find any possible candidates as to who the Arkham Knight really is. Someone who has advanced combat training, a war chest of resources at his disposal, and a seething hatred of Batman. But for now, there are no clear candidates as to who this could possibly be. But as we follow Barb's trail, it leads to a currently raised bridge, so we have to manually lower that shit to continue our search. So we head on over to Grand Avenue Station. At the station, we clear it out from the militia goons and use the oversized laptop to regain access to the bridge controls. We are then forced to start the Riddler and Catwoman side quest I discussed earlier. It's pretty good shit. More like Catwoman. But with that out of the way, we can resume our search for Barb, and we make our grand entrance onto Miyagani Island, humiliating the tanks guarding the bridge. We then follow the tracks until we find a crashed Humvee, but it's empty. So we pop open detective mode and do some actual detective work to figure out what happened during the crash, doing an Origins-esque holographic scene recreation. And from our investigation, we learned that Barb had managed to cause the car wreck and crawled out before the crash. But the Arkham Knight had survived the crash too, and re-abducted her. But before she got taken again, Barb had left a hidden scrambler device that we could use to find her location. So we send the data to Lucius for him to decipher. And after getting introduced to some more side quests, we head on over to meet Lucius at Wayne Tower. He gives us access to the militia's network, which we can use to track the Arkham Knight. He also gives us the Disruptor gun, which like previous games, can disable guns and other weapons. Using Lucius's PC, we track the Arkham Knight to the Miyagani tunnels, and head down there to find him. Robin then calls up Batman to ask where Barbara is, as she's gone suspiciously quiet. And Batman again tells Tim to fuck off and not worry about it. Classic Arkham Bruce. And inside the tunnels, the militia are amassing troops and drones down here, so we gotta sneak past all of them. But as we progress, we get ambushed by the Arkham Knight himself, who pins down Bruce and gives him a precise shot right in his underboob, the armor's weakest point. The Arkham Knight then gloats and slowly walks away as Batman hits that stim pack to heal himself, letting his militia goons mop us up, leaving it to the thugs. Now that's just disrespectful to Batman's game. So we get up and whoop some militia ass, and once they're beat up, we can use the Batmobile to scrap all the drones down here in the tunnel and escape. And when we leave, we catch up with the Arkham Knight's APC escaping and pursue him. And once we chase him down and blast him off the road, we find that the driver was not the Arkham Knight, and we have been duped by a voice modulator. So we take it for ourselves and interrogate the militia thug, using the Batmobile's wheel to crush his head to get him to talk, which is pretty brutal even for Batman. But we don't have time to fuck around, and the wheel turns out to be very persuasive. And the militiaman tells us that the Arkham Knight had went to go meet Penguin, as Penguin had provided safe houses and arms for their Gotham takeover. So he's off to go pay him at one of his fronts, North Refrigeration. So we give Alfred the info on Penguin, and he tells us that Nightwing is coming to meet us with info on North Refrigeration, and we meet him on a nearby rooftop. Nightwing tells us that we can follow Penguin trucks to find his weapons caches, and all the while Batman is trying to get Nightwing to fuck off back to Bloodhaven multiple times. Classic Bruce. We can use the Disruptor to track the truck, and then knock on its door to send the Penguino boys running back to their base, and we can just follow them from the air. And once at their hideout, we clear out the thugs outside, and then enter and chokeslam Penguin into a pile of money, asking for Barb's location. And after a bit of choking and a counter or two, Penguin reveals that Scarecrow had went to go meet with Simon Stagg, a pharmaceutical CEO who operates those huge zeppelins floating over the city. But Penguin's goons hold Batman down and Penguin escapes. But not to worry. Nightwing makes his entry, and we team up to whoop the remaining thugs' asses. And these duo battles are just so dynamic and fun. Swapping between the two heroes is seamless, and it's always great to play as someone else besides Batman in an Arkham game. We then blow his weapons to smithereens, and this also opens up the rest of the Penguin questline, which is just this mission, but repeated like 4 more times. And once we're back outside, we head on over to the Stag airships and pick up the cryptographic sequencer along the way, which has been renamed to the remote hacking device. And once that's acquired, we can gain access to the airships. The airships have a cool dichotomy of Art Deco/Gothic designs and futuristic labs, and the level also has a gimmick of using the hacking device to physically tilt the airship to slide objects and to solve puzzles. And it's simple, but a really cool usage of the game's physics, and I love the little leans Batman does to keep his balance. Dude's hitting those Zeppeli poses. And as we progress, we find Simon Stagg himself getting held hostage by the militia goons, and we free him from his bondage from a sizable thug squad. And once we save him, he tells us that the militia had shot the place up for no reason, and that Scarecrow is on the other airship. But Stagg then turns into the Joker, taunting us further about losing Barbara. And then, all the knocked out militiamen start standing back up. Oh fuck, Bartman is tweaking out again. Bad timing to have another Joker attack. They then turn into a group of laughing jokers, who eventually overpower Batman, and while Batman was tweaking out on the ground, the militia swoop in and take Stagg away to the other airship. And to get to the other ship, we need to replicate Simon Stagg's biometrics to activate a console. But first, we have to head to the back of the ship to disable the other ship's weapon systems, so we can actually get onto it. And once we clear out the back of the airship, we use the console and disable the weapons. But we need Simon Stagg's fingerprints to use it, so cue a segment where we scan some fingerprints to recreate Stagg's hand, and we're golden. And as we head to the next ship, we call up Alfred to see if he's made any progress on figuring out the Arkham Knight's identity. But he still has no clue. No Arkham City inmates match the Knight's description, but Batman tells him to keep digging. But in the meantime, we return and get the ship doors open, so we can actually continue chasing after Scarecrow. Along the way, we find some consoles and voice logs belonging to Stagg, where he reveals that he's been secretly working with Scarecrow to develop something called the Cloudburst. It had even helped work on developing the new fear toxin, as Stagg wanted to weaponize and sell the fear toxin as a weapon of war. Classic mustache-twirling evil CEO shit. And we report all this to Alfred. But it seems that Stagg went back on his deal with Scarecrow, and now Scarecrow is here to punish Stagg and to finish the Cloudburst. We find Stagg in the central chamber of the other airship, militia goons chucking him into a cell for double-crossing Scarecrow. We clear out the room and deal with the big minigunner enemy I talked about earlier. And once they're down, we confront Stagg again. But before he can reveal what the Cloudburst actually is, fear toxin fills his cell, and he starts geeking hard. So we give him a little nappy poo to calm him down. And we then enter the Cloudburst chamber and find 2 Scarecrows working at the consoles, and we have to pick one. But I accidentally pick the Zonk and get Scare Joker, and Scarecrow gives me a nice puff of geek gas to knock me out. And as we're convulsing on the ground, Scarecrow goads and threatens us, revealing the crux of his plan. He wants to not only ruin Batman's mind with fear toxin, but when he's broken by the fear, Scarecrow will unmask him to the world, revealing that Batman is just man at the end of the day, and he will make all of Gotham despair, destroying their hope for good. But as he's screaming, Batman then gets back up, his eyes going green as the Joker persona starts taking over thanks to the fear toxin. Joker complimenting Bruce's strong body, and beats up some thugs for fun. We then have Scarecrow all to ourselves, and several Joker apparitions appear to try to goad Bruce into killing Scarecrow here and now, producing a gun out of thin air. And we even pull the trigger, but then we snap back to reality. Whew, almost gave in to the Joker voices. But that also means Scarecrow is just fine. He then blows up the airship walls, detaching the Cloudburst, and escapes with it. We then get a call from Alfred, and then cut to Scarecrow's ongoing broadcast, where we see Barb held captive back in the Chinatown penthouse, so we rush back over there to save her. When we get there, we see her wake up in her cell, but she gets a fat dose of fear toxin, and in her fear, takes the gun off the table in the cell and tries to shoot Batman, only to turn the gun on herself, with Joker censoring the scene for us. Thanks, Joker. Barb is now seemingly dead, but with fear toxin, it's hard to tell what's real and what's fake. And something tells me she isn't gone for good. But for now, Barb is past tense for all we know, and we get a pretty great performance from Kevin Conroy here. We haven't seen Batman this hurt and defeated in the entire series, and he just absolutely nails the despair and rage he must be feeling.
I should have protected her, Alfred. She's dead because of me.
But as we're mourning, Alfred tells us that the Cloudburst is a machine that will disperse fear toxin all over Gotham, and we need to stop Scarecrow before he activates it. Joker tries to offset Alfred's level-headed wisdom by trying to convince Batman to let himself take over. But then Batman gets an idea while Joker is yapping. He needs to recruit Ivy to destroy the fear toxin. As if you recall, she has an immunity to it. So we head back over to the GCPD to collect her. She sees that we're desperate, but Scarecrow releasing the fear toxin would also kill all the plants in Gotham City. So she folds immediately. Ivy tells us that she made a spore that nullifies the fear toxin, but she can't produce enough of it by herself. So we need to take her to the botanical gardens, so we can go ask the plants on where to find help dispersing the spores. Just normal things you do in Gotham City. But before we go, we get a tutorial on how to take down the stealth-focused Cobra tanks, and once that's done, we can head to the gardens. And once there, we find an ancient tree of great power, but the tree can't eat all that toxin alone, and we need to find the source of its root system to revive it to full power. So we give Ivy a bat phone, and she enters the tree to grow it into a huge sucking plant. Good thing Gotham has this massive tree that's older than humanity itself in it. Very, very lucky. Screw you, Joker. To find the roots, we need a sonar component for the Batmobile. So we head on back to Wayne Tower, fend off some drones, and get the sonar installed. We make the Batmobile fart, and it reveals the root tendrils that we can follow to the source on the map, which isn't too far. And once at the center, we let the Batmobile rip ass again, and the plant bursts up out of the ground. We then gotta beat up some militia goons who try to blow up the plants. And once we've done all of that, we're all good to go with our toxin-sucking plants. Next, we head back to Panessa Studios and try to locate where the cloudburst is. We see that Founders Island hasn't been scanned yet, thanks to the militia's missile defense systems preventing the Batwing from flying over the island. So we need to head there and disable the system ourselves. Robin again asks about Barbara and if she's okay, but Bruce lies again and tells him she's fine, and tells him to fuck back off and to finish his Joker cure homework, and we head back out. We then head over to Founders Island and land on the control drone, swiping his relay chip that we can use with the hacking device to disable the drones. We then destroy 2 radar towers to knock out their targeting systems, and destroy the missile launcher itself to open up the island to the Batwing and Batmobile. And as we're taking out the missile launcher itself, the Arkham Knight shows up to confront us again, who we ambush with a fierce strike on his bumbling gang of goons. But he escapes into a red cloud, again, and we're left to clean up his men. Once they're dusted, we again ask Alfred if he has a lead on the Arkham Knight, but he's still got jack shit on him. The dude is just a ghost. We then use the Batmobile to destroy the missile launcher and can finally search for the cloudburst in earnest. So we head back to the watchtower to run a scan to find the thing. But as we're searching, Henry from the studios calls us up, saying that the studio was attacked by Harley Quinn, fucking broad, not again. Harley's here to free all the Joker AIDS victims, so we gotta haul ass back there ASAP. We beat up Harley Quinn's revenge-themed goons, but we can't get inside the studios, as Harley changed the voice locks on the door. So we gotta use a new gadget, the voice synthesizer, to open it up. It's one of the brand new gadgets that lets you directly move and command thugs around, letting you isolate them into easier takedowns, or to bait them into walking into traps. We then use it to clear out a trio of thugs guarding the door, and we go in to stop Clown Tits. We find Robin fighting off some Harley goons, and we join in to help Tim out. And once they're dusted, we realize that all the Joker AIDS victims besides Henry have been released from their cells and are now loose in the studio. So we have to go round up all these rascals. We can get Christina back after a tag team Predator section where you can play as either Batman or Robin, and you can call in takedowns for the other to perform. We then clock her ass out, and that's the first jonk secured. But on our way to the second jonk, we see something strange. A vision of Jason Todd, the second Robin, strapped to a chair with a bag over his head. We try to rescue him, but then we see a dark vision of the Joker taunting him. Joker revealing that Jason has been held hostage and tortured for 6 months, with Batman never coming to rescue him. Joker torments Jason further by showing him a picture of Batman with a new Robin, Tim Drake, which ruins his hope that he will be saved, and makes him believe that Batman has replaced him. Joker then beats him with a crowbar, so that's nice, and the vision ends. I wonder why the game is showing me this dark and ominous vision out of nowhere. But we can't worry about that now, as next we gotta take down Johnny Charisma, who we can get to by figuring out what code he punched into the keypad, by checking what he pressed in the mirror, which is a really cool little visual puzzle. And once we have the code, we do this cool sequence where we have to sneak around as Robin from the perspective of the spinning stage that Charisma is on, defusing bombs while avoiding Johnny Kerr's always rotating line of sight. And if you get spotted, room go boom. And it's a well-executed segment that I really enjoy. And once the bombs are defused, we can sneak up on and take down Charisma, giving him a nice smooch to put him to sleep. And all that's left is Albert King. And along the way to him, we see another Jason hallucination. This time he's strung up. Joker taunts him for being abandoned by Batman, and then brands his face with a hot iron for fun. Classy guy. We then take on Albert King, another quote-unquote boss fight. But in practice, he's just a large goon enemy type with some boxing punches. And the best way to beat him is to build up your dual team takedown meter by beating up on the fodder Harley goons, and then using it on Albert, and beating him up with a quick time event beatdown with Robin. And soon enough, Big Al is TKO. And after he's knocked out, Henry calls us up to tell us that Harley is trying to break into the holding cells room, so we head back to help him out. And on the way, we run into Harley herself, and Robin baits her out in the open by spitting some facts.
Nah, he figured I could handle you by myself. He doesn't take you very seriously. Neither do I.
And we pop out of our grate to one-shot her. We then pick Harley up and haul her yacht back to the cells. But when we return, we find out that all the Joker AIDS victims have been killed. And Henry reveals that he was in fact not immune to the Joker blood, just waiting it out for months for the perfect moment to strike, which I gotta admit, is a very Joker thing to do. Bravo. He then callously executes Albert, but just before Henry tries to shoot Batman, he sees how poisoned he is by the Joker blood, being the Joker AIDS patient zero and all, and, in complete awe of how brutally he just got Joker mogged, Henry kills himself instead. Henry's reveal isn't completely unexpected, and it's a pretty brutal reveal that forces Batman to reveal his Joker corruption to Robin, who then forces Bruce to get into a Joker cell for his own safety. And you can enter the cell, where Bruce takes off his cowl, revealing his powerful Neanderthal DNA. Robin then runs off to take out the militia who arrived off screen, and we then get another Jason hallucination, Joker filming him confessing his hatred for Batman. But just before Jason reveals Batman's identity, Joker shoots Jason, leaving him seemingly dead. And once the hallucination ends, we snap back in time to right before we enter the cell. But this time, we can counter Robin to throw him in the cell instead, to keep him away from Batman, who could go Joker beast mode at any moment. We then leave the studios, but we still need to find the Cloudburst, but there's still no trace of it. There is, however, some seismic activity going on Miyagani Island, so we go to check it out. And we find it's just Ivy blowing up the ground with huge plants, fighting off the militia drones. So we join in, and we scrap a cool 24 drones. We then take down some Cobra tanks in a Batmobile stealth section, and then move to collect Ivy. But as we're talking to her, Alfred calls us up to let us know that he's found the Cloudburst, which is strapped to a tank piloted by the Arkham Knight. But then, the Cloudburst bursts, and Gotham is then covered by a massive fear toxin cloud, covering the city in thick, murky, dark brown clouds. Our worst nightmares have come true. But those cloud graphics look sweet. Ivy then gets back in her magic tree to start sucking up the massive toxic cloud, and we move to find Stag, who is the only person who knows how to stop the Cloudburst. So we fly back over to his airships and take out the militia guarding it. Stag isn't in his cell anymore, so we have to find him, and we follow his fingerprints to find him hiding under a grate like a rat. Stag tells us that the Cloudburst has something called a Nimbus field protecting it, and we need to take a Nimbus cell to let us get past said field. And once we have the cell, it's time to hop into the city-sized fear toxin hotbox and replace the power core with the Nimbus cell, the game forcing us to pull it out as slowly as possible to raise the tension to its absolute peak. And all the nearby rioters turn into Joker clones too. The Joker raids is really beating our ass now. But we thug that shit out and install the cell regardless, and we hop back into the Batmobile, where we get jump scared by Joker. But Batman just mews to calm himself down, and we ignore his deranged taunting. We finally have the Batmobile back, but the fear toxin is still too thick to track the Cloudburst. But luckily for us, Ivy tells us that there is yet another magic tree buried under Gotham called Ayana, that we can wake up like the last one to suck up even more toxin. Whew, I'm glad Gotham is full of ancient magical trees. We then track the roots just like last time, but the sonar can't fart loud enough to break it out of the ground. So we head down into the subway to gain access to it after taking down yet another drone squad. Down in the subway, we gotta sneak past some tanks and drive the Batmobile onto the ceiling to get past several gates. And I love the Mario Kart shenanigans we get up to in the Batmobile. We eventually make it to the Magic Tree Cavern and use the sonar to fart that thing to life, and it explodes up out of the ground and lifts us back onto the surface. And we are protected from a squad of 40 drones. And once we scrap those drones, the Arkham Knight calls us up again, telling us to meet him at Bleak Island for a duel, one-on-one. No balls. Final destination. No items. And this starts the Cloudburst fight, where we have to take out the Cloudburst alongside its entourage of Cobra tanks. I take out the Cobra tanks first to isolate the Cloudburst, and then take on the Cloudburst itself, which is like the Cobra tank, just with 3 weak points to hit instead of 1. And this first phase is just like fighting a Cobra. Hit the weak spot, retreat and hide from the Cloudburst counterattack, and hit it again, and repeat until all its weak points are destroyed. And once that's done, you can just light up the Cloudburst's glowing weak point, and soon enough, it'll be completely toast. It's an okay fight, and it has you both sneaking and assaulting the Cloudburst tank head-on to get the full spectrum of vehicle combat here. But overall, it's really nothing special, and it's a complete sitting duck once you expose its girthy weak point. The Arkham Knight then crawls out of the tank, and we grab him and pull him up onto a rooftop, and we struggle with him for a bit, beating him down until his head turns into the Joker's head, who just starts ruffling. The Arkham Knight is nowhere to be found, so where the hell did he go? Maybe Bats just started tweaking during the beatdown, and he just got up and left. But when the Cloudburst's gone, Ivy can finally suck up the rest of the fear toxin, and we return to her tree, and we find her all veiny, rotten, and fucked up. That fear toxin buffet really did a number on her. But as she dies, she empowers the gray tree before disintegrating into pollen dust, with the dispersed dust purifying Gotham's air, leaving wispy seeds raining down from the sky, sending her off with a pretty beautiful moment. Although the whole toxic-eating magic tree MacGuffins were a bit too contrived for my liking, Ivy's death and sacrifice to cleanse Gotham was still a pretty great moment, giving her a heroic send-off and redeeming her character that was introduced all the way back in Asylum. But now that the fear toxin is gone, we can now try and find Scarecrow for real. And the GCPD has a lead from an odd SWAT signal that got sent out, so we head on over there to learn more. At the GCPD, we hear the signal, and we learn that it's Jim Gordon, who says that he found Scarecrow, and is going to try to pop a cap in his ass in revenge for Barb's death. We track his signal and find him on Founders Island, being taken to the top of a large skyscraper. Scarecrow then shuts down the elevators after taking Gordon up, and we have to go underground and take the long way to reach him, driving through large excavated tunnels, and even using a huge drill to move up and down the shafts. We then proceed into a large grid of tunnels, where out of nowhere a massive digger bursts out of the ground and chases us, driven by the Arkham Knight, here to grind us into a fine red paste. We then start another car battle with the Arkham Knight, and this fight is even easier than the Cloudburst, as all you have to do is just drive around the tunnel grid, bait the Knight, and have him chase you along the longer tunnels until the driller runs into explosive charges, damaging it. It's not even a fight really, as all you have to do is just drive forward to beat him, but I found it fun as a sort of racing minigame. Barreling through these tunnels was a pretty good time, and watching the Knight bitch and moan while blowing himself up 3 times without ever changing his tactics was pretty funny to watch. But once we blow him up the gaming golden ratio of 3 times, we can finally leave the tunnels. But before we leave, the driller comes back, cornering us. The Arkham Knight then flies into an unhinged rant about Batman again, and reveals that he was the one who docks Barb to Scarecrow, revealing his extremely close ties to Batman. And if you've been paying attention to this game at all, you can probably guess who the Arkham Knight is. But not now, as we have to eject up into the vent above us, and we can only watch as the Knight destroys the Batmobile with the driller. No, my car! We got too careless, and are now carless. But at least we quickly find Jim, and we free him from his militia captors. And as we free him, the Arkham Knight ambushes us for like the 5th time now, is it? But there's no more hiding the truth. And the Arkham Knight lifts his helmet to finally reveal himself. Who's it gonna be? Someone from the asylum? Officer Balls Jr. out for revenge? Hugo Strange back from the dead? Fucking Bird? Or maybe it's Jason Todd from the hallucinations, isn't it? Ah, so that's what those out-of-context flashbacks in the studio were for. Yup, the Arkham Knight was Jason Todd the whole time. And if you're like me, a casual at best Batman fan, the first time you played this game and got to this reveal, your reaction was probably something like, oh, I guess that makes sense. For some context, Jason Todd is a pretty well-known character from the mainline Batman comics, being the second Robin after Dick Grayson. And like other comic characters like, say, Gwen Stacy, is famous for dying, this time in the A Death in the Family story arc from the 1980s, and for later getting resurrected and becoming the Batman with guns type vigilante the Red Hood. Now, on its own, Jason being the Arkham Knight is a fine plot point and reveal, and it's a unique spin on his story from the comics, as instead of getting baited and overextending himself, and ultimately getting blown up by the Joker, Jason was instead abducted and tortured in an abandoned wing of Arkham Asylum for 6 months by the Joker, this being the reason behind the Arkham part in his villain name, which is a flimsy at best connection, but they had to call the game Arkham something, somehow. But he eventually escaped and began his vengeance quest to murder Batman for abandoning him, building up an entire advanced army to ensure he'd kill him. But in the context of the Arkham storyline, and what we've seen in the games, this reveal falls completely flat, as we had no idea Jason was even a part of this story until the Panessa Studios hallucinations. No, wait, actually, my bad. When playing Arkham City challenge maps as Robin, Joker has a chance to make a short quip about how he already killed a Robin, so technically, there is one singular Jason Todd reference before this game, but it's an obscure throwaway line in a challenge map that maybe 1 in 10 players probably played. So when the reveal finally comes, players who aren't familiar with the comic version of Jason, and are only familiar with the overarching story of the Arkham games, won't really have context for this reveal outside of the hallucinations in the studios, leaving them pretty underwhelmed, like I was when I first played this game. It could have been made much better if we actually met and interacted with Jason at least once before Arkham Knight. Say he was Robin during Asylum, and we would see him or call him on the radio to recognize his existence. But then in City, Robin is now Tim Drake, and maybe him or Batman can make a reference to Jason's death, or something. Just anything to establish him in the Arkhamverse before making him the title protagonist of the last game in the series. But instead, Arkhamverse only players will have no idea who Jason is, so they had to shove in some out-of-context flashback scenes in the middle of the Panessa Studios level to establish his origin and his murderous hatred of Batman. And it's just super clunky, and feels like they're rushing to get us up to speed, making it feel totally inorganic. But regardless, Jason is pissed that Batman never came to rescue him, blaming him for his torture at the hands of the Joker. But Batman says it's all a misunderstanding, and he had thought that Jason died from the footage where Joker shoots him. And I think the guy would be dead too. He's completely motionless after getting shot right in the chest. And Jason had never confronted Bruce about abandoning him up until this point, electing to rather go hide out in the South American wilderness to build up a revenge army to kill Batman. But regardless, Jason is dead serious about murking Batman, and he rips off his helmet's bat ears to reveal his new Red Hood-style digital cowl, and he gets up on a vantage point to try and snipe Batman. We then have to sneak up on him and take him down 4 times to defeat him, this being a sort of Predator boss stage, and probably the toughest Predator section in the entire game, as you have to not only avoid Jason's line of sight, but you also have to deal with militia trackers, drone operators, and camoed militia guys in this fairly tiny space, which gets bigger and adds more enemies with each Jason takedown, and it's very challenging, as you need to be constantly on the move and using your gadgets to their full effect to succeed. But with enough trial and error and a lot of takedowns, we disarm Jason, and Batman tries to remind him who Jason truly is, apologizing for leaving him to his fate, and extends his hand to try to make things right again. but Jason refuses. And as we call up Alfred to report that we found him, Jason pulls a Batman and vanishes while we're looking away. It seems that he no longer wants to kill Batman at least, and we finally free Gordon, who's been watching all this unfold from his hostage chair. We then move to take the elevator, but Jim gets clocked in the face by militia goons who come out of it. This poor guy can't catch a damn break. But after they're defeated, Jim and Bruce have a nice heart-to-heart on the elevator. Finger's voice acting is just absolutely sublime here.
I was thinking I may never get a chance to tell you this, to say sorry. You don't need to.
And we finally confront Scarecrow at the top of the skyscraper. But Scarecrow has one last trick up his sleeve, and he gets Jim to turn his gun on Batman, as Scarecrow reveals that Barb is still alive. That's fortunate. It's a bit of a cop-out, but I'm glad to see her alive instead of dead, I suppose. Scarecrow reveals that he kept Barb alive to manipulate Gordon through the fear of him killing her. So Gordon shoots Batman, who takes the hit and falls off the side of the building, surely falling to his death. So no need to check where he fell to. But this isn't enough for Scarecrow, who then pushes Barb off the building to punish Gordon some more. And as she falls, Batman swoops in to save her, obviously. One pistol bullet is nowhere near enough to take down the barman. Dude is literally in a bulletproof supersuit, and my ballistic armor is maxed out. And Batman had even survived a much deadlier precision gut shot from the Knight earlier. Scarecrow was dumb as rocks for not peeking over the edge to make sure Batman splatted on the ground below. And he got a little too excited pushing Barb off the edge to double check. Also, Batman takes this like 50-story fall like a champ and bounces off the concrete like it's nothing. Ouch. Batman then reveals that Gordon had shot him right in the bat symbol, the suit's strongest point. A nice little callback to the Arkham Knight suit rundown from the beginning of the game. We then get pinned down by several drones, but not to worry, as Lucius used the Bat credit card and bought us a fresh new silvery Batmobile to scrap these toys with. And once they're junked, we take Barb back to the GCPD to figure out how to get old Jimbo back. On her computer, we see the militia ransacking the Watchtower's servers, so we go head out to tell them to knock it off. Once we persuade them to leave our shit alone, we restore the server connections and head back to GCPD to talk to Barb. And as we're talking, the GCPD building starts shaking and rumbling, with Scarecrow calling us up to tell us he's gathered his shooters to come spin the block on all the cops in the city, sending a massive detachment of drones and men to bombard the GCPD building, and they even assault the garage lockup. We sneak out of the building and see the drones are absolutely lighting the place up, and I'm kind of surprised it took them this long to assault the GCPD head on. We then run back inside while getting attacked by a hail of bullets, and we use the remote electrical charge to power up the backup generators, letting us get the Batmobile out of the building to wipe out the drones. And it's probably the biggest drone battle in the entire game, having you blow up 60 of these damn things. But at least we got some backup from Oracle, who could hack drones for us and activate EMPs. But her voice acting is weirdly awful in this segment. She sounds like she really doesn't give a shit for some reason. There's a 1v60 tank battle going on, and we're fighting a war to save her father and to get revenge on the militia for kidnapping her. And she has about as much enthusiasm for this situation as Markieff Morris does in NBA 2K16.
Kidnap me, kidnap my dad, you'll pay. EMP primed, shoot. Tank hacked.
Yo, what's going on tonight? I'm running free all over the court and you didn't give me the ball.
And it kind of takes you out of the experience a bit. But awkward voice acting aside, we make a junk pile out of these drones in our silvery Batmobile after a pretty tough fight. And we take out even more militia goons who drop in on the roof. You gotta watch out for these blade-wielding big boys. And once they're down, we have successfully fended off the militia's assault, and we call up Barb for a sit rep. She tells us that Jim had used his biometrics to get into Panessa Studios, so he and Scarecrow must be there. So we head on over. But when we arrive, we find that Robin has been taken by Scarecrow, and Oracle calls us up to yell at us for locking away Robin, and tells us we have to go get him back. Fair enough. That was my bad. But the only way to do so is to turn ourselves into Scarecrow, which locks you into the endgame final mission until you complete it. When you do decide to tune yourself in, we hand over our tool belt and hop into the back of this van, which takes us to an undisclosed location. But not too long after, another vehicle slams into the van, which causes us to crash into an alley. None other than Crime Alley. The alley where Bruce Wayne's parents, you already know. An Arkham game isn't a real Arkham game until we get the Wayne parents' death reminder, and as we brood over them, a horde of Jokers show up to attack us, trying to take over Batman's mind. We fight them, but we use some Joker takedowns, a much more brutal version of the takedowns, showing that Joker's sadism is starting to take over. And soon, we grab a Joker by the head and snap his neck, performing Batman's first real kill. A hallucinated kill in our fear toxin-induced mind prison, but a kill nonetheless, which means Joker can finally take over, as Bruce has finally broke his no-kill rule. Well, at least cerebrally. We then cut to a truck driving towards Arkham Asylum, coming full circle from the opening moments of the first game, and Scarecrow wheels us in on the patient gurney that we rolled Joker in on in Asylum, and Scarecrow has the whole media's attention, planning to unmask Batman live on TV. Scarecrow forces Gordon to unmask Batman, shooting poor Robin to convince him. And then Gordon does as he's told, and reveals Bruce Wayne's identity to the whole world. Scarecrow then injects Bruce with 5 vials worth of concentrated fear toxin, hoping to make him scream and cry like a widow baby bitch on live TV, sending him right into a nightmare where the Penguin, Two-Face, Riddler, and Killer Croc are holding the Joker hostage. The Joker then calls in the Batmobile, which blasts through the wall behind him, crushing and killing Killer Croc. Joker then hops into his Joker-mobile under a hail of bullets, and we get to shoot all the attacking thugs. And it's a total massacre. And I love this whole sequence for the amount of tonal whiplash it delivers. And we're finally letting Joker take over and go apeshit, mowing down dozens of thugs before hopping out with a shotgun, where we can then chase after and execute the remaining villains. And it's a darkly cathartic moment to pump these dickheads full of lead after all the problems and chicanery they caused in the previous games. And it's pretty awesome that we can even do this at all. It's pretty brutal. We then leave the building and find Gotham on fire in the Hell Dimension, but we then come back to Joker on the gurney instead of Batman. But Scarecrow doesn't realize Bruce has a case of the Joker AIDS, and injects him again to try to cripple him with even more fear. We then cut back to the burning Gotham, but then the screen goes dark, and then we activate our flashlight to find ourselves in first person, in a tomb of some kind. We see the Joker get incinerated, and we move on to find Joker's grave, but Joker isn't pleased with it. The grave is crumbling and overgrown, and is too small for Joker's liking, making him angry at the idea of being forgotten. But we continue on, and get spooked by a Batman statue that appears behind us, but that's not that scary. We then come across a wake for Joker, with Harley sobbing near the altar, and no one else in attendance. Nobody came to the wake, and Harley is unresponsive to us, and we move on through a side hallway that appears. And on the table inside, we find a pretty funny headline: Joker dies. Gotham doesn't care. Whew, that's tough. We even see another newspaper headline of Harley cooking Joker with the Riddler. Now that's scary. We then exit to a stormy courtyard, where Batman statues spawn behind us, seemingly chasing the Joker, with more and more appearing, until Batman explodes out of one, and punches Joker into a wall, which we break through to find an ominous catwalk. And as we pull the exit switch, it reveals a huge hanging mind prison, and we then hear Batman's voice, telling Joker he's afraid of being forgotten. Batman now being the one to torture Joker from the inside. Batman then appears, grabs Joker, and says his classic line:
I am vengeance. I am the Knight. I am Batman.
So good. He then pummels Joker into a hanging cell and locks him inside. Batman says goodbye to Joker, while Joker desperately begs for him to stop, pushing him away into the dark confines of his mind, with Joker's last words being, I need you, as Batman finally turns his back on him for good. And I love this whole last section. It's really awesome to play from Joker's perspective, being hunted by Batman, and it's genuinely scary as you're just waiting for him to jump out and get you. And the first person perspective makes it even more tense. And the way Joker gets defeated for good is very fitting too, as I interpret it as not only Bruce turning his back on the Joker, but on Batman as well. As we all know, there's no Joker without Batman, and when Batman is gone, there will be no Joker to deal with. And I almost feel kind of bad for Joker as he pathetically pleads with Bruce as he gets locked away somewhere deep in his psyche, never to return. And with that, Batman has finally conquered his fears, and has accepted that his time as Batman is coming to an end. And the green evil light finally goes out from his eyes. Scarecrow tries to inject him again, but Batman just tanks that shit, and Red Hood appears to disarm Scarecrow and to free Batman, who then injects Scarecrow with his own toxin, absolutely smashing his mind to pieces with his own medicine. Scarecrow sees a hellish swarm of bats, before a ghostly demonic Batman appears before him, with Jim clocking him in the face to knock his ass out. My guy Jim finally got a dub, thank God. We help Robin up, and Batman thanks Jim for everything he's done to help him over these years. And we cut back to the GCPD, where we put a groveling and terrified Scarecrow into custody. We then call up Alfred, who we tell to activate the Nightfall Protocol, which is the actual true end of the game. But to get to the true Nightfall ending, you have to complete all the side objectives in Gotham, and that includes collecting every single Riddler trophy. Fuck. Guess I ain't seeing that ending. But essentially, Bruce destroys the bat signal and activates Nightfall. Wayne Manor explodes, and Bruce and Alfred are presumed dead. Jim then becomes the mayor of Gotham, Tim and Barbara get married, and in the true Nightfall ending, we see a rich family get mugged, much like what happened to Bruce and his parents. But as they're getting robbed, we see a Batman-like figure looking down on them. The muggers taunt him, saying that Batman is gone, but then the figure rises in a cloudy haze and explodes into a massive demon bat creature and charges at the muggers while they scream in pure terror. What do you mean by this? Is Bruce a ghost now? But with that, that's Arkham Knight and the story of the Arkham Saga complete. Overall, Arkham Knight is a fantastic Batman package. Simply put, it has the best and most robust combat, stealth, gadgets, world, movement, side quests, and he even has a whole Batmobile to drive and fight in, adding a whole new gameplay layer on top of the already fantastic pre-established game mechanics. Even if said Batmobile is fairly static and simple in its combat and mechanics for the entire game, the story isn't the series' best, and the absence of guys like Paul Dini from the writing team is very noticeable, and the narrative ranges from really solid to horribly contrived. Ivy using magical plants to suck up all the fear toxin was a bit too convenient, and the militia are a woefully underdeveloped faction, being the Arkham Knight's own private army with advanced drone technology, trained for one goal, to kill Batman, which they failed at. And that's about it. And once you've completed all their relevant side objectives, they completely vanish from Gotham, never to be seen again. Also, the reveal of the Arkham Knight as Jason Todd fell flat in the context of the Arkham series story, and as a result, it is incredibly unsatisfying. But it still has its moments. Mark Hamill is great as the devil-on-your-shoulder Joker, and since he's just a figment of our imagination, he can be extra silly and sadistic. Scarecrow's return makes him genuinely intimidating, and he has a pretty solid plan to destroy all of Gotham and to expose and break Batman for all to see. And the dude is going totally scorched earth, and he almost wins. And Batman has a lot of good moments we rarely see from him, like when he sees Barb die, but not really. And his apology to Jason really let Kevin Conroy flex his range as Batman, and gives the game's story some pretty solid emotional weight. And hear him give his I am vengeance speech had my shit on diamonds. But despite the underwhelming and fast and loose story, Arkham Knight is still no question still worth playing. It is the most advanced Arkham game, with by far the most stuff to do. As on top of the main and side quests, there's also a huge amount of DLC packs like the Season of Infamy, which adds 4 new quest lines with 4 added villains to take on in Gotham City, along with 6 character packs where you can play as Catwoman, Robin, Nightwing, Harley, Red Hood, and Batgirl for some extra night action, which, speaking of, now that all the mainline games are taken care of, you know what's next. It's time to rank the Arkham DLCs from worst to best real quick, starting with the worst expansion. Initiation is the worst of the notable expansions, being a collection of ninja-themed challenge maps where you play as Bruce Man instead of Batman, who is more vulnerable with limited gadgets. And you do a sequence of combat and predator sections, and it's all strung together by some short cutscenes where Bruce's master tries to get him killed over and over again with gun-toting ninjas. It's okay. It's just a challenge map pack. Nothing more, nothing less. And I tried to beat it, but an enemy got stuck in a wall, which made him completely invulnerable, and I couldn't restart the mission, as he was the last enemy. So it looks like Batman never passed his training. His enemies slipped into the back rooms and escaped. A pretty cool DLC that lets you explore the entire map as Catwoman, with new movement mechanics, gadgets, and a crate of Catwoman-specific Riddler trophies to find all across the map, alongside a handful of short story missions that flesh out Catwoman's side of the story. But these missions, and the actual amount of newly added Catwoman content, are extremely mid, and this DLC mostly exists to just give us a new playable character for some more gameplay variety.
My name is Victor Reznor, and I will have my revenge!
Arkham City's only sizable expansion sees us returning to Arkham as Robin, who was looking for Batman, who had gone missing trying to apprehend Harley Quinn after the death of Joker. It's pretty sweet to play as Boy Wonder here, being able to use his unique gadgets like his bullet shield and snap flash to take out goons in both combat and predator sections. And you also get to play as Batman as well after freeing him from the womb of this metal Joker monstrosity. It's a pretty solid extra hour to an hour and a half of fun and challenging combat and stealth, as both Batman and Robin, and getting to whoop Harley's ass is always welcome. It's solid stuff all around, and it's just more Arkham City to dig into.
Choose your character.
We've got the Arkham Knight character packs, which, by themselves, the packs are pretty weak, as some of them like the Harley and the Nightwing missions are hilariously brief, and can be fully completed in like under 8 minutes if you know what you're doing. But as a whole package, these story packs give you a lot to dig into. You get 6 unique playable characters, including series first ones like Red Hood and Batgirl, Red Hood's pack being a fun departure from the non-lethal Arkham combat, as he isn't afraid to gun down the thugs he comes across, and the only gadget he needs is the big iron. And Batgirl's story pack is a real standout, taking place on an abandoned theme park on a platform out in the ocean. And you can explore this extremely grim and detailed park, and learn its tragic backstory through some voice logs. Some pretty great stuff. Other packs see Catwoman breaking into Riddler's hideout to steal his money and to destroy his entire lab, Robin taking out Two-Face in his hideout, and Nightwing fucking with the Penguin for a few minutes. And combined, these packs will give you around 3 extra hours of combat and stealth, with 6 characters to play around with. And I really enjoyed this variety quite a bit. Just be sure to get it through the season pass though, which gives you all the Arkham Knight DLC for a flat $20. Don't buy them separately. It's just a waste of time and money.
'Tis the season to be jolly.
A side quest pack for Arkham Knight that adds 4 new quests to Gotham City, having you take on the most monstrous version of Killer Croc yet in a tag team boss battle with Old Tricky Dick. foiling the Mad Hatter's shenanigans by surviving a storybook combat gauntlet where a massive Jervis physically flips the pages to progress the level, having to resolve a civil war in the League of Assassins, and finding an extremely aged and fucked up Ra's al Ghul, having to make a hard choice on whether or not to revive him with Lazarus, despite his extreme age and extremely rotted brain from said Lazarus usage, or leaving him to wither away and die naturally, which really challenges Batman's no-kill rule in a nuanced way. And finally, a quest involving helping Mr. Freeze get his popsicle wife back from the militia, but she actually thaws out for the first time, and the quest ends with a pretty touching send-off to Mr. Freeze's Arkham story arc, where he and his dying wife decide to leave it all behind and to spend their last days together. And all the missions here provide some interesting scenarios or stories, and the Ra's and Mr. Freeze questlines in particular are actually really great and feel like proper send-offs to their Arkham storylines, and I enjoyed those quite a lot. It's an extremely solid package that's integrated pretty seamlessly into the open world as well. And finally, the best and the DLC god of the Arkham series. It's simply the best Arkham expansion, telling a pretty solid origin story for Mr. Freeze, who was screwed over by GothCorp CEO Ferris Boyle, who promised to cure his wife Nora's imminent death condition in exchange for Freeze's cryotechnology research, only to never fulfill his end of the bargain, which ended up creating the villain Mr. Freeze, who attacks Bruce Wayne's New Year's party to get revenge on Boyle. You get to fight and pray in Wayne Manor itself, both as Bruce Man and Batman, and later, you head to the GothCorp labs and even get this super sweet looking armored XE suit, which can thaw out frozen people and can even superheat batarangs to break ice with, and I just love how this suit looks. I'm a total sucker for armored bat suits, and this thing looks like bat power armor. It's sweet. And this expansion just simply gives you the most to see and do out of all of them, and it caps off with a fight against Mr. Freeze, which is like the city fight with him, only worse, as you have to drop icicles on him, which is pretty annoying to time just right. Or you can take him down through ice walls repeatedly, which is a bit easier, using the XE suit to smash up the ice Freeze creates, while also dealing with all the goons he summons into the room to back him up. But overall, it's just the meatiest expansion of the bunch with some pretty cool levels and a sweet new superheated suit to use, making it the best DLC of the bunch for me. But with all of that out of the way, let's actually get to the title of the video and rank the 4 mainline games to figure out which one is the true Arkham god of the franchise. Starting with number 4, Arkham Asylum. Owen Kung putting Arkham Asylum last? Is he insane? Well, despite the incredible atmosphere, level design, characters, and this game being responsible for the series' staple mechanics like free-flow combat, Predator stealth, detective mode, and so on, Asylum is just the most bare-bones game in the series, and I can't rank it anywhere else but here. It has the simplest combat and stealth, and it's the smallest and shortest Arkham game, and you could really beat this whole thing in just a handful of hours if you're familiar with it. The bosses are pretty weak overall, especially the final boss, which is hardly a boss fight. Just run around, beat up some goons, and pull down the Joker 3 times to win. And the story, despite having some incredible moments like the Scarecrow sections, and the whole underlying theme of the Asylum being just as mad as the criminals it houses, only making them more deranged and insane, it's still pretty unimpactful and straightforward in terms of the overarching plot and character arcs. But this game is still a fantastic package that feels lifted right out of a comic book, and set the bar very high for the series, and superhero games as a whole going forward. And it's just one of those games that had a massive impact on the industry as a whole. Games are still stealing the detective vision mechanic for themselves, even to this day. 8.5 out of 10. And in third place, we've got Arkham Origins. It's the odd one out in the franchise, being a semi-sequel to Arkham City, Batman Arkham 2.5, if that makes sense. The game did not make any significant leaps or innovations, and I found the map pretty drab and boring to explore, and the story doesn't have that killer tone and atmosphere that sucks you right into the world like the other games do. But I still found this to be a great Arkham experience with lots of dynamic and interesting levels, like the Gotham Royal Hotel after Joker took it over and dragged his clown nuts all over it, or the Gotham Bridge when it's getting attacked by Firefly was just so damn cool. And we even get to sneak in and whoop the police in their own house. And the bosses here are really exciting and interesting. Deathstroke and Bane really stand out in my mind, Bane especially, as his hotel fight is probably the only genuinely difficult boss in the entire Arkham series. And the Deathstroke fight is a great spectacle to button mash and rhythm through. And it almost feels like a fighting game in that moment. And the story is just alright. Batman and Joker's initial interactions are pretty interesting, and do well setting up the start of their whack-ass dynamic, but the rest of the story is mostly forgettable. Overall, Origins at the end of the day is just more Arkham City to me, and that's a very good thing. 8.7 out of 10. And in second place in the runner-up, we've got Arkham Knight. Arkham Knight is the second greatest Batman game ever made. Sure, it has the best combat, stealth, and controls, and it has the biggest, most detailed, and visually incredible map, and has by far the most side content. Some more bloated than others, granted, and of course can't forget about the car. But the story, however, is an incredibly mixed bag. On one hand, having great moments like Batman conquering his fear of Joker and defeating him for good within his own mind prison, juxtaposed with some not-so-great moments like the underwhelming and obvious Arkham Knight reveal, and the militia being an underdeveloped, faceless goon faction. And the Arkham Knight just unimpactfully ambushes us like 6 times to gas up his reveal. And it's pretty hard to avoid the flashing "I'm Jason Todd" sign that he's got strapped to his back. But despite the inconsistent and contrived story at times, along with some bloated game design like having to do all 50-something repetitive militia side objectives just to unlock a disappointing boss battle with Deathstroke, where he's stuck in a tank twiddling his thumbs for the entire battle. But despite all of that, this is still a really fantastic game with a thick amount of content to sink your teeth into, and provides an amazing Gotham sandbox to drive and fly around in. And I've never felt more empowered or actually felt like Batman more than in this game, and is ultimately a worthy send-off to this legendary series. 9 out of 10. And in first place in the best Arkham game, we've got Arkham City. Arkham City is just the perfect Arkham game, delivering a deep, interesting, and dark story that keeps you locked in for the entire runtime, and makes huge narrative moves like killing the damn Joker. And Batman himself is permanently altered by the game's story, obtaining the much-needed impact Asylum's story was lacking. The world isn't too huge, but it's meticulously detailed and dense with plenty of side objectives to do, and riddles to scan and find. And riddle hunting is at its best in this game, having the most consistent pacing and lots of interesting lore to collect that really helps in filling in those gaps that the story couldn't cover during the main quest line. And each level, boss, and encounter are interesting and well designed, and I don't think there's a single dud boss or unmemorable level, from the museum, to the steel mill, to the fascinating Wonder City. It's just a string of back-to-back bangers, and has some pretty great bosses like Freeze, Raish, and Clayface to sweeten the deal even more. City is the perfect Arkham package. It has almost no fat on its bones whatsoever. It is a clinic in masterful game design and atmosphere, and is my pick for the best Arkham game ever. 10 out of 10. But that's just my list, and thank you for making it all this way if you're still here. 3 hours and 27 minutes, god damn. Well, I hope you liked this video. Watch it while you're playing a game or something. That's what I would do. And I love you all. Goodbye.